ABC Sport.
On ABC Sport, this is the AFL.
Room to steady and finish.
It's close to the goal line and might have got there. Another one.
Sit back, relax, witness the greatest. It don't get better than this.
Rampy from 55 and right all the way home. Huge fend off and kicks the goal. The skipper off a step finishes.
Take a seat, 'cause it don't get better than this.
Right foot strike. He's got it. Oh, the home fans like that. Takes a bounce. Unguarded. Goal square. He's got it. Reed's going to go for goal. Oh, my goodness. That truly is remarkable.
This is the 2025 AFL Premiership season on ABC Sport.
Take a seat, 'cause it don't get better than this.
On radio, on digital, and on the ABC Listen app.
You take a seat, 'cause it don't get better than this.
The Kangaroo Kids look to lay claim for a scalp in round 4 of the AFL to mark their improvement as they host the Sydney Swans under the roof of Docklands. The Swans got on the winners list before the bye with a 3-point win over the Fremantle Dockers, but they lose Tom Papley. Another injury as the injury list continues to grow without captain Callum Mills, Taylor Adams, Errol Goulden, Harry Cunningham and Lewis Mellington. While the Kangaroos, they struggled to back up after their win over Melbourne a couple of weeks ago, going down to the Adelaide Crows by 36 points. The good news is that Tristan Sherry got through his injury concern during the week and will line up for the Kangaroos tonight. And we'll see another debutant with Matt Whitlock to make his debut for North Melbourne. So pick 27 in the 2024 draft, and he was presented his jumper by former Shinboner John Law, captain of the Kangaroos Footy Club. Matt Clinch with you for ABC Sport. Great to have your company wherever you're tuning in around the country. There was a bit of security concerns with Docklands here, whereas fans gathered. The gates traditionally open around 5:30. Around 6 o'clock, a little after, the gates were eventually opened, and with the heightened concerns around security at the MCG on Thursday night, the official wording by security staff was that the ground was in lockdown. It proved to just be a concern around the roof, and the protocol was that fans wouldn't be allowed into the stadium until the roof was fully closed. So a slight concern there, but a little after 6 o'clock, everyone was able to make their way in and start their traditional pre-game before this match. So thankfully, nothing more to be worried about. Lauren Bortner called the action alongside me. Welcome to you, Loz.
Thanks, Clinchy. It's great to be here. It was a little bit slow getting into the ground, but you can see that the fans are slowly filling it out. So I think for North Melbourne and Sydney, it looks like a really good crowd that's assembling here. And a big day for footy as well across the country and across the state, given that a lot of local leagues, a lot of country leagues began their seasons today. So you can imagine there's a few coming in late on their trains or after their own footy games today. So the only game of AFL tonight where a lot of eyes and a lot of listeners will be listening to us as they perhaps make their way back from their own footy matches across the day.
Yeah, no, it's a good shout, absolutely. And with the buys taking place, no matches this weekend for Hawthorn and Essendon, so it is the standalone Saturday night match, which works nicely for those trying to keep across all the matches without any overlap. There's no late changes. Angus Sheldrick is the sub tonight for the Sydney Swans, and Riley Hardiman will be the sub for the Kangaroos. We are stacked in the back row, and we are very privileged to say former Western Bulldogs captain, 300 gamer. Now you can hear him on ABC Melbourne Breakfast with Charnel Vella. Bob Murphy has stayed up late to work with us tonight. Welcome, Bob. Great to have your company.
It's great to be in your company, Matt. Hello, Lauren. Yeah, lovely to be here. Hopefully we get a classic game of footy. Caught the train in as usual, and I must say, you say former Western Bulldogs captain.
You're always a captain, aren't you? I shouldn't have said that.
No. Well, I was sat on the train, and all I could see was red, white, and blue. So tonight could be a special night. So I don't get too swept away. That'll be the last time I mention the Bulldogs. But, yeah, two really interesting teams, and hopefully we get a classic.
And alongside Bob, great to have the two-time All-Australian, John Cahill, medalist with Port Adelaide, spent some time with the Hawks. Chad Wingard, welcome back. I feel like you've watched a lot of the Kangaroos. You are watching the Kangaroos, 3 out of the first 4 weeks, so you're an expert on the Kangas.
Yes, I feel like I'm their number one ticket holder at this stage. Definitely being their biggest supporter. I'm hoping that they can play some good footy like they did against Melbourne. Yeah, last week was disappointing, but I'm pretty hot on the North Melbourne. I'm not sure about you guys, but I feel like they've got so much talent and they've improved so much since last year, and even just the guys that have obviously improved from the 0 to 50 games and high 50 to 100. I feel like that group there is just they're just very exciting. I hope they can just put it all together for 4 quarters. That's what I'm really hoping for tonight.
I think it's a matter of time before this Kangaroos team pops, or dare I say, hops. That was the whole train ride in. I thought, make sure I get that one in early. But sincerely, Sydney are a team that, their storied success and failures is a big story in the game in recent times. but they have been a club and a culture that has been admired across the board for a long, long time. North Melbourne has been on the bottom for a long, long time. A lot of work, a lot of resources, a lot of profile. They've got Alistair Clark. All of these things. At some stage, you'd think it's going to happen. Maybe it is tonight. A side that is trying to find out its own identity. Who are they? How good could they be? At some stage, they need to take a scalp and announce themselves. I hope it's tonight, but we'll see.
You might be able to hear in the background the North Melbourne players are getting introduced on the big screen. So there's a big cheer for Matt Whitlock, who will make his debut. He wears number 35 tonight. And also Luke Parker, who is playing against his former side for the first time. Jacob Costanti as well, maybe not getting the same attention as what Luke Parker did as the role in which he played in that Sydney culture in which you mentioned, Bob, and how successful they've been across the journey. So it's an interesting point to start with, is that when do North Melbourne take that psychological jump, that physical jump, to all of a sudden go from a rebuilding side to showing that they can beat some of the better sides. So Sydney have had a good record.
And that's the art of coaching, isn't it? Or at least, certainly in part of, there's the moving the magnets and the strategy and the man management, all of those things. But another part of it is, and Alistair Clarkson has been a master, convincing a group of people that they're more than maybe what they think they are. So a night like this is ripe for the Kangaroos, but the Swans won't give it up easily.
Sydney have won their last 8 against North Melbourne, Chad. So, I mean, for Dean Cox, a new coach, he just wants to get wins by any means to try and bank them at this stage. They got that win against Fremantle before the bye. Maybe a little lucky with Joel Amati kicking the last goal of the match, but to try and get a foothold into the season, knowing full well that they need to get back to a grand final really for redemption, but it's a long way away from that now. For the moment, they just need to bank 4 points.
Yeah, and just being a first-year coach, the pressure's still on. I wouldn't say that it's not there for them. Like, they're coming out of their grand final, and you know, like they know where they're heading. They need to get back there, or at least get back to the finals to be a real contention for that flag. And I think what's interesting, I think their forward line is still a work in progress, not having Papley there tonight. And I think they've obviously brought in Peter Laddams, who I think was obviously going to help Grundy out in the ruck. But maybe having another tool down there, someone that can run and mark. I think they're trying to find their answers down there to kick a better score and not rely on their mids to obviously kick 1 or 2 goals, or probably 3 or 4 between them. And hopefully Peter Laddams and Brady Grundy can have a little bit more aerial threat as well. So that's something that's a bit concerning for North Melbourne. For Sydney, and who's going to step up when Papley's not there. And the goal scoring is obviously a bit of a concern, but I'm hoping I'll play with Peter Laddams down at obviously Port Adelaide. He's a ripper guy, and hopefully he gets his chance tonight, so hopefully he can take it.
And they need a forward to fire. Logan McDonald is returning through the VFL tomorrow, so at least that's one that Dean Cox is hoping to get back. Where do you sit on sort of the Joel Amati, Bob, Sydney's forward line, the versatile smalls around them? We know what a threat Isaac Heaney can be if they have the luxury of maybe getting him a little bit more forward than in the midfield, but they're relying on Chad Warner in there alongside some of the younger progressing players to really carry the candle.
Well, Rowbottom once kicked 8. I'm sure Dean Cox might, just sidle up next to him in the warm-up and just whisper in his ear, maybe tonight's the night to recapture that form. But it will be interesting. And even just an insight into Dean Cox of, could he throw something a little bit more unexpected? Could we see Isaac Heaney isolated deep forward as he, once was? He's obviously, now a prime midfield mover. But it's an intriguing element to the game of do they just go for the saturation point if they feel like they can get enough supply in there and trap the ball inside 50 as is the modern way? Will that get the job done and the pressure build on a young Kangaroos defence? But they've got enough quality players to kick a score. But that's an opportunity for the Kangaroos to launch their attack, of course, as well.
Nick Larkey at full forward, of course, for the Kangaroos. Bob Murphy alongside Chad Wingard in our experts chair tonight. Matt Clinch and Lauren Borden to call the action. The final member of our team sitting in the front row tonight. Lex Peshier is with us. Welcome to you, Lex. Great to have you aboard.
Thanks, guys. Final, but not the least, obviously. Down here on the boundary. I get a bit lonely without you guys, but it's nice to hear you. North have won the toss, and they're going to go, I get this wrong every time, to the left.
The locket end.
What are we calling that one? The locket end. So an early win for them. I just want to add my 5 cents. I'd like to see Harry Sheasel get into the game a little bit more. He's been probably quiet by his own standards the last few weeks. So it'll be interesting to see if he can really get himself into the game tonight.
Good shout, Lex. Had 31 against the Western Bulldogs, 28 against Melbourne, and just 26 last week against the Crows. So we're all in readiness, North Melbourne and the Sydney Swans, for Saturday night footy on ABC Sport. A chance for the Kangaroos or the Sydney Swans to move to 2 wins for the 2025 season. To get us underway, here's Lauren Borden.
Luke Parker starting in the middle against his old side, and on Isaac Heaney, just a little bit of a push and a shove before the umpire slams the ball into the turf. Sherry gets the palm down, Parker chasing after it, slips over, and it's cleared away by Powell, straight to half forward for North Melbourne. Ball comes down, McKercher can't gather. In the end, it's Rowbottom who has it. Go at it, and the ball's brought to ground, and we'll have a ball up right at left half forward for North Melbourne, as Lex said, kicking towards the Lockett end of Docklands Stadium in this opening term. Round 4 under the roof on ABC Sport. Grundy gets the palm away right to Heaney. He's met the moment he gets the footy by Jai Simpkin and brought to the turf. And the umpire will come in. A little bit of pushing and shoving as well as the umpire comes in to pick up the footy and toss it up. No score yet, opening stages of the match.
Tom McCartan alongside Nick Larkey, no surprise there. And Braden Campbell's the one who started at full forward, as there's a bit of jostling going between Tristan Sherry and
outrageous.
Brodie Grundy. And eventually Grundy's going to get the free kick. What was this for, Chad?
I don't know. It felt like an NBA, you got the jump ball.
Yep.
It felt like they just wouldn't give up their position, and obviously Giroud just got called to dimness to the umpire.
And in the end, I don't think he followed the instructions, so gave away the free kick. Kick out to the wing. James Jordan is tackled by Caleb Daniel. Ball spills out of play and a boundary throw. And, of course, James Jordan had the job on Lachie Neale early in the season. Managed to restrict his influence for the Brisbane Lions. So he's always one of the interesting players as to who he lines up on. Luke Parker's trying to go to him as he's trying to go to Luke Davies-Uniacke. So there's a bit of tangling going on between both sides. It's thrown in below our commentary position. Sherry for North wins down the tap, but Heaney roves it superbly for the Swans. Hand pass away to Wicks, kicks around his body, up towards half forward. Amani's in the pack. Corey Warner as well, and it goes off hands and out of play. A throw in at right half forward for the Sydney Swans. No score through 90 seconds.
All the Swans fans, a lot of South Melbourne fans as well, tend to head out to Docklands when the Swans play, and they're all on the Coventry end. Big sea of red and white down that end as the umpire throws the ball in. Grundy just palms it down straight to Chad Warner, and he's wrapped up by Luke Parker. They smile at each other. He pushes Warner away, and the umpire quickly gets things underway again. Sherry this time can tap it out, and Powell takes it, goes for a run, and then puts it on his boot, gets knocked off the footy, and it goes out of bounds on the full. Free kick for the Swans, just to the left of North Melbourne's interchange gates, and Blakey will take it, stabs the pass across to Chad Warner, and he takes it falling, and Blakey keeps running. Quick hand pass away across to Florent. He fires off a hand pass quickly as well. Heaney couldn't get it. It's stolen by Powell, and North Melbourne have the footy. Hand pass to Scott, just gets the hand pass away to Sheasel. Hand pass to Curtis. His hand pass went to Parker. It slipped out of his hands. Simpkin picks it up and then hand passes it back to Parker. Inside 50, North Melbourne go high, ball in. And Tom McCartan steps back to intercept the footy for Sydney.
Bit of a nervous start from Luke Parker there. Initial fumble, and then had an option outside that would have allowed the Kangaroos to run inside 50 unimpeded, but just bombed the ball a little bit too quickly and intercept mark.
Rampy to Heaney, and now out towards right half back where James Jordan takes the mark. Looks long alongside the broadcast wing. Sherry and Grundy are wrestling. In the end, it was brought down by Core, who gets it down to Caleb Daniel. Hand pass close to the boundary. Sheasel kept it alive. Davies-Uniacke, hand pass to Charlie Comben. He can't break away as Rowbottom tackles him. It's become such a trademark of his game as Rowbottom sees him across the boundary line, and a boundary throw in just short of right half forward for the Sydney Swans. If you want to join us throughout the night, 0437 774 774 is the SMS line if you want to interact with Bob Murphy or Chad Wingard tonight. Throw in clears both ruckman. It's gathered by Florent of Sydney. Drives it inside 50. Amati's in the back. McLean stayed down. Gathers to Sydney. Fires off the hand pass. Shot on goal. Beautiful. No. Misses to the right-hand side. Corey Warner just missing to the right-hand side of the right goalpost. And Sydney have the first scorer behind through 4 minutes under the roof of Docklands.
Brought in quickly by North, and Sheasel holds it in the right back pocket. Unsure of where to go next. He's got Logue short and instead goes long along the city wing of Docklands. It's a 2-on-1 against Larkey. He can't win it out. Falls to ground, and Curtis will pick it up. Still in the hands of North. Hand passes it across to Stevens. He puts the kick to the AFL logo, and it's a well-weighted kick that finds Zerha. Right at centre wing, out of sight of the ground. And again, he's got to slow things down now for North. Just the one behind so far for Sydney, and he ends up going completely backwards into the defensive 50 to Logue, who switches it across to the broadcast side of the ground to Sheasel, who stabs the kick across to McDonald. Long hand pass goes to McKercher. He's got some space to run. He can run all the way to left half forward for North, then kicks it to Larkey, who's worked off the footy, and it's punched over the line for a throw-in just at left half forward for North Melbourne.
And that was great build-up. I think if if they kicked that straight down there, the switch actually was right on. They just weren't quick enough with it by foot. They were actually on. They could have ran and probably almost had a shot.
Once you commit to the switch, it's got to be with speed.
Thrown in, Grundy and Sherry tangle. Sherry wins down the tap. Rowbottom tries to go to work. He hacks the kick forward when Sheasel's able to gather for North Melbourne. Works it back to Comben, back to Sheasel. A couple of early involvements. Possession number 6 is across half back. He finds Griffin Logue. He returns to the North Melbourne lineup after missing a couple with a hamstring injury. Short down low for Luke Parker, not 15. Jordan comes at him, tackled, holding the ball. He dropped it. Campbell takes the advantage of the Sydney Swans. Goes short and Haywood hugs it to his chest. Directly in front, 45 metres out from goal, and Luke McDonald shrugs his shoulders. Not much you can do when you turn over the ball in that position.
Not unlike the Sydney Swans, who have just made a beeline for Luke Parker, their former teammate, about his error of playing on when he should have just got back off and maybe taken a bit of sting out of it. But again, it was the slow switch, and actually it got to Griffin Logue, a left footer, no right side, so he stops the switch because he has no right foot, and they have to go too slow.
Will Haywood for the first goal of the match. He comes in from 40 metres out, and Sydney are on the board under the roof. Haywood's 4th goal of the season, his first tonight. And Sydney are 1-1-7 and North Melbourne yet to score. 6 minutes gone, opening terms, Saturday night footy on ABC Sport. You're with Bob Murphy and Chad Wingard.
It's only early, and Chad, you picked it up really well the first time with the slow switch that allows the Swans just to get in position and not be under really much threat at all. They immediately have another opportunity to switch the ball. It gets into the hands of Griffin Logue, as I mentioned, no right foot, and just gets back. And it just speaks to maybe they're a bit nervy. Luke Parker's had a really nervy start. When you're coming from a position like the Kangaroos have as a club, you need to take the game on. That should be one of the benefits of their recent history of take it up to one of these teams that's been at the top of the pops.
So back in the middle, Sydney with the opening couple of scores, leading by 7 points. North Melbourne yet to score. It's Grundy working with Heaney to try and get the clearance. Sheasel gets a tap out and can pull the footy in. Hand passes it back to Scott, who puts it on the boot, dribbles its way across to the outer side of the ground. It's picked up in the end by Stevens, who picks it up and then sends it backwards. And the kick will come from Simpkin, right to bounce inside 50 for North Melbourne. And it's Lloyd who can pick it up and hold on to the footy and just slow things down from Sydney. Then he loads up and puts it on the boot, outer side of the ground along the wing, and it'll be Logue who comes in, takes the footy for North Melbourne. Front position read at best and just chips it across to Tucker, who moves it through the centre square of Dockland Stadium.
Much better.
To Powell, and then he chips it across to Scott. And this is where Scott will load up and put it inside 50 for North Melbourne. High ball in there. McCartan again has front position for Sydney, punches the footy down, and he'll win the free kick. There's a bit of a push and shove going on inside forward 50 as well. About 10 players involved here. Simpkins trying to pull a few players out of it, and it's Constanti, one of the youngsters for North Melbourne, is the last one to get off. And it's a free kick to Sydney, though. Blakey gets things moving. Hand pass to Rampy, who hand passes it across to Bice, who takes a bounce.
Bice looks to work the Swans out of defence. His kick is a turnover, looking for James Jordan, and Luke Davies-Uniacke takes the mark for the Kangaroos. Constanti trying to go back with the flight into Blakey, who didn't like the treatment. The kick inboard for McKercher had his arms spoiled away from him as Zerha tries to get a hand pass out for North. Grundy links up with Chad Warner across half back to brother Corey. Now Haywood on the wing on the broadcast side, turns and comes inboard to Braden Campbell. He swings back on his left, trying to find a way around Powell. Looks out wide. The kick is smothered by Davies-Uniacke. In fact, it was Scott who's able to gather for North Melbourne. Hand pass away to McDonald. Kicks up towards Costanti, who's caught behind. Got a bit of a shove on Hamley and got away with one there. Blakey, superb little touch. The Lizard gathers on half back and kicks up to Haywood, who marks on the wing for the Swans.
It's been pinging around throughout the ground in the early stages of this game. A little bit messy as each side tries to find their feet. It's just a chip kick inboard across to Bice, who flares it out wide to Lloyd. Lloyd with the footy, centre of Dockland Stadium, and again, he's just forced to slow down a little bit. Chips it forward to Campbell, takes the mark on the second juggle. There's a couple of kicks from home for Sydney. They're leading 1-1 to North Melbourne, yet to score. 9 minutes played in this opening term, and he'll just chip it forward to Lloyd, who's made his way just inside the forward 50 for Sydney. He marks 49 metres out. That's exactly where Dylan Stevens will stand on the mark. So tight angle, a long way out to score. Jake Lloyd looks to be lining up to put on the Swans second. He's got a Marty in the goal square. But he'll skip in, widen the angle load up on the kick. It'll go all the way towards the goals, but it's offline, and just a minor score for the Swans and for Lloyd. 1-2-8, they're leading North Melbourne, yet to score. 10 minutes played in the first term on ABC Sport.
Yeah, North Melbourne just need to, I think, build the ball up a little bit. You can see Sydney, once they trap you to one side, they're really good at, I suppose, if it goes long down the line, they're so good with their defensive structure. Brodie Grundy's already setting up there. That North Melbourne really have to try and, I suppose, pick apart and lower their eyes to try and take some marks to actually draw their defenders up, because otherwise Grundy's just going to swallow this up, and that's what Sydney is so great at.
The voice of Chad Wingard with you on ABC Sport. Jai Simpkin wasn't able to take the mark, and a chance for Wicks. Sends Sydney high inside 50. In the pack, Amati brought it down. Front and centre, core tackle brought down by Heaney. Umpire circles and will ball it up in the left forward pocket for the Sydney Swans. They're 1-2-8. North Melbourne yet to score. Inside 50s 4-2, the way of the Sydney Swans early. Laddams wins down the tap against Sherry. Into the path of power, though, for North Melbourne. A clearing kick only as far as Wicks, who gathers, dodges and weaves away from Simpkin. Good centering ball to Florin, who's on the run from 45. He steadies and puts through Sydney's second. Classy finish from Ollie Florin. And the kick inboard from Sam Wicks wasn't bad either. The Swans have the jump here under the roof. They're 2-2-14 to North Melbourne, yet to score. Bob Murphy and Chad Wingard, your experts on ABC Sport.
We're officially on Switch Watch now, or as we might call it for tonight, Swatch. Sydney there showing a beautiful, use of the ground, looking inboard, and the bravery and the skill to pull it off. Opens the ground up, and then it's a glorious finish from Florent. But North Melbourne, on the other hand, they've tripped up a few times. One time they don't go with it. Another time they hesitate and it's a turnover. They need to be braver. If that's what's going to dismantle Sydney, their defence, well, they need to be braver and take the game on. Sydney just starting to exert their influence, and they're using it with the switch.
Riley Hardiman, the sub for North Melbourne tonight, and Angus Sheldrick, again for Sydney, is in the role of the sub. As the umpire restarts play in the middle, Grundy went for it in the end. He does the tackling on Darling and locks him up right in the centre circle. The umpire to come in and toss it up again.
Am I on my own with Swatch, or is it with team effort?
We're with you.
Okay.
We're all with you, Bob.
All good.
Streaming out of the middle as Chad Warner puts the footy inside 50. Juggling mark, beautifully taken by Hayward. Kind of fell onto his chest, and he had to juggle it in to hold on to it as he was falling down. But he takes the mark. Very similar spot to where he just kicked his goal a few moments earlier. And he'll have a set shot from about 45 metres out, almost directly in front. So it's a quick entry from the centre bounce, straight inside the forward 50 for Sydney. And they have another shot at goal. A skip in, the kick from 53 metres out, looks dead straight. Straight through the middle. And that's 3 for the Sydney Swans in the first quarter. Their lead quickly out to 20 points against North Melbourne, who are yet to score. Sydney 3-20. 13 minutes played in the first quarter on ABC Sport. And
that's a wonderful finish, but that kick, I don't want to undersell that. He's running at full pace, and they're the hardest kicks when they're directly in front of you. So to lower your eyes, about the 20 to 30 metre kicks, they're the hardest ones. If they're coming off an angle or they're coming to your left or fading to your right, you can actually put it out in front, but it's really hard to judge when you're coming out of the middle and you've got to hit it low enough. You don't want to hit it too short where it hits the deck or goes over the head. That was an unbelievable kick. Great mark and great finish, but don't want to undersell how hard of a kick that is when a guy's running straight at you.
Jack Darling's a bit of a watch here as a part-time ruckman. Gave away a free kick there. Looked all at sea in the last centre bounce. We'll see how he goes with this one.
Bob Murphy and Chad Wingard with you on ABC Sport. Darling tries to use his body against Laddams, takes possession. He's tackled immediately, and the umpire will ball it up, still in the outer of the centre circles. So the Swans with the first 3 goals of the match as the Kangaroos try to find a response. Darling tried to take it to the ruck. He was tackled and pinned, holding the ball.
Second one.
Free kick going the way of the Sydney Swans. Rowbottom somehow ends up with it. He drives Sydney long into attack. McLean works his way to the front. It almost landed in the lap of Amati, all behind him. It's worked back by Griffin Logue under pressure. Gets it to Tucker for the Kangaroos. Kicks out in the direction of Sheasel. Although hitting it with speed, it was a good pick-up by Costanti. Needs support. No one there at the moment. Hand pass tight against the boundary. Eventually taken across by Cleary, and a throw in for the Swans in the left forward pocket. Sydney 3-2-20 to North Melbourne, yet to score. 14 minutes gone in the opening term, Saturday night footy on ABC Sport.
Swans have won the last 8 contests between these two sides. 2018, the last time North Melbourne was able to get over the Swans, as Darling again does the ruck work in the back line here, and it's Sheasel that wins a clearance. Hand passes under pressure, and Parker picks it up. Hand pass to Stevens, and he hand passes back to Sheasel, who clears the kick out. Curtis running forward, meets the footy, and marks. Back edge of the centre square, kick across to Daniel, hand pass to Sheasel, who's streaming through the centre, hand pass to Constanti, and Curtis keeps running. He gets the footy, puts it out in the right forward pocket. He's got Luke Davies-Uniacke racing after it, and he falls over the boundary line with the footy. There will be a throw-in inside forward 54, North Melbourne. A deep entry for the Roos, who are yet to score so far. 15 minutes gone in the first quarter.
And you know, like, I'm Paul Curtis' #1 fan, but I would just love for him to just knock that over. Like, there's no one in the goal square. You could kick that 40 metres and just aim straight at the goals. That could be a heartbreaking goal then.
Darling and Laddams. Laddams got rid of him and gets the clearance for the Swans. Kicks a spiralling ball into the middle of the ground. No one there, though, from a Sydney point of view. And Aiden Core has enough time to gather for the Kangaroos. Works the hand pass out. The kick from Tucker out to the wing, and Stevens takes the mark. Ignores Zerha, offers a long lead. Stevens, a former Sydney Swans player as well, as he looks down the line as he swings onto his left-hand side. Sends in the direction of Darling. It clears he and Costanti. Costanti front and centre. Gets the hand pass away to Luke Parker against his former side. To Zerha, who's thrown in a tackle. Great tackle by Will Hayward. In fact, it's not Will Hayward. Just trying to work out. Might be Cleary who laid that tackle. So Caden Cleary having a couple of good involvements for the Sydney Swans.
And then Chad Warner takes the footy, and he is taken to the turf by Luke Parker, and this time it's Parker that wins out. And he wins the free kick, wrestles the footy back from his former teammate, and then puts it right to the hot spot for North. Curtis, front position, might have won the free kick. And it's socked through in the end for a behind. Or it'll be coming back to Curtis for a free kick. So he was the recipient of the free kick in that marking contest, right in the goal square. And Paul Curtis will take the set shot from directly in front. So the first one for North tonight, puts it into the second tier. And Paul Curtis has got the first goal for North Melbourne. 1 straight 6. They still trail Sydney 3-20. 14 points the margin to Sydney's advantage. 17 minutes into the first quarter. And it's your man, Chad, who puts the first goal for North Melbourne.
And that kick from Luke Parker, that's my least favourite kick. When it actually lands in the goal square from Sydney, then that should be a no-brainer point. Like, that's the worst kick as you're a forward. Like, I hate that kick. It's a long point. It's just always a point. You should get that over the goal line every single time. If you're a forward, you want that in the pocket. You either want it at like the 20 metres out, 15 metres out, and you don't want it to hit the roof of the Marvel Stadium. You want to make sure
that a nervy start, Luke Parker.
He does look nervous. Like, that was very lucky to get bailed out by a free kick, but I'm not going to be complaining with my boy Paul Curtis.
Lex Pesce on the boundary.
Just to add to Luke Parker, when he came off before, he was puffing. He looked like the tightest man in the stadium. So he's fighting out there, but he's also playing football.
Thanks, Lex. Davies-Uniacke got the clearing kick up towards half forward. Costanti surely got a free kick. No one's heard the whistle. They'll kept playing for another 5 or 6 seconds afterwards, and Costanti is getting right into a couple of the Sydney Swans players as well.
What's in the air with the AFL players this round? There's a few little biffs, and I'm loving it. It's unbelievable. This is great.
I want to get your thoughts on Mac Andrew and Riley Thilthorpe in the Gold Coast. Thrilling win over the Adelaide Crows by a point. The Brisbane Lions by 28 points over Richmond earlier. Jacob Costanti, the former Swan, into the pocket, looking for Nick Larkey. Can't take the mark. Curtis tries to keep it alive. Hanson Jr.'s in there as well. Now becomes the tackler on Tom McCartan, and the umpire will ball it up in the right forward pocket for North Melbourne. Sydney by 14 points. 19 minutes gone. Opening term on ABC Sport.
Ball tossed up, and Sherry one hand palms it down to Luke Parker, puts it on his left boot, doesn't get much distance on the kick, falls into Darling's hands, he falls to the turf and is stuck there and brought down, and the umpire will pay a free kick going the way of Sydney. So Darling has to hand the ball back to Lloyd, and Lloyd gives him a little shove as well. And Lloyd goes with a risky chip kick. It'll stay here. Darling can pick it up for North Melbourne.
Not again.
Again, he goes to ground. He's happy to go to the turf, lock it down.
Oh, poor guy.
And that was a risky kick, and now it's locked.
Great pressure from Larkey, wasn't it? From your key forward. Great intensity.
Tossed up 10 metres out from North's goal. Campbell takes the footy and is taken to turf, and it'll be another stoppage inside forward 54 North Melbourne, looking for their second goal of the first term. They trail by 14 points.
Thrown in the air, Sherry and Laddams. Sherry wins it down, looking for Parker. Sliding in, tackle laid by North Melbourne, and it's locked to the chest of Chad Warner. Hanson Jr. lays the tackle. Lots of pushing and shoving going on. Sherry taps it down to Parker again. This time a hand pass to Scott. Hemmed into the left forward pocket. Trying to kick off balance towards Darley. Slaps it back to Parker for the perfect finish against his former side. And Luke Parker turns to the North Melbourne fans. And with both hands in celebration. I'm one of yours now. And I'm loving that as the Kangas all of a sudden put 2 together on the trot after Sydney booted the first 3 goals of the match.
You love to see that. Luke Parker, who's had a storied AFL career, an absolute champ. But he's had a really nervous start against his old side. But in the last minute or so, he had a nice clearance there just prior to that gorgeous snap. And I think that might be just what he needs to settle himself down and show some much-needed leadership for this young North Melbourne side, who've got themselves back in the contest. And a lot of it is just from more predictable entries when they go inside 50 and they've trapped the ball inside 50. And the pressure's just built a little bit and they've found their way with a little bit of scoreboard pressure. So they're back in this game and we've got a contest on our hands.
Sydney 3-2-20 to North Melbourne 2 straight 12. How many times have Sydney fans seen Luke Parker do that?
And the umpire throws the ball back in and it's a free kick going in the way of Sherry. So the ruck contest, and Sherry wins it out. So North Melbourne have a chance to go here and try and put 3 on the trot together as Sherry goes with a long kick inside 50. It's a high ball and it's McCartan back there again to intercept the footy for Sydney.
It's not what you want, is it, Chad?
That looked like a very confident mark for a backman, though. Like, I was just thinking, that looked like he tracked him up forward. That was unbelievable.
Who knows? We might see it later on today as chip goes out to Rampy and then across to Bice. He just chips it down to Lloyd. So they're working their way down the city side wing of Dockland Stadium. Before Lloyd loads up on the kick and will get it almost inside 50 for Sydney. Up goes McLean. Can't take the mark and Comden just claims it at the back. So North Melbourne defender sitting at the back will hold on to the mark. Right half back for the Roos.
As Charlie Comben kicks it as long as he can up towards the wing and half forward. Flying in the pack was Whitlock on Taboo. Can't take the mark. And it's Paul Curtis who has it locked to him. Brody Grundy back into the ruck up against Tristan Sherry here. Grundy taps it over the back to Heaney, who kicks end over end up the wing. Whitlock tries to come across. He gets his first touch. The Kangaroo debutant works it back to Charlie Comben. Lost his footing. Caleb Daniel has to wear the tackle as Campbell and Rowbottom lock him up. It's a left half forward for the Sydney Swans. They lead by 8 points. 22 minutes gone. Opening term on ABC Sport.
Grundy rises highest, taps it down, but it'll be picked up by Parker, and it's North with the footy. Sheasel hand passes it across to Whitlock, who flares the kick out, but it's stolen back by Lloyd of the Swans. And he takes the footy. There's a player down at Sherry again, so he's down. He gets back up though, so he's...
That's interesting, they've stopped that.
Stopping it a lot recently. There was the Rochelle incident last week, where play was stopped for a long time as he came out, but it is Sydney's ball. And it's Lloyd that chips it out wide to Cleary, who works it back towards Matt Roberts. So every player in the forward half of the ground, and Roberts will go towards Bice, and he marks. Wearing the number 26 now for Sydney.
That's not good enough by North Melbourne. They had 4 Kangaroos around that area. 1 Swan.
And Bice stabs the pass straight into the hands of Campbell, who was running onto it and holds it onto his chest for another set shot for Sydney.
And that's why we were all on board with Swatch Watch tonight. Swans were able to pick apart 4 Kangaroos who were just loitering. They were on their heels. Yeah, they'd had the space clogged up in their minds, but just took their minds off it a little bit, and they pierced that little gap, and now they've got a shot from well inside 50.
Braden Campbell runs in, 45-degree angle towards the goals, and he misses to the right-hand side. So behind for Sydney, their lead extends out to 9 points. 24 minutes played in the first term on ABC Sport.
The voice of Lauren Borden alongside Matt Clinch calling all the action. Lex Pesher is down on the boundary. Chad Wingard and Bob Murphy, your experts, as Caleb Daniel has kicked in the footy more than any other player in the AFL so far this season. Goes short to core. Back to the helmeted diminutive player Caleb Daniel in the back pocket. He's called to play on, so hugs the boundary line with a kick up towards Luke Parker. Cleared him and Wicks at the very back. A chance for Rampy. Hand pass inboard. Cleary is tackled and brought down. The umpire will ball it up between wing and half forward for the Sydney Swans. On the SMS, 0437 774 774. Neil in Coburg has a good memory. We made the reference to Sydney having won the last 8 games against North Melbourne. Of course, North could have won a couple of years ago where they had the interchange infringement, and Hayden McLean, of course, kicked what was eventually the winner. A chance for Sydney as they go inside 50 once more, overrunning the footy. Hanley, and it's picked up by Caleb Daniel for North. Hand pass to Sheasel, to Scott, trying to link up with Sheasel once more. And the umpire says they're over the boundary line. No, Scott is getting a free kick. Collectively not in possession, and a free kick for the Kangaroos across half-back, Sydney by 9 points.
It's absolute confusion, that last 90 seconds of that game where Hayden McLean got the free kick for the interchange rotation, and then Sydney won as North Melbourne work it along right in front of the benches. Scott takes the footy, hand pass to Simpkin, hand passes to Zerha. Surely that footy went out. Umpire says play on, and Zerha can kind of get a kick away. It just scrubs towards inside 50 for North Melbourne. Powell will have a shot at the goals, and it'll bounce out of bounds. It'll miss everything. And it'll be a throwing right next to the right behind post for North Melbourne.
And that looks better. That looked more like when they were playing Melbourne the other week. They were taking on the tackler. They looked more confident with ball in hand. Before, they were handballing before any pressure. And that's what Sydney are really good at. They press at you as soon as you get a handball. But if they can just break that one tackle, we can break their
speed, wasn't it?
Yeah, their whole cycle.
9 points to the advantage of Sydney as it's thrown in. Grundy tries to take it out of the ruck contest, drops the footy, and then it's socked away by Rampy. Cleared away in the end by Bice right into the centre of Dockland Stadium, where Luke McDonald just chimes in and easily takes the intercept marker for North.
He looks to reload, drives them as long as he can. Larkey's a target, it clears him, spoiled down by the Sydney defence, and in the end, Tristan Sherry's brought down. The umpire lets it go for a few moments. James Jordan tries to tunnel his way through. And the umpire will ball it up no more than 15 metres out from the Kangaroos' goals. Harry Sheasel up to 12 disposals, leads the way. Luke Parker with 8 from the stoppage. Spills down the way of Jai Simpkin. His kick was smothered. He spins through traffic, through the arms back, wanting a whistle. Umpire doesn't pay it for a hold. And in the end, Sam Wicks runs out of room. And a boundary throw in the right forward pocket for North Melbourne. Also on the SMS, 0437 774 774. A cheerio pressing the wine grapes on the top of Mount Tubiwong in the Yarra Ranges and listening to the call. Go Swannies.
Any texts about Swatch?
Not yet. Keep throwing it out there though.
The ball thrown in, and players trying to get the footy. Zerha in the end digs it out, he hand passes it away. All the players surrounding the footy, Parker's doing the tackling on Rowbottom, and the umpire comes in and throws the ball up, this time 35 metres out from North Melbourne's goal. Late in the first term. Still time for North Melbourne to score. Ball goes up, Sherry and Grundy get a hand to it. It's a free kick though, holding for Sydney, and Rowbottom plays on with it. Just puts the kick into some space on the outer wing, and Cork can run in and pick up the footy for North, hand pass it across to McDonald, who flares the kick further back defensively to Tucker, and they do this. Can we call it swatch if it's for North Melbourne? Is that also a swatch?
Absolutely.
And it's Daniel now that has it on the broadcast side of the ground. He just kicks it across to McKercher, who almost wants to switch at the other side of the ground, but stays along the dock side of the stadium, chips it across to Daniel. Holding on the footy, still at left half back for North Melbourne. He's got Stevens short. And nearly goes to him and then tries to dodge around his opponent, gets into some trouble. Again, he flirts with the boundary line, but it's a good kick in the end. Curtis leading, holds onto the mark, centre wing.
Zerha in the middle of the ground, he finds him, he marks at the edge of the centre square, trying to get it to Young Junior. Diving effort by Roberts, did superbly. Somehow got his fingers underneath the hang on to the mark, and the Swans look to turn defence into attack. Short to Lloyd, who moves through the middle of the ground. Heaney with a long raking kick, trying to get it out the back to McLean, who takes the mark. Comben and Core both couldn't get back. Streaming back towards goal in the end. It's decided that Cleary will be ignored and Hayden McLean will have the shot on goal.
It's a classic 2-goal turnaround, Chad, where Cam Zerha, who we know how damaging a player he can be, but he turned, he had a teammate wide open inside 50. It was almost like he was too excited. Saw it, couldn't believe his eyes, and just hit the kick so skinny. It was low and hard when it needed just to be lofted over the top, and now it's up the other end.
Hayden McLean looking for the response for the Sydney Swans from just inside 50. He comes in and puts it through for the Swans' 4th of the match. His 3rd of the season after a couple of goals against the Fremantle Dockers, and Sydney restore a 15-point advantage, 4-3-27 to North Melbourne, 2 straight 12 after the Kangas had kicked the last 2 goals of the match. Chad Wingard and Bob Murphy, your experts on ABC Sport.
And if you're a North Melbourne fan, it's bittersweet because you're pretty happy with that ball movement. For Paul Curtis to hit that kick, inboard, and then you open up the whole 50. But that's that last 10%, which is obviously where the money's made, and you get that goal. But the two best passages of play this game, this quarter, has been finished with turnovers against, and that's just what's really disheartening because they could have had 2 goals, and it could be a really tight game. And if the scores could be level, it's a bit
of a metaphor in there for them. There's a lot to like, but at some point they actually have to finish this off and get a result.
So ball back in the middle, and there's a ruck contest and a free again, and it's going to Sydney for a hold on Grundy. And Grundy appealed for that free kick as well, gets it, takes a bounce, no one's coming at him, so he kicks from a centre-half forward right into the forward pocket. It's back there, Comben, who could hold on to the footy, hand passes it across to McDonald, who sends a long clearing kick out to the wing to clear it away for the Roos, but it'll be picked up by Jordan of the Swans. Hand pass back to Heaney, who dodges around some Roos, and then his kick partially smothered. Florent picks it up though, can go inside 50 to Amadi, juggles the mark above his head, and marks directly in front, 35 metres out.
And I tell you what, Damien Monkhurst, who's the ruck coach for North Melbourne, would be filthy. They've given away 3 centre bounce free kicks against, and they absolutely kill a team. Like, he can't just be giving up a 50-50 contest and giving him 50 metres straight away from stoppage. You'd be very and this is another tactic I don't like. Caleb Daniels is on the mark. He's the shortest man on the field, and he's standing the mark. We used to get Dean Cox, obviously, the tallest man in the history of AFL, like on the mark.
Joel Amadi right in front, liked it the moment it left his boot. He kicked the go-ahead goal against Fremantle, and he's got one in the first quarter tonight. Sydney's lead extends to a game-high 21 points late in this first term. The Swans 5-3-33. North Melbourne 2 straight 12. 31 minutes it's ticked over in this first term on ABC Sport. Your experts, Chad Wingard and Bob Murphy.
21 points the lead for the Swans now, but it's actually, there's not as much in the contest as the score might suggest. Just that bit of poise, a little bit of confidence, a bit of bravery with the ball, and a little bit of self-belief. The Kangaroos just doubt themselves, a bit nervy when they've got the ball in hand, and Sydney, when they go forward, just those weighted kicks just to give their forwards a much better chance.
Well, Sydney have got 6 marks inside forward 50 to 0. So that's the game there. They're getting easy shots, set goals, set shots is where they've practiced all week, and they're just not finishing off with getting a mark inside forward 50.
Yeah, we've seen how much of a hot stat that was, especially for Melbourne against Geelong. Back in the middle. Sydney out to a game-high 21-point lead. Tristan Sherry trying to win down the tap, but it's locked to Luke Parker. It's a goal against his former side in the first quarter. Grundy tries to slap it away, can't get it clear. He and Sherry wrestle as the siren sounds for quarter time, and there's a bid on. Rowbottom into Sherry. Didn't like the treatment that Grundy received.
Oh, here we go. Pretend melee.
Oh, Monkhurst is coming out. Look out.
The players are slowly separating. Nick Larkey is normally one who likes to get involved, as does Nick Blakey, but both are a little late to the show. So,
yeah, although it's a 1 out of 10 melee for those at home.
Luke McDonald did come across and just give a push to Nick Blakey as everyone was heading in different directions. So, the AFL, the only real winners there if they decide to issue out some fines.
Surely not. Surely not.
Well, they're paying for my salary, so thanks, guys.
Quarter time here at Docklands. The Sydney Swans leading by 21 points. They booted 5 goals to 2 in the opening term. 5-3-33 to North Melbourne at 2 straight 12. The goal kickers of the Swans, 2 to Florent, 1 to McLean and to Hayward alongside Joel Amadi. While for North Melbourne, their goals have come through Paul Curtis and Luke Parker. Earlier today, it was a thriller between the Gold Coast Suns and the Adelaide Crows. The Suns prevailing by a point. There was a couple of controversial moments towards the end, including a mark to Isaac Rankin, which wasn't paid. But the Suns moved to 4 wins to start the season, while Riley Thilthorpe led the way with 5 goals for the Adelaide Crows and got the 3 votes in the ABC Footballer of the Year. While the Brisbane Lions by 28 points over the Tigers, which doesn't say a lot, but the Tigers did fight back in the second half after the Brisbane Lions looked dominant. Hugh McCluggage got the 3 votes in the ABC Footballer of the Year. Saturday Night Footy on ABC Sport.
Grab the latest issue of Gardening Australia for info on tree ferns, delphiniums, silver foliage, growing bulbs, propagating indoor plants and much more. Gardening Australia magazine from newsagents and abcmagazines.com.au.
The footy might stop with the final siren, but with ABC AFL, the conversation keeps rolling. Get ABC AFL Daily Podcast with Premiership coach Paul Roos alongside Corbin Middlemass, Ben Cameron and Poppy Penny.
From walking on thin ice. rise to dancing on the mountaintop.
It's your daily footy conversation. Find it on the ABC Listen app. This is the 2025 AFL Premiership season on ABC Sport.
Short down low for Luke Parker, not 15. Jordan comes at him, tackled, holding the ball, he dropped it. Campbell takes the advantage of the Sydney Swans, goes short, and Hayward hugs it to his chest. Directly in front, Will Hayward for the first goal of the match. He comes in from 40 metres out, and Sydney are on the board under the roof. In the path of power though for North Melbourne, a clearing kick only as far as Wiggs, who gathers, dodges and weaves away from Simpkin. Good centering ball to Florin, who's on the run from 45. He steadies and puts through Sydney's second. Classy finish from Ollie Florin. Sherry taps it down to Parker again. This time a half pass to Scott. Hemmed into the left forward pocket, trying to kick off balance towards Darling. Slaps it back to Parker for the perfect finish against his former side. And Luke Parker turns to the North Melbourne fans, and with both hands in celebration. I'm one of yours now, and I'm loving that.
Hand pass back to Heaney, who dodges around some roos, and then his kick partially smothered. Florent picks it up though, can go inside 50 to Amadi, juggles the mark above his head, and marks directly in front, 35 metres out. Joel Amadi right in front, liked at the moment it left his boot. Sydney's lead extends to a game-high 21 points late in this first term.
This is ABC Sports coverage of the AFL.
On your radio,
ABC Sport Digital.
and on the ABC Listen app.
Quarter time under the roof of Docklands. Sydney leading by 21 points on Saturday night footy on ABC Sport. 5-3-33 to North Melbourne, 2 straight 12. Matt Clinch and Lauren Borden calling the action. Lex Pesher is down on the boundary. The thoughts of our experts, Chad Wingard and Bob Murphy.
Yeah, one thing that's frustrating me, this is obviously my third game doing North Melbourne, but from this set up from stoppages, it's not something that I would do if I was a coach, but they're putting Caleb Daniel as, I suppose, the spare. So they're giving up a number at the stoppage. So Sydney obviously got an extra mid in there, and Caleb Daniel's coming off either the forward that's coming up, but where he's sitting is my issue. So he's sitting as like a traditional winger and a bit more corridor bias. So if they get the handball, they're going to shape corridor. But what's worrying me, and they're not actually winning enough of the ball to actually shape corridor. If I was North Melbourne, I'd try and get Sheasel or go a layer back. So take another 10, 15 metres back to be an aerial threat. But Caleb Daniels can't do that. Maybe Harry Sheasel, or maybe they free up. Or if someone's carrying to Caleb Daniel, then that guy's got to drop. So what happens normally if a forward, as a forward, I'd come up to the guy who's looking dangerous, would be Caleb Daniel, and then my guy would normally drop off to me to be the aerial threat. But North Melbourne aren't doing that. They're actually just creating a 2v1, and it's just not helping them at all from stoppages. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. The second thing for me that's going to be interesting is that I think Giroud's going to take advantage of the ruck battle when Grundy's off, because Peter Adams did not look very strong against. Even Jack Darling looked like he was going to win that second ruck battle, but Grundy at the moment is actually standing on his own. Like, I think he looks very strong, and like I said before, Monkhurst would be spewing because they're such a strong, dominant centre clearance team, and to give away free centre bounce clearances from free kicks is just outrageous in one quarter. Sorry, I feel like I'm a North Melbourne fan right now. Sorry, Sydney.
No, but I think the sentiment is around this frustration that a lot of North Melbourne supporters have. And also, You know what, more broadly, football supporters have. This has been a long development. We can see the methodical planning. We can see the talent. We can see it building. But at some point, you need to take it up to a side who's worthy. The Swans are more than worthy.
Yep.
And the Kangaroos have just shot themselves in the foot, and I think it's psychological. I think it's not a physical thing. Not even convinced it's a talent thing. It's a lack of self-belief and this gun shyness around taking the game on. Mm-hmm. If you're going to switch, do it with conviction and do it with pace. Even if you stuff one up, go again. You've actually got to commit to it. At the moment, it's a little bit slow and conservative for a side that really doesn't have a lot to lose tonight.
Great to have the insights of Bob Murphy alongside Chad Wingard tonight. Saturday night footy on ABC Sport. Second quarter underway with the Swans leading by 21 points. It's Sherry and Laddams as Laddams wins down the tap. Luke Davies-Uniacke, though, peels off for North Melbourne, gets the first clearance, sends a high ball inside 50. Larkey comes leading out, spoiled from behind by Hamling. Larkey tries to swoop after it, but it's a clean pick-up in the end by Florent. Gets the hand pass away to Hamling, to Roberts, hemmed in against the boundary line, kicks up towards half-back. Corey Warner did well, slapped it down to Jordan, kicks up towards McLean and Cobden, one-on-one. Working his way back, Comben wins the battle, needs Core for support, gets the hand pass away to him, now to Logue on the bounce. Hand pass inboard to Tucker, set Davies-Uniacke a challenge, he's tackled by Henny, broke the tackle. Hand pass to Logue, back to Comben, looking for some of that composure, North Melbourne, is it now in the hands of Daniel.
A lot of disposals from North Melbourne. They're still in the back half of the ground as the kick comes out to to Matt Whitlock, rather, on his debut. And he has the footy left half back. Just a long kick from the youngster right down the ground to a pack. And at the back, it's Blakey. Ball falls into his lap. Hand passes it across to Laddams. Hand passes it to Bice, and he flicks it across to Haywood, who weaves around McKercher and will put the kick just to the top of the 50 for the Swans. It goes over the top of McLean and bounces into some space. 45 metres around from goals. It's a 2-on-1, North Melbourne with the numbers. And Daniel and Whitlock are happy to just see that ball over the boundary line. And there'll be a ball in about 48 metres around from Sydney's attacking goal, leading by 21 points. No change yet to the quarter-time score.
Harry Sheasel leads the way with 12 disposals. Caleb Daniel with 9. Luke Parker with 8, while Lloyd has 8 for the Swans. Heaney and Bice has 6. From the throw-in comes the way of North Melbourne. Davey Uniacke trying to clear. Kicks up towards Larkey at half-back. Hasn't had much involvement in the game so far. Spills out the way of Wicks. High ball inside 50. Flying Amati's in the pack. Haywood front and centre. Crumbs it superbly over his shoulder. Kicks towards the goal line. Racing back. Luke Davies-Uniacke takes the mark. Up against the behind line. Out of contract at season's end. Goes short to Stevens, who marks in the right back pocket. Can you remember the first time you played for the Hawks against Port Adelaide, Chad? What were the nerves like that Luke Parker would be experiencing?
It's very nerve-wracking. I think what helped me is that Clark actually played me on ball that game, so you're in the action straight away. And I think that's what's great. He was in the first centre bounce, Luke Parker, as well, so you feel like you can get that energy out, and you're actually going to get involved very early. So that goal would have really settled the nerves. I think my first goal at Adelaide Oval came in the first quarter, and that was just a relief. I felt so much more comfortable after that.
Swans turned it over momentarily, but Sherry turned it back over, and now Lloyd has possession for the Swans once more, and they can work it to the outer wing where Cleary takes the mark.
It was a horrific drop mark from Cherry.
Yes.
Yeah. Really.
Cleary sends the kick down towards Lloyd, and it'll be a free kick going to Jake Lloyd against Scott. So Lloyd will hold on to the footy now, just forward of centre wing. Puts plenty on the kick to get it about 20 metres out from goals. Right forward pocket. Plenty of players around the footy. No clean takeaway. Sheasel gets it and he's brought to turf by Campbell immediately. And it'll be a ball up in the forward 50 for the Swans. And towards the Lockett end where the North Melbourne cheer squad is placed. And Sherry just taps it down right onto the grass. And then players have got to come in and try and take it off there. The one that can clear it is Sheasel. Long kick out of defence. It comes to the back to Constanti, who takes it. Hand pass to Zerha. Hand pass to Simpkin. He takes a bounce, and North are moving it quickly through the middle to McKercher. There's no one ahead of him. He'll just go for the goals himself, and it will go through. The quick movement from North Melbourne. McKercher chucked it towards the goals, and he kicks it for North. They take the game on, and they get the reward. North Melbourne, 3 straight 18. They're still 15 points behind Sydney, 5-3-33. 4 minutes played in the second term on ABC Sport.
And if you're Sydney, that you kind of tip your lid there. Like to get a goal from the D50 stoppage is probably one of the hardest goals to get. They're outnumbered. They actually had 2 or 3 extra numbers set up, so they set up perfectly. It's just that North Melbourne actually won 3 contests. And we used to say when we're at the club, if a team wins 3 contests in a row, so 50-50, and they've won a contest to score a goal, you'd rather have a goal against that way rather than it's uncontested and they're just chipping it up the whole way. So if you're Sydney fans, then that you almost got to tip your lid. That's just too good. And a goal from outside 50 on the run,
great to see the Kangas take it on.
Exactly right.
Bob Murphy and Chad Wingard with you on ABC Sport. Sherry wins down the tap to Sheasel. Hand pass too slick in the end, although Stevens wins it back. Does well for North Melbourne. Gets the hand pass to Sherry, who got it over his shoulder, linked up with Powell, and now the hand pass away as the kick up towards half forward. Zerha's caught behind, but he puts enough pressure on Rampy to see him out of play. North Melbourne leading the clearances 17-9. They lead the contested possession 41-33. It's just their composure around transition, which has been lacking, which has Sydney leading by 15 points. 5 minutes gone, second quarter on ABC Sport. Boundary umpire in readiness as he throws it back into play. Laddams caught behind against Sherry. Palm down to Davies-Uniacke. Breaks the Chad Warner tackle, but not the Wicks tackle. Holding the ball. Sam Wicks wins it back for the Sydney Swans across halfback.
Don't mind it, though. That's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. You've got to crack a few eggs to make an omelette. Gets caught holding the ball, but he's taking the game on. Hopefully drags a few teammates with him.
Sydney Swans Academy product. Wicks puts it down to the wing. It's picked up by Rowbottom. Hand passes it to Campbell, who fires off the kick to Amati. takes it on the chest. Haywood's running back. Amati instead squares up the kick. He had a player on in McLean. Just takes him, gets to him on the half volley. Picked up and passed along by Hanley. And then it's Chad Warner who picks it up, though. Outside 50, he tries to put it into the hot spot for Sydney. It's Haywood at the end, puts it on his boot, has a snap, and it's just through to the right-hand side, and he misses. It hits the post in the end.
Yeah, North Melbourne look a step off. Like they're not pressuring quick enough. I mean, that one player, I think it was LDU, he put the pressure on, but the next guy wasn't there. If you lay a tackle and there's a shit handball, you got to make sure that you're next in line. Like they should have. That's a turnover in the corridor. That could have been a goal against. But the next guy's not stepping in, so not enough are really putting pressure on. Sydney look very comfortable with ball in hand, and that's probably the opposite, I'd say, with North Melbourne. So they just need to lift the intensity on defence, I think, to get back in this game.
Caleb Daniel with the long kick in for North Melbourne. Nick Larkey's the only player on the ground not to have touched the ball. He's involved in this marking contest. Tapped down by Sheasel. Hand pass to Tucker.
Here we go.
Across up at McKercher. Now Larkey gets involved. Hand pass away to Tucker. Looking for Zerha. Back with the flat cannon into Rampy. Gave away the free kick, and Chad Warner comes over to fly the flag for his teammate, who he'll now receive the ball from at left half back. Just trying to play with a bit more run and dare, North Melbourne. The kick into the middle is chopped off. Costanti takes the mark. Looks out to the broadcast side, and Sheasel marks. Possession number 15 coming out for him. Inboard he comes to Jai Simpkin, the captain. Still two good kicks out from goal. It just pulls it in the end and chips it over the top to Stevens. 55 out. He's got Sheasel on his own. He spots him. He's only a couple of metres in from the boundary. Just on the 50-metre arc, though. Larkey put down off the ball by Tom McCartney. Tried to go short to Curtis. It becomes a bit of a mess. Stevens tries to tap it towards the boundary line to keep it alive for North Melbourne. The Sydney reinforcements arrive. Chance of Simpkin. Throws the arms back. Thought he was dragged out of it. Haywood picks it up for the Swans. Hand pass to Campbell. High up and under kick will be out on the full. So North Melbourne will take it back at right half forward.
A good couple of minutes for North, and Daniel brings in to Logue.
Swatch.
The swatch is on. It's right into the centre of the centre square. Darcy Tucker marks the footy.
There it is.
He just
that's the beauty of
it.
That's the beauty of it.
Lowered the eyes, the low kick, and then the next kick goes right into the left forward
There
pocket
we go.
to Zerha.
Is that the moment? Is that the moment?
So Tucker, Curtis, and now Zerha is the one with the set shot. About 40 metres out from goals, left forward pocket. It was exactly what Chad and Bob were calling for.
0437 774 774 hashtag swatch.
Cam Zerha runs in to get the result for the play from North, and he slotted it through. The end result is the full 6 points for North Melbourne. Sydney Swans lead cut back to just 10. North Melbourne 4 straight 24, Sydney 5-4 34. About 8 minutes played in this second term on ABC Sport.
And Sheasel had the ball outside 50, and he had the right, I suppose, decision, but he just didn't execute. And then actually, they got the ball back, and it was back on their defensive intensity. You can just see that Paul Curtis was very active in that last probably 60 seconds. That he was the one that got, I suppose, burnt by Sheasel. He tried to hit him, but then again, he gets the next one, so he's not giving up on it. That's the mentality you got to have as a small forward. You just got to be ready for the next one. You get burnt, but you can't. You got to keep showing up. And that final kick, it was just and that's where the halo moment. Just hopefully it starts clicking. Lower the eyes. That's the only way you can beat Sydney. You've got to lower the eyes and change the angle. You can't keep kicking a predictable ball 10 metres out of the goal square.
Chad Wingard with you on ABC Sport. North with the first 2 goals of the second quarter. Back in the middle of the ground. Jordan trying to break away from the Parker tackle. He's locked up, and the umpire will ball it up. On the SMS, 0437 774 774. Chappie in West Hobart is enjoying the call. Great to be listening as well. Jan, also a regular North Melbourne fan, is tuning in, hoping to see the young Kangas take that next step. Luke McDonald in the back half. Set Whitlock a challenge. He's tackled. He's gone. On to boot. The hand pass gave him no favours, and Joel Amati got him right around the waist, and he just couldn't get a hand pass away.
Wasn't the moment for a fumble, was it? Deep inside, defensive 50, really exceptional tackle from Amati. You love seeing that from key forwards if you're a Sydney Swans fan. And a regulation shot on goal on offer. Been very critical of North Melbourne and could easily be critical of that moment right there. But as long as they're taking the game on, I'm okay with it.
Joel Amati directly in front, 35 metres out for his second. And he makes no mistake. And after North Melbourne to keep the first 2 goals of the second quarter, Joel Lamarty restores a 16-point lead Sydney's way. 6-4-40 to the Kangaroos, 4 straight 24. 11 minutes gone, second quarter on ABC Sport. On the SMS, unfortunately, Richard in Geelong, I say unfortunately, Bob, but he's a big fan. Bob is the best. Special comments. I'm loving him and Chad. Swatch, however, is not Bob's finest work. So, I mean, you have to cop the good with the bad, I guess, but we need
We're watching The Switch, and I'm all about economy and minimalism, and we as a team have committed to Swatch tonight. Oh, dear. I could be on my own with that one. But anyway.
So the Swans now ahead by 16 points. Horrible bounce in the middle. That will be coming right back.
Oh, this centre bounce is so interesting. They're literally lining up like it's a jump ball. They're right next to each other. I haven't seen too many centre bounces that close together. Do you seen anything like that?
No,
really?
that's...
You normally jump at least, don't you? But they're lining toe to toe.
Yep, arm next to each other, tussling with each other. That's what they do, and it's Grundy in front possession, so he gets position, he gets the tap out, but then it's all locked up.
They might have done too much due diligence.
Yeah.
Position, like a mirror image.
And then it's Sherry this time. He rips it out. He hand passes it. Rowbottom can't collect. Sheasel grabs it. He's taken in the tackle, but just gets the hand pass away. Grundy has it. Sherry dives.
Yeah, I like that.
Throws him into the turf.
I like it.
Drives him into the grass, but it is a free kick.
And a free hit.
Tackled that like I used to tackle the tackling bag at training.
I was about to say, I thought you better say you used to tackle like that.
I saved that for training.
Blakey now with the kick inside 50 for Sydney. Sherry's gone back there to help out. Couldn't hold on to the mark. Campbell hand passes it back to Hanley. Hand pass to Laddams. He hand passes back to Lloyd. 52 metres out from Sydney's goals. Just puts the kick inside the pocket. Amani nearly marked it. Plenty of Ruse numbers around the footy, and one of those is Daniel, whose kick might be intercepted by Florent.
Wow.
Amazing.
Sheasel
That is something.
in front, a couple of grabs at it, but managed to juggle the mark and hold on to it.
It's rare you see all the fans in front of a player jump out of their chairs and applaud, and that's exactly what they did for Harry Sheasel, who somehow got around Ollie Florent to tap a mark in a 2-on-1 and take the mark. He goes inboard to Comben and then receives it back almost as a tip of the cap. Possession number 18 coming up for Harry Sheasel. He is the dominant player on the ground at the moment.
It's like a spoil and a mark. Like you call it a spark.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, here we go.
No.
Up towards Larky. Couldn't take the mark. Tom McCartan kicks around the boundary line. Caleb Daniel turns it over. Florent, hand pass inboard. Jordan couldn't take it. Roberts can for Sydney. Blazes away to half forward. Whitlock's underneath it, this time more composed. He takes it at right half back. Matt Whitlock, the 18-year-old, 197 centimetres. He grew up with his brother on the 80-acre farm in Shepparton. Now getting a chance on the big stage. Out to Luke Parker at right half back. He now comes inboard to McKercher, and they're on the long switch here, North Melbourne.
Just need to keep a look on Luke Davies-Uniacke on the bench. He looks like a sore left hip, just in the hands of some physios at the moment.
Lex to keep an eye on that one. This kick goes to Logue. Left half back, he chips it towards McKercher. They've just gained a little bit of territory north. McKercher spins the footy around in his hand and chips towards Powell, who's centred the kick, but he hasn't gained much more distance in it. And then Powell puts it out wide. And he finds Core, and Core kicks right in front of the North Melbourne boundary towards Larky. But we can head down quickly to Lex on the boundary.
He looks very proper. He's limping. He's just taken some painkillers, I suppose, but not good at all for him. Looks frustrated.
Thanks, Larky. We'll see how Luke Davies-Uniacke pulls up as Larky puts the kick right to half forward. No mark can be taken by Bice. He went up. McKercher there at the end. He'll have another shot at goals. This one might not have the carry. Hanson Jr. was there, but it's play on. No mark paid to Blakey. He has to get the kick away to Grundy. It hits his shins. It allows Curtis a chance, but it's Matt Roberts who can clear the kick away for Sydney.
Out to Laddams, who takes the mark at right half back. He's happy to just compose himself for a few moments after a frantic couple of possessions inside the back 50. He's out to right half back where Rampy has it. In fact, it's Jake Lloyd who has it at right half back. He can chip it over the top. Bice takes the mark. Kicked a crucial goal in their win over the Fremantle Dockers. Veers onto that left boot and sends it towards half forward. North Melbourne are well set. Comben worked his way to the front, dropped the mark though. Hanley gets a hand pass forward. Hayward on the run from 45. That's a great finish. Couple of steps to steady and fight from just inside 50, although hang on, there's a bit going on off the ball. The umpire's given the all clear, but Joel Lamarty comes in to fly the flag against Aiden Core. Bit of pushing and shoving, but the Swans have kicked back-to-back goals and they lead by 22 points. 7-4-46 to North Melbourne, 4 straight 24.
Just another lesson in economy, really, at the moment. North Melbourne have had 162 disposals, Sydney 119, but they just go with a bit more purpose, more direct, which you would expect from a more experienced team, and they do put good pressure on. So North Melbourne overused the ball a little bit, but that's got to be a little bit heartbreaking for North Melbourne supporters who are clearly, they're trying, they've lifted in this second quarter, they're having to work so hard for any sort of opportunities to score, and then Sydney at times just sort of cut through them like a hot knife through butter, Chad.
So Haywood with a couple of goals in the first term and now with one in the second term. It's another poor bounce in the middle. Gives us a chance to check in with Lex Pesher on the boundary.
Luke Davies-Uniacke is back out there. Maybe just a knock to the hip, but he did look a bit proppy running back out.
Thanks, Lex. So we'll restart that with a ball up this time, and Sherry palms it away. It's another free kick in the centre of the ground in the ruck contest. And it's back to Tristan Sherry. He wins it this time. So the ball has to be tossed back to him. And he holds onto the footy and looks long. We'll put the kick inside 50. Falls at the back of the pack that was forming, and Lloyd runs onto it for Sydney. Basically throws it away to McCartan, then has to chase it away. Under a bit of pressure here, the Swans' defence. Lloyd tackled by 2. What will the umpire say? Mine. The umpire will go in and ball it up. Close to goal for North Melbourne. But they're under all sorts of pressure here. The Sydney defenders struggling to get it out. Sherry taps it away. Lloyd takes it, and he's driven into the turf immediately by Luke Parker. The umpire will throw the ball up yet again. Swans ahead by 22 points, 17 minutes gone in the second.
Sherry knocked it down, but it's straight to Florin, who gets the hand pass away to Lloyd. Clearing kick, Whitlock in front. Can't hang on to the mark for North. Gathered by Bice. Hand pass out to Hanley at right half back. Chased by LDU. He's able to get a kick up the wing, but well set was Aiden Corey. Takes the mark for North Melbourne. Turns inboard to Luke McDonald. He wants to switch to the broadcast side because Hanson Young has made space. Has it though at right half back, with Sydney leading by 22 points. Robert Hanson Jr. It's in the middle of the ground, nothing really on offer, so continues out to the broadcast side. It's over the head of Curtis. Costanti went up, almost did enough to take the mark. Of his arms chopped by Hanley. Trying to take the advantage. Curtis, hand pass out in front of Sheasel, holding the ball. North Melbourne get another free kick at right half forward. Sam Wicks stuck on the bottom of the pack.
Interesting what his target will be here. The North Melbourne key forwards have been down so far in this first half.
Possession number 19, kicks towards Sherry and the pack of Darling and Curtis. Keeping his feet was Bice. Hand pass to Roberts, has an arm pinned as he's tackled. The umpire will ball it up in the right forward pocket for the Kangas.
Yeah, interesting what you said, Murph. I think the last few games I've watched them, they actually used to block really well. So Darling was blocking for Larkey the last few games. But at the moment, they don't look like they're working in tandem as great as they had the last few weeks. Maybe the pressure of not getting enough touches.
Sherry hand passed it behind him. McKercher was taken high, but the umpire didn't see it or didn't think so. So it'll be a ball up about 30 metres out from North Melbourne's goal. Grundy picks it out himself. It's smothered by Powell in the hands of Luke Davies-Uniacke. He has to hurry a hand pass away. Amati takes it outside of defensive 50 for the Swans. Hand pass to Grundy.
The big fellas.
Running right into McKercher. Hand pass to Amati. He's taken into the turf. Everyone's getting involved.
How good's that?
Doesn't matter where on the field it is. And in the end, Amati's taken to ground. And it's Constanti, the former Swan, who got his jumper at North Melbourne from Luke Parker, his former captain. He gets the free for North.
Costanti kicks in the direction of Darling. Curtis with a nice little bump, cleared a path, and Darling takes the mark illegally, says the umpire. Joel Hamling will get the free kick.
Yeah, just. Watch the replay.
Might walk that one back.
Yeah.
Former Bulldog, Docker, started his career at the Cats. They switch it to Roberts and now out to Wicks. A couple of bounces as he gets to right half back. Sends it long up towards the wing. Hayward leaning back, can't complete the mark against Tucker. Griffin Lloyd taps it towards the boundary line. He and Hanley in the end see it out of play and a boundary throw in.
Yeah, at the moment, I'm really loving Sydney's defensive system compared to North's. I feel like they're pressuring, they're standing the mark, and North Melbourne are sitting off a little bit. They're not putting pressure. Like when there was a snap inside their forward 50 and it hit the ground to Brodie Grundy and there was no one tackling him. Like you can't allow 5-6 metres to have a fumble or a drop mark. They've got to press them a little bit harder.
22 points the advantage for Sydney. Heaney trying to keep the footy in, then drops it, and then still is going after it. It comes off his boot. He collects it again. He spins around and puts Sydney inside 50. McLean goes up. All the players fall to the ground, and it's North Melbourne via Luke Parker, who can hand pass to Daniel. Risky hand pass across to Larkey, who doesn't really know where to send it. Still in defensive 50 now, North, with a string of hand passes. It's gradually worked across to McDonald, who just chips the kick to Hanson Jr. Right half back, spears the kick across to Stevens. All of the plays lonesome in space. Hand passes it across to McKercher, who goes for a run, then kicks it across to Constanti. Right half forward. He wants the 50-metre penalty.
Don't worry about the free kick. Get the ball moving.
Too slow.
And he chips it across to Daniel, and the play slows down a little. So Daniel stops for a second before putting it into the right forward pocket. Curtis flies, can't take the mark, goes after it. Hand pass to Constanti, misses horribly. Didn't steady himself to line up for the shot, and it's just a behind for North Melbourne. It's their first of the game so far. Sydney Swans lead cut back to 21 points. 4-1-25 playing Sydney 7-4-46. 21 minutes played in the second term on ABC Sport.
And as I just said, North Melbourne are spoiling their own marks, and Paul Curtis should not drop back in the hole. He should have voice saying from Larkey, saying, oh, this is mine, this is mine. But I haven't seen this from North Melbourne yet. So the last few games, they're very good with who's jumping and who's holding down their opponent. But at the moment, they seem a little bit, I don't know, maybe the crowd's getting involved, but they're just too many are flying at the same contest.
Chad Wingard with you on ABC Sport. Bice was into Blakey, got it out towards Hamling at half-back. Kicks up towards McLean, can't take the mark. Comben in between, gathers to North Melbourne. Hand pass to Tucker, into LDU. Davies Uniac with a hand pass to McDonald. Now to Luke Parker against his former side. Out towards Cam Zerha. Takes the mark at left half-back. North Melbourne fans thought Rampy maybe just encroached on the mark. Now Zerha taking his time to try and sum up the options. Decides to send it as long as he can. Around the City side wing, up towards Larkey's, outnumbered 2-on-1. And offhands, the ball goes out of play. Sydney by 21 points, 7-4-46 to North Melbourne, 4-1-25. 2 goals apiece for both sides in this second quarter.
Harry Sheezel already with 20 touches, and first half isn't even out yet. As the umpire slings the footy into play. Grundy at the front, throws it away, but it's picked up by McDonald. Hand passes it across to Scott, puts the ball inside 50, lands in the lap of Curtis. Arrived right at thigh level, he held on to it, and he marks now for North Melbourne inside 50, looking for a late goal for the Roos.
I tell you what, that's a really hard mark. To hold it back as a small forward, to make sure that you hold that front position is very tough to do. So and to mark it as well is pretty amazing feat. You just got to finish off, because, I mean, they've kicked 4-goal-1 and kicked very straight, and that's actually the only thing that's keeping him in this game at the moment.
He's kicked multiple goals in every game so far this season. Paul Curtis aims for the sticks now, and he has 2 tonight as well. Paul Curtis breaks the run of a couple of goals of the Swans, and he brings the margin back to 15 points. Sydney Swans leading 7-4-46, North Melbourne 5-1-31. About 23 minutes played in this second term. So Paul Curtis with 3 goals in round 1, 3 in round 2, and a couple last week as well. 30 goals last year, so multiple goals in every game. You'd be happy with that, Chad, in the corporate box where you sit to watch Paul Curtis play, which is the ABC box, because you're always watching North Melbourne.
Yeah, he's been super important for him. I think being a consistent goal scorer as a small forward is pretty tough. So he's obviously in a team that's not, I suppose, winning every game, but he's competing for him up there, especially in the air. I think that's where he's most impressive this year for me.
Nick Larkey leads the way with 12 goals, but he's making an impression as Rowbottom gets the clearance to Sydney up towards McLean. Was he taken high as he couldn't quite hang on to the mark? He wasn't. And it's gathered by Griffin Lowe. Clears it for North Melbourne to Sheezel with a bullet pass. He takes the mark, centre of the City wing. Sydney by 15 points. Sheezel swings onto his right-hand side. Kicks up towards Curtis and Darling, who's caught behind. Hamlin couldn't hang on to the mark, but he was held. And McCartan won't take the advantage. Free kick going Sydney's way. Do you have anything to do with Joel Hamling when he was at the Dogs, Bob?
Yeah, we've crossed paths a couple of times. Joel played with him at the Bulldogs for a couple of years, and then we were both at Fremantle there for 24 months.
It's a challenging period with his body, but it's great to see him back out there for the Sydney Swans. As the kick comes up the wing, flying in the pack was Corey Warner. It spills down, gathered by Grundy, gets the hand pass away to Heaney, looks up towards half forward. McLean can't hang on to the mark, spills out off hands to Luke McDonald for North Melbourne. Hand pass to Davies Uniacke. Kicks out looking for Simpkin. If it sits, he's out. He spins out of a tackle. Well done, breaks away from Rampy. Kicks looking for Larkey, caught behind. And the mark is taken by Nick Blakey.
It's a great read by Blakey.
It was, wasn't it? I thought it was a break. I thought it was actually a really good kick, but the defender just read it so much better than Larkey.
A beautiful move from Jihad Simpkin as well.
Again, it's that last kick, isn't it? It's really frustrating for North Melbourne, but Sydney's defensive system is really holding up at the moment.
Blakey chipped it to Florin, who chips it back to Blakey. Right at full back for the Swans. He'll push it out to the right back pocket as well, sharing it with Florent. Couple of disposals for each of the two defenders as Florent moves it out of the back line to Hamling, and he chips it backwards now to Rampy. He gets in on the action. Still a couple of minutes left in this second quarter, so plenty of time for either side to score as Rampy gets the hurry up and then chips it across to Heaney, just outside defensive 50. He puts it forward to Campbell, who marks and chips it across to Matt Roberts. Just 15, puts the kick right into the centre circles. And it's marked by Jordan. He kicks out wide to Bice. Fell over and slipped, but still had time to collect the mark. Bice inside 50 for Sydney to the left forward pocket. And it's Core who picks it up. It comes off his boots. And that'll be insufficient intent. Free kick to Sydney. So Core kind of dropped it, and it came off his boot. Didn't look like it was deliberate at all, but it will be a free kick for the Swans. And
that's unbelievable build-up by Sydney. They've really picked North Melbourne apart. It actually looked like a bit of a training drill, if I'm being honest. So, but Sydney just took what they saw.
The speed of the ball through the air. I know we're having a bit of a fun with switch watch, but that's the difference at the moment. Sydney are able to switch and move the ball with speed.
And it's Caden Cleary with the free kick close to the boundary line. That never looked like going through. So off to the left-hand side for a minor score for the Swans. It's Sydney 7-5, leading North Melbourne 5-1. 16 points the margin late in the second term.
Caleb Daniel kicks looking for Tucker, spoiled down by Bice. Chad Warner, you know how this ends. Around his body, puts through a Sydney goal. And turns to the Swans South Melbourne fans, a little pump of the fist. A goal off a North Melbourne turnover, and Sydney are back out by 22 points. Equal highest lead of the match. 8-5-53 to North Melbourne, 5-1-31. In the end, just a poor turnover from the Kangaroos.
Yeah, and broadcast just went to Clarko in the box, and you could see he was absolutely fuming. But if you're Sydney, you just see, look at their intent. You can see their intent on defence and electricity in their feet is so much more than North Melbourne. When, I suppose, Sydney get the ball, North Melbourne are just 2 or 3 metres off, but they're not that they're 2 or 3 metres off. It's the fact that they're actually not moving sideways or they're not putting any doubt in the kicker's mind. Caleb Daniel actually changed his mind 3 times, and that's why the Sydney, I suppose, defender was able to impact that ball. You just can't, I suppose, take for granted how much just moving 2 or 3 metres or being engaged with the kicker can put doubt into the kicker's mind, and that's just brilliant by Sydney then.
Sherry gets one hand to it, and then Rowbottom picks it up and hands it to Grundy. His ruck, hand pass to Heaney. They're going back inside 50 quickly here, Sydney. In comes Laddams over the top, barges his way through to hold on to the mark. Leaves a couple of North Melbourne defenders on the turf in the meantime. And it's Laddams that'll have a set shot about 30 metres out from goals. Tougher than a 45-degree angle.
That's something out of nothing. And that was a great mark. And Peter Laddams, this would really bode well for his obviously staying in the side. And I think Sydney, the last 2 minutes, I mean, the whole quarter was against him. And if they kick these last 2 goals, that would be massive for him. The momentum's completely shifted.
So Laddams on a long approach from outside 50 to goal after the siren for Sydney. Absolutely shanks it.
Okay.
Hasn't gone anywhere near the goal.
That's about as bad as you can kick a footy with still making contact with the footy.
Basically at right angles to the point where one of the umpires just picked it up and said, that'll be it. And now, again, like after the first quarter, a little bit of pushing and shoving. All the players are in the forward 50.
It almost missed his boot.
And I'm good mates with Peter Laddams, so I'm not going to let him live that down. That's getting sent straight to his DMs as soon as this game is done.
It was an ordinary attempt, but it is Sydney still leading by 22 points. The Peter Laddams kick obviously didn't score in the end. So Sydney 8-5-53 leading North Melbourne 5-1-31. 3 goals apiece in that second term. And the goal kickers so far for North Melbourne, a couple of goals to Paul Curtis and then singles to Collier McKercher, Luke Parker and Cam Zerha. Well, for Sydney, 3 goals to Will Hayward, a couple to Joel Amati, and then Ollie Florent, Hayden McLean and Chad Warner, each with singles. But half-time, Sydney ahead by 22 points.
Thoughts of Bob Murphy and Chad Wingard on ABC Sport.
It's a well-worn path for North Melbourne, unfortunately. I think we're getting what we expect from Sydney, that when the ball movement's slow from the opposition, they've an experienced team, well coached, John Longmire for a long, long time, Dean Cox taking over, so there's been a smooth transition there in terms of philosophy, and you can just see them set up well, they're connected well. When they win the ball themselves, they're uncomplicated. They move it quickly, they move it sharply. They've had a lot less possessions than North Melbourne, but generally, when they get their hands on the ball, they find a dangerous part of the ground and they go direct to their forwards, and they haven't had anyone break out and have a massive game individually, but they've put enough score on the board to keep North Melbourne at bay. North Melbourne, I believe that they've got too much in their heads. Now, it's a very subjective thing, but you mentioned a couple of things, Chad, that caught my ear, of them just being on their heels is one thing. The forwards, the key forwards in Darling, Larkey and Zerha not blocking for each other as much this week. That all tells me that there's too much, perhaps, in their heads. They're thinking and not feeling as much. We've seen sparks of it where they just go, you know what? Get rid of the human battleships in my mind, win the contest and take it on. It might not always be orthodox and it might be a little bit messy, but when they've played like that, they've actually looked like a really competitive, good side. They lack a bit of that self-belief to keep going, and when they don't get the reward initially, they sort of go into their shell. If they go into their shell, Sydney will roll home by, pick your number. It'll just be a bit predictable. I would love them just to sort of become a bit braver and take the game on and try their hand.
Well, I think they're actually taking the first kick. Like, they had a kick down to Sheasel, which was split the middle of probably 2 or 3 defenders. But what did Sheasel do off that? He almost had the red carpet say, how good is this? I've just marked the ball and I didn't even face up or play on. Like, if they take a kick that is a risky kick, you got to make sure that you make the most of it. You can't just take these kicks and just say, I'm going to wait for Sydney to set back up and then we'll just kick long down the line. They need to capitalise on that, especially off their turnovers. One thing that's probably frustrating me is that I think they're allowing Sydney to get out of their forward 50 way too easy. I think you look at Sydney, how they set up. Sydney, if the ball's inside their forward 50, they probably have 1 or 2 spares on every side and actually hem them in. So the only way that they can win, or get it outside their forward 50 is from some magic. They're going to have to rely on someone to win a 1v2 battle or even just get it out of bounds. So I think there's setups and structures. I love Clarko and he obviously knows the game very well, but I don't think they're set up for success. I think they're losing the dictating game in terms of, you have that battle, like whose term is this on at the moment in terms of the structural fights. I would say it's on Sydney's term. So when they're setting up on defence and when they're setting up from stoppages, I reckon they're dictating North Melbourne and how they're setting up. And probably the next thing is that they're just not capitalising when going inside forward 50. I mean, you see the last few times they've actually lowered their eyes and they've found some marks, but marks inside forward 50 is easy shots on goal. And yes, they are kicking at a good rate, and that's what's keeping them in the game. But Sydney, I mean, it's just proof in the pudding that they've done this. They've been such a good team for so long. They've had such consistency with their system, and they've had such, I suppose, great leadership with the people that have been in their club. You can just see that each week in, week out, you just know what you're going to get. Whether it's win, lose or draw, you know that they're going to set up the same way. You know that they're going to read the ball. You know what way they're going to play. At the moment, with North Melbourne, they're still trying to create that culture, and Clarko's trying to come in with some key players. But I'm just worried that, like you said, it could be a big blowout or it could be a close game, but you just don't know what you're going to get from North Melbourne week in, week out.
The numbers aren't wildly different. The one that jumps out to me, clearances are relatively even, 19-17. Inside 50s, there's only a couple in that, 21 to 23. So it's not necessarily supply, but it's just the thought and the process around it. Sydney, they're much more methodical, as you would expect them to be. Yeah. But North Melbourne have shown at times that when they actually look really damaging. So if they can switch the ball, I won't go for the hashtag. If they can switch the ball quicker and with more intensity to it to get themselves in a better position, then really we need a lift from Larkey, Zerha and Darling. there's really no excuse for Jack Darling to not be blocking and making space for his teammate. That's his role. Clearly, he's been recruited 300 games, mate. You're there to take pressure off Larky, and at the moment, he just hasn't done that.
And it's the first time he hasn't done that. I mean, I've pumped him up the last few weeks. He's been really good at it, and it's actually surprised me that he hasn't done it this week. But I don't think it's not just him. It's also Paul Curtis running in front of the full forward. I mean, if I did that with Jay Schultz or Ruffy, I would have been like, it's just not on. And I think there's a few things as standards that do creep in the North Melbourne that would never creep in at Sydney. There's no way that would happen. And that the standards that they hold is something that Clark is obviously still trying to breathe into these young guys. But when you've had it like the All Blacks, you just know that's as soon as you walk in the door, this is the standard that they hold, and that you've got to fit to their mould.
Or the ABC.
Exactly.
Similar. Sweep the sheds.
Great to have the insights of Chad Wingard and Bob Murphy, who's keeping us all in check tonight. Matt Clinch and Lauren Borden calling the action. Lex Pesher is down on the boundary. Sydney by 22 points at halftime. Earlier it was Brisbane by 28 points over the Tigers, and the Gold Coast Suns by a point over the Crows. We'll pause for the moment from Docklands and bring you the latest in ABC News.
ABC News, I'm Eliza Getzi. The controversial Chinese ownership of the Port of Darwin will end, irrespective of who wins the federal election. Brett Worthington reports from Parliament House.
Labor and the Coalition say they will end a Chinese-backed company's 99-year lease of the Port of Darwin. Both say they will seek a private buyer, but aren't ruling out government acquisition if needed. Opposition leader Peter Dutton says Labor should have ended the lease sooner.
The Prime Minister's had 3 years to act.
But Anthony Albanese says Peter Dutton was at the Cabinet table that approved the sale more than a decade ago.
He did absolutely nothing.
Labor isn't putting a timeframe on its policy, but the Coalition says it will end the lease within 6 months of winning office.
Global stock markets have continued to fall after China announced it will impose 34% tariffs on all imports from the United States. It comes a day after President Donald Trump announced tariffs on products coming into the US from more than 180 countries. The BBC's Erin Delmore has more from New York.
For the S&P 500, over the last 2 days alone, we're seeing more than a 10% decline. For the Dow, we're seeing a decline of more than 2,200 points today. For the NASDAQ, more than 20% below a recent December high. President Trump is making a bet that his protectionist policies here are going to either lead other countries to negotiate their own tariff rates or lure American companies to reshore their production and their supply operations back to the U.S., but we are seeing in real time countries grappling with how to respond to President Trump, and that anxiety and those maneuvers are really making investors nervous.
Meanwhile, the Trump administration says it's providing another $11.5 million to aid victims in the magnitude 7.7 quake in Myanmar. The US has been criticised for a slower and smaller response than usual after promising just over $3 million in the wake of the disaster. State Department spokeswoman Tammy Bruce announced the aid in a post on the social media site X, saying the money would help stricken communities in the Southeast Asian nation with shelter, food, medical care and water. The Trump administration has worked with billionaire Elon Musk to dismantle the main US aid agency and most of its programs. Back home, Queenslanders are being warned mosquito-borne viruses are likely to surge after flooding that's hit much of the state. It comes after 2 deaths in recent weeks linked to Japanese encephalitis. Infectious diseases expert Professor Paul Griffin says the virus has been spreading across Queensland.
Climate is a factor, and we've got conditions that are very conducive to there being lots of mosquitoes, and so there certainly could be more cases. That's why we want people at risk to make sure they're protected.
A leading criminologist says the repercussions of gangland figure Tony Mockbell's release on bail after Victoria's Lawyer X scandal could have far-reaching consequences. Mockbell was freed yesterday after 18 years behind bars while he awaits an appeal to overturn his convictions after it was revealed his former lawyer, Nicola Gobbo, had been secretly working with police. Associate Professor of Criminology, Xanthi Mallet, says there may be more cases brought into question by Ms Gobbo's cooperation with the police.
I think people shouldn't underestimate the seismic nature of this outcome. If those charges are quashed in relation to the cases associated with Nicola Gobbo, this is sending shockwaves through the entire criminal justice system in Victoria, and there will be other cases to follow.
Salmon Tasmania Chief Executive Luke Martin will take up a job in state opposition leader Dean Winter's office in Tasmania when he leaves the industry organisation. Labor has confirmed. Josh Duggan has the details.
Mr Martin has been the head of Salmon Tasmania for 2 years and will depart soon after legislation securing the industry's future in Macquarie Harbour passed federal parliament. Labor has confirmed he's set to move on to a job with Tasmanian opposition leader Dean Winter, but his start date is not finalised. Blue Economy Cooperative Research Centre Chief Executive and former Tasmanian Department of Primary Industries Chief John Whittington will replace Mr Martin as head of Salmon Tasmania. Mr Martin declined to comment.
An iconic Sydney pub featured in the adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, has been heritage listed. The Imperial Hotel in Erskineville, one of the longest-running drag venues in the city, has been listed on the New South Wales State Heritage Register. Heritage Minister Penny Sharp says the hotel's listing protects the building and recognises its profound contribution to LGBTQIA+ history in New South Wales. To the AFL now, and Brisbane have climbed into second place on the ladder after recording their fourth win of the season over Richmond. The final scores, 18 goals, 10 to 118, to the Tigers, 13 goals, 12 to 90. Earlier, Gold Coast held off a final quarter surge by the Adelaide Crows to claim a 1-point win. You're up to date with the latest ABC News.
Foreign Correspondent returns to Tuesday nights in 2025. Exploring the unknown, discover the extraordinary, your window to the world. Foreign Correspondent returns. New time Tuesdays 8 p.m. on ABC TV and ABC iView.
Monday night.
Racing forward, edge of the box, the shoots right footed. What a strike!
The Matildas are back.
What a goal!
Catch every minute on the ABC Listen app. This is the 2025 AFL Premiership season on ABC Sport.
Hand pass to Zerha, hand pass to Simpkin. He takes a bounce and North are moving it quickly through the middle to McKercher. There's no one ahead of him. He'll just go for the goals himself and it will go through. The quick movement from North Melbourne. McKercher chucked it towards the goals and he kicks it for North.
Luke McDonald in the back half. Set Winlock a challenge. He's tackled. He's gone. On to Boo. The hand pass gave him no favours and Joel Amarty got him right around the waist and he just couldn't get a hand pass away. Joel Amarty directly in front, 35 metres out for his second and he makes no mistake. Sends it towards half forward. North Melbourne are well set. Commonwealth worked his way to the front, dropped the mark though. Hanley gets a hand pass forward. Hayward on the run from 45. That's a great finish.
Picked up by McDonald. Hand passes it across to Scott. Puts the ball inside 50. Lands in the lap of Curtis. And he marks now for North Melbourne inside 50, looking for a late goal for the Roos. Multiple goals in every game so far this season. Paul Curtis aims for the sticks now, and he has two tonight as well.
Daniel kicks looking for Tucker, spoiled down by Bike. Chad Warner, you know how this ends. Around his body, puts through a Sydney goal.
This is ABC Sports coverage of the AFL.
On your radio.
ABC Sport Digital.
And on the ABC Listen app.
Half-time at Docklands, Saturday night footy on ABC Sports. Sydney leading by 22 points, 8-5-53 to North Melbourne, 5-1-31. The Kangas got back within 10 points in that second quarter, but it was 3 goals apiece. And at half-time, it's the Swans who have a somewhat comfortable lead. 3 goals for Will Hayward has proved a class above in the match so far. On the SMS, 0437 774 774. Matt, Lauren, Murph, Chad, Lex. Top call as usual, go Roos. That's from Grant in Waterloo, who's tuning in via, of course, our news radio service. Rog wants to know, are the Roos playing a man-on-man, zone or park combo defence taking place at the moment? What do you reckon, Chad? Are they playing any particular style that you picked up?
I think they're just laying off too much. I think they're almost like a soft zone, but they're not pressing as much as what Sydney is. So they're, I suppose, if you're looking at, like if you're trying to picture it, they're allowing the short kicks, and I don't think they're close enough to their opponents to impact the ball in the air. So that's probably one thing that's probably frustrating, because you can see Sydney's actually building the ball up and they're actually going forward with their kicks and they're actually taking a lot of territory with uncontested marks. And that's something that you don't hang your hat on of a defence. You've got to make sure that if you are a zone, you've got to make sure that they're pushing them to the boundary and then making them kick long. But you can't allow them to just shift through the corridor, change angles, and just uncontested mark all the way up. They had one passage of play where the ball didn't touch the ground, they didn't even take a step, play on, and they got a mark inside forward 50. So I think their intensity will be a big talking point at halftime with Clarko.
There you go, Rog. Neil in Coburg says North don't get 50-metre free kicks. 50-metre free kicks. Just ask Bailey Scott. The Kangas fans are on point tonight. They've got good memories. Laurel in Rushworth sitting back enjoying the call after watching my grandson's team play. And the Shepparton Swans have a 100-point win this afternoon. Congratulations to them. Swatch and Spark. Bob's on fire tonight. Loving the call. Go Kangas. And sitting out with my fiancée by the outdoor fire, listening to another great ABC call. That's from Nick in South Australia. So great to hear you're getting us loud and clear across the country and across the world as well. Now, Myanmar in Bangkok and the surrounding regions have been devastated by a 7.7 magnitude earthquake. Homes have been destroyed. Families have been separated. Thousands of lives have been lost, and there are many more missing. Buildings have collapsed and critical infrastructure has been severely damaged, including roads, bridges and transport. So the ABC is working in partnership with the Emergency Action Alliance to help those affected by the earthquake. So you can support organisations on the ground in the infected regions by visiting abc.net.au/gives. Your donation will help to provide food, water, shelter and medical assistance to people affected by the earthquake. So that website again, abc.net.au/gives if you want to get involved as well. Earlier today in the AFL, it's the Gold Coast Suns by a point over the Adelaide Crows. I don't know if you saw the last 5 minutes, Bob, but there was a couple of controversial umpiring decisions. We might have to get Razor Ray's verdict on what he thought of the Adelaide fans, who do think from time to time they've had a rather rough run with the adjudicators.
Yeah, I didn't see the entire 5 minutes, but I did see the Rankin
non-mark.
Non-free
kick.
I would say that he was desperately unlucky not to be paid. I did love Matthew Nicks in the post-match press conference, though. He was, reference what he, preaches to his players around, sometimes things don't go your way and you have to, either stay in the moment and continue to move forward or you get left behind. And he said, I'm trying to channel a bit of that myself. So he made his point.
Yep.
Of course he wasn't happy with the way the call fell for his team, but also, he addressed, the 115 minutes prior to that. So, good leadership, I thought, from Matthew Nicks on a cracking game of footy.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to getting your thoughts on Riley Thilthorpe and his game as well. But of 5 goals for the Adelaide Crows and a losing side. The Brisbane Lions by 28 points over the Tigers. 18-10, 118 to Richmond, 13-12, 90. So Brisbane continue their unbeaten start to the season. Hugh McCluggage got the 3 votes in the ABC Football of the Year. Charlie Cameron and Zach Bailey both booted 3. So for Brisbane, a side who are trying to just shake off their premiership and start 2025 with purpose. They're maybe not firing on all cylinders, but they are winning the games in which they need to start the season. In the NRL tonight, round 5, don't forget coverage is available on the ABC Listen app. Just look for the ABC Sport button. The Brisbane Broncos lead the West Tigers 26 points to 18. That match 56 minutes in. While earlier today it was the Dolphins who defeated the Gold Coast Titans 36 points to 10. And the Parramatta Eels had a thrilling win over St George 23 points to 22. Tomorrow the Melbourne Storm take on the Manly Seagulls to start round 5 of the NRL, and your Sunday football action coverage on the ABC Listen app. Just look for the ABC Sport button. As you can hear, the Matildas in their second match on Monday night. So it's all available there for you. As is Bob Murphy on a Monday morning, ABC Melbourne. Even if you're not in Victoria or Melbourne, you can listen on the ABC app and tune in to he and Chanel Vella, where the alarm goes off at what time on a Monday morning?
3:30.
Okay, that's early enough.
Bounce out of bed.
Little tea or coffee to get you going, or what?
Oh yeah, no, coffee, all right. It's like a thick syrup at 3:30. It's almost like the paddles to get rid of cardiac arrest, just to get life into the system. But once we're up, we're into it.
Dean Cox has got his side up and charging. They lead by 22 points as players head back into position. What do you imagine his message would be? And you're pretty strong on what Clarko would be looking for.
Yeah, I think Sydney, it'd be really just about, I think, keeping that pressure up. I think their intensity has been great. And I think it's really just about their polish inside forward 50. So just making sure they keep the intensity up on defence. But if you're North Melbourne, I think there's plenty to talk about. I think Sydney, I think they're pretty happy with where they're at. I think they just need to kick a little bit straighter. I think they've had some opportunities and, but yeah, just finishing off. But if you're North Melbourne, I think it starts in the centre bounce. I think the last 2 minutes you'd be very disappointed if you're a North Melbourne fan. I thought they had all the momentum and to allow 2 marks inside 50 against, I think Peter Laddams really could have put some pressure on North Melbourne in that last 30 seconds. But North Melbourne, I think, is going to be a very important first 5 minutes here, and the intent that I think they need to show is going to be 100% in terms of this first centre bounce here.
Sydney up by 22 points heading into the second half at Docklands. Pretty good crowd out here as the umpire throws the ball down to start the third term. Heaney goes after it, so does Sheasel in the end. It's Sherry that picks it up and just skies the ball right into the high sky, comes back down. Parker takes it on his knees and he hand passes it away. And Sherry's doing the tackling on Roberts. The umpire will come and throw the ball up again just outside the two centre circles. So Sherry and Grundy battling with each other in a bit of a physical battle. The ball bounces outside of them and Luke Davies-Uniacke does the tackling. And it's Jordan this time who's on the bottom of the pack for Sydney. So another ball up. Umpire gets things underway quickly. Grundy tries to clear the congestion, kicks it to Hayward, who hand passes it across to Campbell. Takes the bounce. Is it half forward for Sydney? He might just have a go and go all the way. He does. He went for it, and another long-range goal towards the Coventry end of Docklands, right to the Old Bloods fans sitting in the cheer squad. Within a minute, Sydney have the first goal of the third quarter on the board. They're out to a game-high 28-point lead, 9-5-59. North Melbourne 5-1-31. Just 60 seconds played in this third term, and the Swans with an early one.
It's a glorious finish in the end, but really it was, again, the pebble in the pond. Brodie Grundy just completely monstered Sherry there, which you don't often say watching North Melbourne games, but completely monstered. Then it was really a hack kick forward, but Sydney forward in front, quick hands, and then we get the glorious finish. But the couple of crucial contests in the most crucial part of the ground set that one up. A bit of a breakdown of structure and appetite for the contest as much as anything there from North Melbourne.
Here comes the sixth individual goal scorer for the Sydney Swans. Grundy wins it down to Heaney. Here they go again. Hand pass to Rowbottom. Desperate touch at the last moment by Davies-Uniacke. Just pressure him out of the kick. Spills out the way of Corey Warner. He's tackled and brought down, holding the ball. And a good win there for North Melbourne as they take it through Stevens inside the defensive 50. Turns and comes inboard to Charlie Comben. Sydney by 28 points. Biggest lead of the match so far. Comben's going to switch to half-back. Zerha's worked up the ground. He marks on his chest at left half-back. And Zerha, no real easy options present, so he'll kick long down the line in the direction of Tristan Sherry, who's wrestling with Grundy. Grundy palms it down. Sheasel gathers. Hand pass to Parker. Works it back to Stevens. Goes back further to Tucker. He's at left half back. Looks up the line. Darling offers up a lead. It's spoiled by Hamling. Front and centre. Sheasel tries to knock it on. Florent puts the pressure on him. Sheasel wins the footy. Hand pass to McKercher for North Melbourne. Back to Stevens. Inside 50. Going up Zerha. Can't take the mark. Larkey kept his feet. Two Swans go down. Larkey gets a hand pass away as he's tackled. Straight to Simpkin, who's tackled immediately. Sydney defending desperately. Back to Sheasel at half forward. He jams a kick inside 50. Asking Larkey to rise up against Heaney. Roberts of the Swans. Hand pass away to Wicks and they're out of defence.
And he clears it away towards McLean. It just goes past him. Cobban running after it as well in front of McLean. And in the end, it'll be a boundary throw-in just to the left of the North Melbourne benches. So a lot of quick movement of the footy from North Melbourne, but unable to get a deep entry in the end. So it'll be a throw-in just near their bench. It's Grundy and Sherry eyeing each other off in the ruck. Sherry gets front position. They both get a tap down, and it's picked up by Heaney, who just darts the kick to McLean. He marks it right at centre wing. He's got Jordan calling for it at right half forward. He takes his time with the footy. And we'll go long. We'll get it to the top of the 50 for the Swans. Running out to take the mark was Hayward. Just couldn't hold on to it at the last second. Heaney gets it. He tries to curl it towards goals. Cause there to pick it up and quickly needs to get a hand pass away to Tucker. He loses the footy. Chad Warner's there, tackled, but gets a hand pass away. Picked up by Comben. North Melbourne players trying to hold on to the footy here. The hand pass from Comben goes to Tucker. It's a potentially dangerous kick. But Luke Davies-Uniacke holds onto the mark in defensive 50 for North Melbourne.
He has Sherry free, but wasn't able to get it to him, so instead chips it over the top and McKercher has it. It's a goal in the second quarter. McKercher now wants to switch to Tucker, who marks it left half back as Griffin Load on the City side wing from the two benches. Has Darling further afield. Pulls it inboard to Zerha.
Hands.
Takes the mark. Zerha swings on his right-hand side. Bangs it long towards Larkey. Getting back McCartan. Rappy sport his own teammate. Larkey's still standing. Hand pass to Darling. Into the goals. He hand passes to Sheasel. Up against the left behind post. Jags it towards goal. Hits the top of the right goal post. Oh, they made hard work of that, the Kangas, having just about had Sydney on the deck. Couldn't finish with a goal. The Swans leading by 27 points.
I wonder how much of it is the human chemistry of footy. Just in that bit of play there, we've got Griffin Logue, who's relatively new to the club. Jack Darling's only been there for a little while. Got to give these things a little bit of time, but that is a little bit about what you were saying about just making things look a bit harder than what they necessarily could be.
Meanwhile, within 4 kicks, Sydney have got the footy to centre half forward, where Haywood holds on to the mark. Just a couple of kicks from goals. Haywood will put it looking for Amati, and Amati takes the mark. He put it right to the top of the goal square, looking for Joel Amati. And Amati easily held on to the mark and will have a set shot from very close to goals, just a slight angle. And Joel Amati searching for his 3rd goal of tonight to join Will Haywood with 3. On the side, he snaps it towards goals and easily pops it through. A couple of goals to start the 3rd term for Joel Amati, and he joins Will Haywood with 3 goals for the Swans tonight. Sydney extends its lead out to 33 points, 10-5-65. North Melbourne 5-2-32. 6 minutes played in the 3rd quarter on ABC Sport. Your experts, Chad Wingard and Bob Murphy.
And it just shows you the confidence that Sydney have in their players. I mean, they're taking 1v1 contests. It's not just taking them, they're winning them. And I think you think about North Melbourne, they're actually isolated. They're not as isolated. They're kind of working. They're not getting 1v1 matchups, and they're not getting it early. You see, Amati had a 1v1 matchup deep forward, and there's no one else helping in that contest. Like you got to have someone come across and spoil that.
But the human chemistry, which is what I was talking about in North Melbourne, the kick from Haywood to Amati, it is just to his advantage.
Yep.
Now they're small margins, but they're the little connections that at the moment North just don't quite have.
Bob Murphy and Chad Wingard with you on ABC Sport. James Jordan gets the clearance of the Swans. Hand pass to Grundy. Has enough time to get it back to Jordan. Bangs it inside 50. And Marty wrestles with Core. Through an arm at it. Can't take the mark. Whitlock races after it. Got a cruel bounce. Cleary knocks it for Sydney to Rowbottom, who pokes the kick into the pocket and finds Laddams. And Combat in frustration barrels him over. That'll be 50. And it's just teetering at frustration for North Melbourne. And Sydney just have a touch too much class. And even though the challenges are Peter Laddams on half-time, I'm not sure even he can miss from here. Point-blank range, pops it into the second tier. And Sydney all of a sudden have 3 goals to start this 3rd quarter. 3 goals in 7 minutes. They've kicked 6 of the last 7 goals of the match to establish a 39-point advantage. 11-5-71 to North Melbourne, 5-2-32. Bob Murphy and Chad Wingard with you on ABC Sport.
And that's just a tactical, obviously, mark there, and he sold that self to get that 50 metres. But if you're Sydney, they're getting absolute dominance at the stoppage. I mean, it was probably about 3 stoppages before. It wasn't a centre. I was actually on the wing here, and Heaney's by himself, like one of the best players in the competition last year.
Heaney?
Like he's been unbelievable. By North Melbourne not manning up in their stoppages, they're having Caleb Daniel come as their spare. They're allowing, I suppose, an extra mid for Sydney to dictate again their stoppages. And I don't think a smart move to leave Heaney free at stoppage.
So 22-point half-time lead now out to 39 for the Swans as a kick will go inside 50 again for Sydney. Amati runs past it. Him and his opponent in Core go past the football. Picked up by McDonald, who hand passes back to Core. North with the footy. And Core goes long to get it out of defensive 50. Sherry there, can't take the mark. Ball spills to ground. Heaney picks it up. It'll be a free kick going towards Sherry in the marking contest for being knocked out of it by Roberts, it looked like. So Sherry will have the free kick. Right half back for North Melbourne. Goes to chip it towards McDonald. It's a dangerous looking kick. And it's a free kick, though, for McDonald for chopping at the arms. Free kick, a play on advantage will be paid. The kick will go out wide.
See, that kick there, you should be rolling onto your right foot and looking inside forward 50. You can't be going off the back of your mark once you clear that kind of congestion.
Costanti works it up to Zerha. He has Curtis in the pocket. Takes the mark just inside the boundary line, but he's hemmed in against the boundary line, 45 metres out from goal. 3 goals to 1 behind so far in this third quarter. North Melbourne need a response, and it's in the hands of Paul Curtis. A tough shot on goal. He's up against the fence, and the North Melbourne fans in the right forward pocket.
This will take his best.
Starts his approach with a drop punt. He veers out to the left, tries to open up the angle. It's not a bad effort. Sherry up against the right goal post, and in the end it's through for a rush behind. Larky tried to volley it through, but I think it was well and truly over the line by then.
I don't know. Must hit the post.
He didn't look too excited, did he?
Nah, he knows something we don't.
Just going to check with the arc, because Chelsea Roffey's there doing her work on the goal line.
Review underway.
If this is a goal, this is
Review
the
complete.
least excited
in the
history of the game.
Contact with the post. Decision on the scoreboard.
Dean Cox would be as responsive now as it bounced off the...
He's off his arm.
Arm into the post. Did it hit the post?
Oh, that post.
Little...
Padding of the post.
It's pretty subtle, though.
Yeah, I know. I would have given that everything. It was a claim to go. Never know.
So all clear is given at a behind stance. It's a 37-point lead.
Chad's talking as a true forward.
Yes.
I'm concerned for Nick Larky.
So Matt Roberts with a kick in, and Rowbottom takes a good chest mark. Then he flares it out wide to the city side wing. McCartan taking the mark and moves the footy on quickly, darting the kick forward to Hanley. Hanley with his bright yellow boots just kicks it. It's not a good kick as it comes off. Matt Roberts does well to control it. He hand passes it away and moves the footy inboard as it bounces inside 50. It's Laddams that can take it, but it'll be North that clean up the footy from Comben, who hand passes it away to Whitlock, and he just kicks the footy away as well to Scott. And Scott can mark in the right back pocket for North Melbourne and try and steady things for North, yet to score a goal in this third quarter, trailing by 38.
Oh, he went for a tough kick for Costanti. He's worked out of it by Roberts. Grundy was well spun out of traffic as he gathered the ball. Hand pass too sharp for Hayward. That goes out of play. And a boundary throw in. One of a young fan who's holding, Heaney, I'm your biggest fan. Can I have your boots? That's modern day kids, isn't it? They're after the boots. A throw in at left half forward for the Sydney Swans. They lead by 38 points. Having booted 3 goals to 2 behind so far in this third term. Sherry uncontested against Grundy this time. Gets it down, but only to Powell, who's hard against the boundary. Hand pass taken over by Simpkin, and the umpire will throw it back in.
I say this is a father of 3. They're all take this generation. Get your own boots.
It speaks like someone's got 500 boots at home.
Go and get a paper round.
What happened to the hand-me-downs? One of the newest and the greatest.
Yeah. It's all take.
Thrown back in. Grundy wings out the tap for the Sydney Swans, trying to get it away to Lloyd. He lays a big tackle, Grundy, on Scott. It spills out Costanti's way. He couldn't quite get the hand pass away to Powell. Sydney take it back through Wicks. Hand pass to Campbell, to Lloyd. Cuts back on his right-hand side, trying to dodge and weave around Powell. Needs support. Hand pass to Roberts. They've got options in the middle of the ground. Kick is over the head of Darling, and racing back, Hamling takes the mark. Chips it out to the broadcast side, and Florent, he marks for the Swans.
Florent holds on to it and then puts the kick forward towards Lloyd, and he chips it to Rowbottom. So Rowbottom marking at centre half forward for the Swans. There's leads coming from Amadi and McLean, and the umpire is going to turn over the free kick to Caleb Daniel. So a bit of confusion, but Rowbottom has to hand the footy back to Daniel, and it's a North free kick. Hand pass to Whitlock on debut. Hand pass to Sheasel. He puts the kick just too far forward from McDonald, and it'll be turned over here by the Swans. Florent with the footy has his neck ripped off by Stevens, and it'll be a free kick to the Swans. Rowbottom wants to play on, and the umpire says advantage, so the ball almost stopped right at right half forward. Laddams will pick it up, and then he'll hand pass it backwards to Caden Cleary, who puts it inside
That is
the
comical.
right forward pocket.
That is comical.
Who says footy doesn't have a sense of humour?
You are kidding me.
There was almost silence around the ground. No one knew what was going on, and the advantage was taken. Will almost lay flat at right half forward for Laddams to pick it up and get it to Amadi. And it's Amadi now that will have that set shot about 15 metres out from goal's 45-degree angle.
Joel Amadi ends up with the ball.
Yeah.
10 seconds earlier, he was the only person, not just player, in the entire stadium who didn't know what was going on. And he ends up with the ball. He's making a goal.
He's got a chance to have luck on his side, and that goes right across the
Footy
face of
gods.
goals. It's probably what that whole passage of play deserved. Is just a behind in the end.
It needed a soundtrack. Ding, diddle, ding, 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 diddle, ding, ding.
39 points now, the Swans' advantage.
So Sam Wicks tried to take the advantage, kicked to half forward, and Joel Amati was the only player not watching with his back to the play, and the ball trickled past him. Eventually ended up with a shot on goal. North out of defence, McKercher gets the hand pass away to Roberts, through the middle of the ground to Simpkin. From half back, he looks out to Davies Uniacke, streaming forward at right half forward. He takes the mark. Now he has Zerha in the pocket, Darling leading out. Ignores all of them at this stage. Maybe thinking he can go himself from 55. LDU swings out to the right, gains a few extra metres. Davies Uniacke gives it a good hoof. Bice is getting back. He marks on the behind line. In the end, it was probably the wrong option.
No, that's rubbish.
That is rubbish. That's probably the worst kick of the game, to be honest.
Riley Bice goes for a kick which is not without its own risk and finds Roberts.
It's not as bad as your mates.
No, it's up there because he's just taken. They were out, and he literally chose the worst kick in the game, which is 2 metres away from the goal line. Just going to get spoiled. And they just marked it uncontested.
I would still argue.
Okay, I know.
I know exactly what you're saying.
In terms of standards.
I know exactly what you're saying. I still wouldn't make the argument.
That's still going to slide in his DMs. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, that Ludov's kick after the siren was just not much chop as Sydney move it through the middle of the ground. It's Bice this time with the entry inside 50. Again, it's Amati at the back of the pack. It might work for him. It comes into his lap. He gets tackled, dispossessed of the footy, and Scott picks it up for North Melbourne. He turns it over, though, and delivers it right into the hands of Riley Bice. A Werribee premiership player can dab it inside 50 to Hayward, standing all alone in the right forward pocket.
There's alarm bells going off now. If you're a North Melbourne supporter or if you're a North Melbourne coach, I'm not sure if their appetite to defend or win contests at the moment is at the level where it needs to be. Sydney are a very, very good football team. They're doing this really easily at the moment. This could get ugly if the North Melbourne footy team can't find it inside their hearts and their guts and their soul to turn this around, because it's starting to look a little bit ugly.
Will Hayward now 35 metres out, just edges towards goals and eases it right through. That is 4 goals for the evening for Will Hayward. And Sydney is starting to make things look a little easy against North Melbourne. 12-6-78 now, the Swans. North Melbourne 5-3-33. The lead out to 45 points, 16 minutes through the third term.
And Will Hayward, I don't think anyone's had that much space before. I mean, his teammate, who was it? It was Riley Bice, who actually got information from his player next to him, his teammate, saying, hey, there's a guy free. It took him 4 seconds to realise that he was free. But he had no one within 10, 15 metres. So North Melbourne, we used to call it the neck brace, is when you don't swivel your head. You don't turn it. You don't look around what's around you. And if you did it enough times in games, Clarko would actually give you a neck brace in the team meeting and say, you know what? If you can't swivel your head on game day, you're not going to swivel your head in team meeting. He literally brought in a neck brace. I'm not kidding.
Prop comic.
Great insights from Chad Wingard with you on ABC Sport. The Swans get the clearance once more. Corey Warner receives it. Hand pass away to Lloyd inside 50. Amati comes charging out. McLean does the crummy. Breaks away from Lowe. Hand pass away to Cleary. Flying shot on goal. It just scrapes in for a minor score to the right. Sydney by 46 points. They put it 4 goals to none so far in this third term.
And North work it via the left back pocket. Tucker holding on to the footy as well. That reminds me of that My Big Fat Greek Wedding quote. You know, the neck. The woman is the neck that twists it around. As the kick, comes out wide towards Jack Darling. Anyway, I'm not sure if Clarko brought any Windex into any other meetings.
Wouldn't put it past him.
But Darling...
Yeah, I got some stories.
Forward. Centre wing, rather. He just chips it out to Hanson Jr., and that kick comes off the boot a little awkwardly, but Scott marks it and he twists around and just wants to go quickly inside 50 for North Melbourne. And the rush kick doesn't pay off as Isaac Heaney marks. Hand pass back to Blakey. And again, Sydney will quickly get it out of defence here. This kick comes across to McLean, although now he wants to slow things down. They've got the City side wing, which they've used a lot tonight so far. The kick comes out to Corey Warner. He spills the mark, but he can quickly pick it up, collect and find Florent, who marks at centre wing.
Florent Looks up, inside 50, Amati has to beat 2. He comes charging out, spoiled down to the front. Big tackle laid by Corey Warner. Colby McKercher slowly gets to his feet. Lex Pesher on the boundary.
Riley Hardman looks like he's going to come on the sub for North. Not sure who's coming off, but he's just taking the shirt off and he's getting ready to come on.
Thanks, Lex. Angus Sheldrick, the sub for the Sydney Swans. Neither have been used as yet as Parker lays a big tackle for North Melbourne on Ollie Florent. 45 metres out from the Sydney Swans goal. Charlie Comben sits as a defensive goalkeeper. Amati, free kick for a hold against him in the ruck, and it's going to go the way of North Melbourne, where Nick Larkey is doing some ruck work. It's a big game. There's Spearhead trying to get involved in the match. He's inside the defensive 50 here as he looks out to right half back. Kicks out to Whitlock. Matt Whitlock on debut. Looks up, kicks over the head of Jai Simpkin. Poor turnover. Rowbottom takes the mark. Amati's on his own. Takes the mark. Larkey can't get back. And the Kangas turnovers have cost them tonight. Chance for Joel Amati to go back and try and put through his fourth.
Yeah, North Melbourne look like they're a bit scared to take the contest. So they're actually not happy to go down the line. I mean, I know Larkey now is playing maybe potentially back or like a spare, but they don't have anyone that they're liking with the one-on-one matchups. It looks like Sydney again are dictating the game, and Amati's just the beneficial of a turnover and obviously reacting quicker as a forward. So they're the best chances you do get as a forward.
He did, of course, have that match where he kicked 9 against Adelaide. Joel Amati looking for his fourth. He comes in from the left forward pocket and steers it through. 5 goals to 0 so far for Sydney in this third term, and they have put on a gap between them and North Melbourne. 13-7-85. North Melbourne 5-3-33. All of a sudden, the Swans lead by 52 points. Chad Wingard and Bob Murphy with you on ABC Sport.
Yeah, the Swans are flexing their muscle at the moment. They've got the combination of setup, competitiveness and just general skill level. North Melbourne, they can't do much about the talent aspect of things, but they can with their attitude. At the moment, they look a little bit despondent. There's a long way to go in this game. There's a long way to go in this season. They've got a lot to play for every single week. They can't let this get out of hand. They need to find something and might start in this centre bounce.
Alexia Pesher on the boundary.
It's Matt Whitlock who's come off for North. In his first game, he's come off as the sub, unfortunately.
So, as you mentioned, first game on debut from the Shep Bears, and Matt Whitlock just sitting on the back of the bench now. Riley Hardiman into the action for North Melbourne as the sub. It's Parker in the middle who goes after the footy. Hand pass to Sherry, a 1-2 with the ruckman, and then a hand pass comes across to Scott. Gets the kick away. North Melbourne inside 50 again. It's just chopped off by Riley Bice, who read it best and sat back. He kicks across to Heaney, and the Swans will move it quickly now. Heaney's kick gets them to centre half forward to McLean, who hand passes it away to Campbell, who kicked a goal from this distance a little earlier on. He pops it into the right forward pocket. Laddams juggles it with his right hand, then kicks just outside of attacking 50 towards Florent, who can reset and go here. Heaney's calling for the footy. Braden Campbell is yelling it was Corey Warner in the end, about 10 metres away from him yelling. And then the kick comes right to the hot spot. Sherry got his hands to it, came down. Daniel picked it up. Hand pass to Scott, hand pass to Stevens, hand pass to Parker, who went to Sheasel, who dropped it. And then Parker had to go and pick it up. Hand pass to McKercher. They're really using the footy a lot by hand in this defensive back line as Daniel takes it and he finally kicks it and can chip it to McDonald in the left back pocket.
Luke McDonald trying to get it to Hanson Jr. Back with a flight. Bice makes the spoil. Much to the encouragement from Ollie Florent for a boundary throw in. Sydney by 52 points. All of a sudden, North Melbourne's last goal came at the 23-minute mark of the second quarter. We're now 23 minutes gone in the third. Henny alongside Davies Uniacke. James Jordan trying to go to LDU as well. Thrown in. Sherry wins down the tap. McKercher on the move. Couldn't drag it away. Parker tries to slide in for North. Sherry has a go. The ruckman's brought down by Campbell. Grundy tries to follow up. He can't knock it clear in the umpire circles and will ball it up. Sydney 13-7-85. North Melbourne 5-3-33. Grundy beautifully palms it down to Heaney. Kicks out into space. That's a beautiful pass. And leading out, the mark is taken by Tom Hannelly directly in front, and plenty of his teammates point towards the big sticks. Chance for him to try and kick his third goal in AFL footy.
Some people have a hard time deciding whether football can be art. Well, that was pretty close. Grundy to Heaney on the move, inside out, right foot kick, just into space for his forward. That's beautiful football.
2024 mid-season pickup from Gippsland. Tom Hanley comes in from 50, leans back on it. It's a beautiful kick. And the Swans fans are celebrating once more. 6 unanswered goals so far in this third term, and they lead by 58 points as the lead swells once more. 14-7-91 to a hapless Kangaroos 5-3-33. Chad Wingard and Bob Murphy, your experts on ABC Sport.
Yeah, and again, like North Melbourne are handballing way too much in their D50. I don't think I've seen too many teams win games by not taking ground. Like, you got to at least go forward with your possessions, but they're chipping and handballing and putting the next person under pressure. If you can visualise that, is that like they're 30 metres out directly in front and they fumble the ball directly in front of their goals against them, and Sydney are able to put pressure on them. Like, that's just not the type of ball movement as a backman. As a forward line, you're licking your lips. You're like, here we go, I can get a tackle here, I can get an easy shot on goal. Holding the ball 20 metres out, that's an almost certain goal. So I'm just not sure that they've kind of gone away from their game plan at the moment, but it just doesn't look like
panicky.
Yeah, a bit panicky.
Tom Hanley from Leongatha, the most recent goal kicker for the Swans, as it's another free kick in the centre of the ground.
He's a Leongatha parrot, was he?
He was.
Old rivals of the Warragul Gulls.
I like it as Heaney has the footy, gets past his opponent in Zerha, who tried to tackle him. He moves the ball inside forward 50, but it's a Daniel that picks it up and collects for North. Hand pass to Simpkin, shares it with Logue, then gets the footy back, and Simpkin will go to Hanson Jr., who marks, tracking back with the footy. Left half back for North Melbourne. He's got Daniel on short, who wanted it, and in the end just chips it towards Scott, who's looking behind him, then looking forward. And then we'll just load up on the kick to put it to a one-on-one. Darling wins out against Joel Hamling.
Take the one-on-one, Larky.
And Darling now tries to dart around Hamling, then just kicks it to McKercher. 55 metres out from goal. He'll put the kick right to the hot spot. Luke Parker there at the end can dribble it through for another. Parker's got his second against his old side. And this one, he dribbles through. He was at the back of the pack. Curtis couldn't take in the mark, and Parker dribbles it through for North Melbourne's first of this third term. And it breaks a run of 7 consecutive Sydney Swans goals. The lead now 52 points in favour of the Swans. 14-7-91. North Melbourne 6-3-39. 27 minutes gone in the third term.
And again, North Melbourne are relying on pure brilliance and pure luck to get these goals. I mean, he was in the contest then, and it was a great finish. But if I'm Larky, I'm spewing, because you get a one-on-one contest and you haven't got it all day. And Jack Darling, who's your running teammate, takes a great mark and doesn't roll and kick to your advantage. He had about 20 metres of space right in front of him.
If anyone should know the beauty of what Nick Larky had in front of him, it should be Jack Darling, and just didn't want to go there quick enough.
It's happened too much this whole game.
Bob Murphy and Chad Wingard with you on ABC Sports. Simpkin gets the clearance, kicks up towards Curtis. Can't take it cleanly. A chance for Bice. Gets the hand pass back to Rampy. Now to Blakey. The run from the Lizard across halfback. Kicks up towards Grundy. He wants Corey Warner to keep running.
Smells blood.
He's lost interest in him, so he kicks further afield. Up towards Haywood. Clean hands from him at right half forward. Takes the mark in front of Hardiman, the North Melbourne sub into the match. Angus Sheldrick still yet to come on for the Swans.
I think players trying to fool the umpires into the man on the mark stand rule is my new most hated thing in football.
Haywood in the end just lobs a kick into the right forward pocket, and the mark is taken by James Jordan. The tagger hard against the boundary. This would take something from him. He's about 10 metres in from the boundary. 45 metres out.
Miners getting a kick that goes in the middle and then going back off the mark and not playing fast. Try and put that into one sentence.
Send us in a text. What do you hate most about footy?
James Jordan, he's done some tough lockdown rolls. This one is out to the right and a minor score. 53 points, 0437 774 774. What are we calling it? Your footy hate? Lex Pesher on the boundary.
I have a footy hate, but North Melbourne might hate this. Josh Simpkins just limped from the ground. He looks like he's in a lot of pain. I'll keep an eye on it.
It's not what they need right now, thanks, Lex, as Hanson Jr. again has the footy left half back. He just puts the kick to a pack. It's punched away by Blakey. Falls to the back to Joel Hamling, who then passes it across to Dane Rampy, who again moves it and switches it to Florin, and Sydney will make their way through that outer side of the ground by Grundy, who chips it across to McCartan. McCartan now holding onto the footy, just defensive side of centre wing. He can chip it forward. He waits for the lead to come to him, and it's Braden Campbell who runs at him, and he's happy to just slow things down at the moment. So Sydney with a pretty good 53-point lead as we near three-quarter time. And Campbell's happy to hold on to it, and then he'll just chip it out wide to Riley Bice, who marks close to the boundary line at left half forward. And he spots something he likes inside 50. It's Chad Warner running, and he spots up Chad Warner. He sees him and he hits him right on the chest. And Warner will have his shot now to get his second goal on the board tonight. This one will be a set shot about 40 metres out from goal. And it will be his old teammate, Luke Parker, standing the mark. As Warner comes in on the approach, it looks good off the boot. And it is a great finish from Chad Warner for his second. And the margin for the Sydney Swans will head out to 59 points as we near the three-quarter time siren. They're piling on the goals in this third term, and Chad Warner gets in on the action as well. So Sydney now 15-8-98. North Melbourne 6-3-39. 30 minutes played in the third term.
Big night for the Chads. We go from Chad Warner to Chad Wingard. I was just thinking, Chad, on what you said earlier about North Melbourne's ball movement, or the stagnated ball movement out of defensive 50, over handball, panicking, maybe not trusting in their targets. As a contrast to that, just watching the build-up of the Sydney Swans there, and it's the beauty of watching footy live, what they're able to do, they're able to move the ball methodically through North Melbourne, because they set up each other distance from one another, but they're always moving, and so you never get to set your defence. Really clever.
Grundy one down the tap and did the roving as he kicks out in front of Hayward at half-time and at three-quarter time, and Caleb Daniel in tow. A dominant third quarter by the Sydney Swans, putting 7-3 to North Melbourne's 1-2. The Kangas trail by 22 points at half-time. They now trail by 59 points at three-quarter time, feeling like the game is well and truly over. In that term, North Melbourne, they got shown a lesson in the centre square. Sydney with 10 clearances to 3, including 6-2 in the centre bounces, despite the Swans just having 4 more disposals in that quarter. The marks also the way of Sydney, 39-23. Sydney by 59 points at three-quarter time, 15-8-98. North Melbourne 6-3-39. The goals for the Swans, 4 goals to Will Hayward and to Joel Amati, while 2 goals to Chad Warner. Individual goals to McLean, Florent, Campbell, Laddams and Hanley. While for North Melbourne, 2 goals to Paul Curtis and 2 goals to Luke Parker. Individuals to McKercher and to Zurhar. Earlier today, it was the Gold Coast Suns who prevailed by a point over the Adelaide Crows. Jed Walter booted 3 goals. Riley Thilthorpe booted 5. Thilthorpe got the 3 votes in the ABC Footballer of the Year despite being on a losing side, while the Brisbane Lions defeated Richmond by 28 points, 18-10, 118 to the Tigers, 13-12, 90. Brisbane's first trip to the MCG since they won the premiership. Charlie Cameron and Zach Bailey booted 3 goals for the Brisbane Lions. Saturday Night Footy on ABC Sport.
Why scroll when you can listen on the ABC Listen app? Listen to shows like ABC News Daily,
ABC Sport Daily,
and Conversations. Get on the ABC Listen app today and every day.
Get ABC AFL Daily Podcast with Premiership coach Paul Roos. Alongside Corbin Middlemass, Ben Cameron and Poppy Penny. ABC AFL Daily Podcast. It's your daily footy conversation. Find it on the ABC Listen app. This is the 2025 AFL Premiership season on ABC Sport.
Kicks it to Hayward, who hand passes it across to Campbell. Takes the bounce. He's at half forward for Sydney. He might just have a go and go all the way. He does. He went for it, and another long-range goal towards the Coventry end of Docklands, right to the Old Bloods fans.
Cleary knocks it for Sydney to Rowbottom, who pokes the kick into the pocket and finds Laddams. And Coleman in frustration barrels him over. That'll be 50, and it's just teetering at frustration for North Melbourne. Point blank range, pops it into the second tier. And Sydney all of a sudden have 3 goals in 7 minutes.
Scott picks it up for North Melbourne. He turns it over, though, and delivers it right into the hands of Riley Bice. Can dab it inside 50 to Haywood, standing all alone in the right forward pocket.
There's alarm bells going off now. If you're a North Melbourne supporter, I'm not sure if their appetite to defend or win contests at the moment is at the level where it needs to be.
Will Haywood now 35 metres out, just edges towards goals and eases it right through. That is 4 goals for the evening for Will Haywood.
It's over the head of Jai Simpkin. Poor turnover. Rowbottom takes the mark. Amarty's on his own. Takes the mark. Larky can't get back. Joel Amarty looking for his 4th. He comes in from the left forward pocket and steers it through. And they have put on a gap.
Darling now tries to dart around Hamlin, then just kicks it to McKercher. 55 metres out from goal. He'll put the kick right to the hot spot. Luke Parker there at the end can dribble it through for another. Parker's got his 2nd against his old side.
This is ABC Sports coverage of the AFL.
On your radio.
ABC Sport Digital.
And on the ABC Listen app.
There was a scoring blitz from the Sydney Swans in the 3rd quarter, which wrestled the game into their command. They lead by 59 points, 15-8-98 to North Melbourne, 6-3-39. Matt Clinch alongside Lauren Borden calling on the action. Lex Pesher was on the boundary. We'll check in with her in just a moment around Jai Simpkin, who left before 3-quarter time. But the thoughts of Bob Murphy and Chad Wingard on ABC Sport.
It was a really disappointing quarter from North Melbourne. I think, we all came to the game tonight. We all came to the ground thinking that these are 2 clubs and 2 teams that are at different ends of development phase, I suppose. Sydney grand finalists and right at the pointy end of the competition. North Melbourne have been cellar dwellers for quite a number of years, trying to find their way, trying to build up. We sort of hoped, I suppose, that we might see a North Melbourne performance where they could pop and surprise and maybe establish themselves. It hasn't been the case, and that's understandable in a sense, but that 3rd quarter, there was a sense of a white flag being flown. It's far too early in the game, and it's far too early in the season for a team that has been developing for long enough now to show a lot better than that. It was really, really disappointing. You'd love to see them respond in the last quarter. 30 minutes can be a long time in football. You're already down by 10 goals. This could be a devastating loss for them if it continues like it did in that 3rd quarter.
He's been big on that too, Alistair Clarkson. He doesn't want people to stop listening at 3-quarter time or stop watching, and they need to respond now here so those North Melbourne fans aren't just watching it going, here we go again.
Yeah, well, you're going to take step forwards as a club. I mean, I think they've been too stagnant for too long. I think they've showed a little bit of hope for 10 minutes, 1 quarter, and you're going to eventually build that up for over 3 to 4 quarters. You can't just have, we're going to be great for the first half, or we're going to be good in patches. I think they really need to be at the point now that they've been down for so long and they've had so many high draft picks. They've brought in some people who are, I think, are great leaders at other clubs and brought in, I suppose, leadership and success and been a part of success. So they need to start learning from these guys and really buy in. I'm not sure if they're really bought into what Clarko's doing or the culture that they're trying to breathe, because if you did, you wouldn't let the standards drop in certain aspects of this game right now.
Lex Pesher on the boundary.
Sub 2. So Angus Sheldrick comes on, and it's Chad Warner who's come off, but he was smiling as he came off. So I guess it looked like he had a bit of a sore stomach, but doesn't look too worrying.
A flex there from Dean Cox, putting Chad Warner on ice. The nicest night is done in his eyes. And Sheldrick on cue gets the clearance, sends Sydney inside 50. No mark claim. They scrap forward at ground level. Campbell tries to break away as Griffin Logue locks it to his chest. And the umpire will ball it up in the right forward pocket. 59-point lead, and the Chad's night is done.
All right, I'll see you later, guys.
No, not you. We need you till 11. Here's a chance for Sherry in the back pocket. Hasn't cleared it for North Melbourne. Davies Uniacke's problem as he gets the hand pass away to Hardiman. Heaney's down on all fours, slow to rise. Hand pass out to Simpkin. So good news is he's out there in that final term. Hand pass over the top to Hardiman. Hand pass missed Simpkin, who now becomes the tackler and sees the ball out of play as he lays the tackle on Ollie Florent. Lex Pesher on the boundary.
Our Chad's funny tonight. What happened there?
Our Chad. Ownership, no worries.
He got funny.
So Chad Warner subbed off. Our Chad Wingard, still got some work to do. Ball is tossed in and Sherry slaps it away with one hand. It's Sheldrick who grabs it. The sub can't control it as Luke Parker then gets the kick away across to Curtis. He can run in front of it. He's getting some pressure and in the end it's Wicks that wins out for Sydney. And he grabs the footy for Sydney, for the Swans, hand passes it to Rampy. And it's the Swans that emerge with it. And the red and white jumpers have it. And it's Angus Sheldrick holding on to the footy, and he chips it across to Laddams, who stands tall with the mark. He hand passes it across to Bice, who takes a bounce as he's streaming inside forward 50 for the Swans.
Wow.
It's all too easy for them at the moment. And he hits up Hanley on the chest, and he'll kick from almost directly in front of goals, about 25 metres out.
Now, North Melbourne had just come off, obviously both teams come off out of the three-quarter break. There's no excuse to be looking this tight and this lackadaisical. I mean, Sydney had every option from every possession they had. They had about 3 or 4 options they could have went to.
Tom Hanley kicks it off the side of his boot. It wasn't as bad as Peter Laddams, that kick, but it wasn't great. And it's 60 points, the Sydney Swans advantage. They're 15-9-99. North Melbourne 6-3-39. Early stages of the fourth term on ABC Sport.
North Melbourne look to bring the ball back into play. Aidan Corr kicks out in front of Jack Darling. Lunching. He bounces into the turf and
so athletic.
Has to replace his divot there. 300-plus games and needed every millimetre to try and get there to take the mark.
A mouthful of turf.
I think so. He chips it over the top to Bailey Scott. Back with a flight. He marks in front of Riley Bice. Jeez, he looks a player, Riley Bice, as well. Hand pass out in front of Simpkin. A little untidy from North, as it has been really since half-time. And a boundary throw in just in front of the two benches. The Swans by 60 points.
While we're talking about Chads, Chad, I have a question for you.
Go for it.
Do your parents like geography? Because you're Chad Jordan, aren't you?
Oh, that's a good call.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Great question.
I was Jordan. I was born in 93, so Michael Jordan was a pretty big person around that time. But Chad, I think Mum just liked the name Chad.
Yep.
That's a good call. That's a good call there, buddy.
Peter Laddams doing his work on the wing. He went with a double-handed bounce before he hand-passed it to Chad, to Isaac Heaney. I've got Chad's on the mind now. Into the middle of the ground for Campbell. Sydney are doing this with ease. Out towards Tom McCartan at right half forward. Kicks looking for a Marty. Can't take the mark. Spoiled away from him. Sydney look to lock it inside their forward 50 with Heaney laying the tackle, and the umpire will ball it up in the right forward pocket.
Have you ever been to Chad or Jordan?
No, Chad Jordan Wingard has not been to Chad or Jordan.
Thanks for clearing that up for me. The ball just makes its way over the boundary line from that stoppage for another throw-in, about 15 metres around from Sydney's goal.
The audience know way too much about me already, so that's all they're getting.
We will find a connection to Chad and Jordan by the end of this call.
Tossed in, lands right in front of Sherry, who dives after the footy to try and tap it away. Sheasel has a go. In the end, it's Powell that picks it up for North Melbourne. Hand pass to Davies Uniac, who's spun around 360 and gets the kick away towards Constanti. He can't take the mark. Has to go in, try and get it. 3 Swans surrounding it. And it is the Swans players in numbers that win out. Campbell with the footy, though, happy to take it over the line for a throw-in. And Corey Warner pulled up off the turf, perhaps wanted a free kick as part of that contest as well. But another throw-in inside forward 50 for the Swans, leading by 60 points in this final term.
Yet to have a goal so far in this final term. It's tossed back into play. McLean doing the ruck work against Cherry. It lands in front of Sherry, bounces off his knee. Heaney can't take it cleanly. Spills out. Sheldrick into the game, onto the scoreboard, as he joins the growing list of Swans goal kickers. It's over 10 goals and growing now. Sydney's advantage 16-9, 105 to North Melbourne 6-3-39. 5 minutes gone. Final term on ABC Sport.
Yeah, for North Melbourne, the defensive setup there was not great. Dylan Stevens in game number 62 has to be more intense than that. The defensive 50 ball up, it doesn't get more intense than that if you're North Melbourne. It's red alert. Yep. We need to stop scoring, and just sitting off 1.5 meters, 2 metres to a left footer, no less. It's not what the situation needed, and it's not about talent, and it's not about what draft pick you were. It's not about how many games you've played. It's about an attitude to defence, and it just has been really, really poor from North Melbourne all night, but particularly this second half.
66 points, the Swans' advantage as they look to go again. Hand pass from Sheldrick in the centre. He's picked up by Powell of North. Hand passes it across to Sherry. He falls over, still holding onto the footy. Hand passes it back to Powell, who hand passes it backwards towards Hardiman, North sub, and he gets the footy back from Sheasel. Hand passes it to Parker. He just spears a kick to Powell, who marks right on the AFL logo, centre wing. And this time Powell will go inside 50 for North. Zerha and Larkey both went up. Neither took the mark. Zerha on his hands and knees. Hand passes it to Scott and gets it to Zerha, who's tackled right to the ground. And it'll be a free kick going the way of the Swans.
Look at the goal square right here. Larkey.
Ooh, yes. Larkey's in the goal square with McCartan in a tangle.
And he won that battle, by the way.
It was first up.
First win of the night.
It's like boxing match blue v red tonight. And it's Sydney red clearly winning by 66 points at the moment.
He's had just the 6 disposals. Nick Larkey tonight hasn't had a shot on goal, and probably understand the frustrations are starting to boil, but that was a long way off the ball. Howe with the intercept for North Melbourne. Hand pass inboard to Cheezel. Possession number 29 for him. Hand pass inboard to Tucker, to McKercher, to LDU. Davies-Uniacke goes back to McKercher. But right half forward, onto his left. Good low pass to Cheezel, who marks right on 50.
Luke Davies-Uniacke is a watch. That left hip of his took another pounding earlier. He looks really, really sore. Got a bit of a decision to make, Kangaroos on him.
He's tried to labour through some discomfort, having taken some painkillers. Cheezel's going to put it into the pocket, sets it in the path of Zerha, can't hang on to it on the second grab. It's Corey Warner hard against the boundary, kicks up towards Cleary at halfback, spoiled away by Hardiman. Laddams tries to pick it up, he can't get a clean hand pass away. Jordan, he's tackled immediately, knocks it out for the Swans somehow, spills out the way of Tucker for the Roos. And Hardiman's going to kick it 25 metres back to Griffin Logue at centre halfback.
So Logue moves it forward. And it's McKercher who sends the kick right down to the forward 50. Here comes Larkey bounding up to it. He might be able to grab it here. Hand pass to Constanti, who tries to work around a couple of Swans. Back to Larkey. He's taken right down to the turf by Rampy. And all the red and white cheer squad that have filled out the Coventry end of the ground stand up and applaud.
And that's standards right there. That's exactly what clubs are built off of. I mean, they're up by that much and they're still tackling in absolute gang right now.
Inside forward 50, Parker just has a shot at the goals from the boundary. It goes across the face and doesn't even sneak through 4 behind. So across the face of goals, it will be a throw-in inside North Melbourne's attacking 50. It's the Swans that have scored 9 of the last 10 goals of the game and now up by 66 points, 9 minutes into the 4th term.
Here the Sydney fans cheering as it's thrown back in. Grundy wins down the tap against Sherry. Stevens races after it. Hayward after him as the ball goes out of play. And a boundary throw in. Well, Hayward's kicked 4 goals tonight. That equals his career best. Joel Amati with 4 goals as well. Sydney have had 9 individual goal kickers, while for the Kangas it's been a tough night. Luke Parker and Paul Curtis, they're only multiple goal scorers. 66-point margin between Sydney and North Melbourne. So Swans have proved a class above. Thrown in, Grundy and Sherry tangle once more. Tapped down in the direction of Rampy. Knocked it on to Rowbottom. Kicks around his body. Laddams was dumped by Comben. He's able to pick up the footy, Comben, although his hand pass left a bit of work for McDonald. Had to wear the tackle from Will Hayward. And the umpire says throw it in, centre wing on the City side. It's the Sydney Swans who lead by 66 points.
Had a good night, Hayward, hasn't he? 4 goals and then laying tackles like that.
Could have said stopped at 4 goals and I would have said yep.
Riley Bice, the top disposal getter on the field for Sydney at the moment. Having a good game, new in Swan colours as well. As Rowbottom grabs it and he hand passes it across to Jordan. And then it's hand passed back to him and dodging around. It'll be a kick inside 50. It's a flat one. And it's easily chopped off by Tucker of North Melbourne, who puts the kick out wide. And Powell has to run onto it. He's got Blakey closing on him late, and then it comes off Constanti. It's insufficient intent. He basically ran onto it, and there wasn't much more he could do.
And he was pushed onto it as well. That's so stiff.
And it's a Nick Blakey free kick right at the interchange gates.
Constanti let the umpire know what he thought about that call as well, as Blakey kicks up towards Amati, caught behind with Logue in front. Beautifully crumbed by Sheldrick. His kick inside 50 though, chopped off by Stevens, who marks in front of Hayward. Switches it out to McDonald, who marks in the left back pocket. Out pass to Charlie Comben. Takes a bounce, tries to draw Laddams, who slipped over in the end. Out pass to Stevens, now to McKercher. Bit more space on the City wing. Hanson Jr.'s in space. He takes the mark. He can chip it over the top to Zurha. Gives the hand pass instead. It wasn't that clean. He bounces into Bice. Socket forward by Hanson Jr. Gathered by McCartan of the Swans. Hand pass to Roberts. They've been clean tonight. Hand pass to Wicks. His kick on cue misses the target. Hayward spins out of traffic though and gathers.
Too easy.
He chips it out to Jake Lloyd, who marks at left half-back. The Swans by 66 points.
Jake Lloyd, who brought up game 250 in the first round, or round one rather, of the season out of the Horsham Demons, and just flares it backwards and into defensive 50 to Wicks.
Horsham Demons, another rival of the Warragul Gulls. I don't think they've ever played against each other.
But in theory they would be.
Everyone's an enemy.
The kick comes down to Amadi. He taps it down right at centre wing towards Rowbottom, who grabs it, shrugs off the tackler, and then gets the footy back in the end from Sheldrick and moves it down to Lloyd, who takes a bounce. He'll just stream inside 50. He will have a go at the goals himself, but it just on the last line is marked by the North Melbourne defence in Stevens. So Lloyd won't get a goal, and Stevens will try and exit defensive 50 or help North do that via Sheasel, who just chips it across to Powell, and he'll mark 45 metres out from defensive goal.
Kicks out to Luke Parker at half-back. Gives the hand pass away to McDonald. Through the middle of the ground to Luke Davies-Uniacke. Now he's got Tucker, who's just come on from the bench. He's also got Curtis at half-forward. He kicks to Curtis on the bounce. He gathers, pokes it over the top. Options are plenty. And the mark is taken in the right forward pocket. And Jacob Costanti.
Yeah. This is that in-between distance, Chad. What would you go with, the snap or the straight-ahead drop punt?
I'd actually get closer to the man on the mark and snap it. Yeah. So
I thought you were about to say balk him then. Just for a brief moment.
Well, I'm a retired player now. I can say whatever I want, to be honest.
You certainly could do with something to spark this game. Costanti in the right forward pocket, never got near it.
I wouldn't have done that.
Just scrapes in from a minus corner. I think we would have done better than that. It's a 65-point lead Sydney's way. If you want to join us, 0437 774 774 is the SMS number.
A long kick out of defence comes to Tom McCartan, who just works his way off his opponent and holds on to the mark as he chips it slightly forward and spots up Cleary, who goes with a short pass as well.
Just watch the red and white numbers away from the ball carrier, how much movement there is and the spacing between them.
Angus Sheldrick, the sub, looking for Romani, gets it to him. It was a little low, couldn't take the mark. It'll be Hanling who can take the footy and just move the ball towards Jordan, still in the hands of the Swans. Hand pass towards Cleary. He'll kick to Campbell at the top of the 50. Punched away by McDonald. Campbell goes in after it. Has to send a blind pass over the top of him. It'll work for Grundy, who can just tap the ball away, then goes after his own ball. It's stolen now by McKercher of North. Hand passes it to his captain, Simpkin, who just flares it out wide to Stevens, who will mark it at left half back for the Kangaroos.
And now let's have a look at the blue and white jumpers. Not the ball carrier so much, but who is working and moving for the ball carrier just off the football. It's a stark difference is the point that I'm trying to make and really labouring the point slowly. Sydney doing it quite well at North Melbourne. Not so much.
Simpkin got a 50-metre penalty after Bice knocked the ball out of his hands and he turns it straight over. Rampy takes the mark. It's fair to say this game has teetered away a little bit as Wicks on the wing looks up towards half forward. He almost turns it over. Charlie Conman can't gather it cleanly. It's picked up by Hayden McLean. He kicks for a Marty. 1-2. Just couldn't hang on at the last moment. And off hands it goes out of play for a boundary throw in the right forward pocket. Hayden Core did well to spoil it out of play.
I'll tell you one thing that's really obvious between the both teams. I think North Melbourne are handballing to pressure, to someone that's got pressure on them directly. And Sydney, as soon as they only handball to get someone out, and if they feel like they're under pressure and if they're going to transfer that pressure, they actually kick. And that's one thing that's been really noticeable, especially this last quarter.
Chad Wingard with you on ABC Sport. Tristan Sherry, the North Melbourne ruck, takes it out and clears it. Kicks up to the wing. Zurha caught behind. Rampy knocks it down. Bice's confidence continues to grow. He kicks up towards half forward. Sheldrick, the sub, takes the mark. He goes out laterally and finds James Jordan just on 50, but up against the boundary.
Surely you put this right near Caleb Daniels' head, right?
He's got a Marty in the goal square. McLean as well. Called to play on. He's 50-odd metres out from goal, so he pokes it into the pocket. McLean got hands to it, couldn't hang on to it. Comben gets a hand pass away to Caleb Daniel. He links up with Simpkin, kicks it to Cherry, who marks it left half back.
Did you just mean the geography of Caleb Daniel's head, or is there something a bit more personal?
I think when you got someone that small in a hole, you got to put it right on his head. Like he's either going to move out of the way or get in a lot of pain, and you're going to mark it. Like we used to do a set play all the time with Paddy Ryder.
North Melbourne defenders just overworking it throughout the defensive 50 as Core gets it back to McDonald, and he just works it to the outer side of the ground to Sherry. So it's back with the person who started the play, and Sherry will hand pass to Simpkin, who's going on a little jog as he pops it away looking for Daniel. It goes over the top of his head in the end, and Grundy's there to collect. Takes the footy, hand passes it away to Corey Warner, who streams right through the two centre circles of Docklands and then puts the kick out to a one-on-one, and it'll be one out by Hardiman, the North Melbourne sub, who hand passed it away, and it's a 2-on-1, and it was the Swans players winning the numbers as Cleary gets up, and so does Tucker as well from North Melbourne, as Campbell is the other Swan that gets up for a ball up between wing and half forward for Sydney, holding on to that 65-point lead.
Thrown up. Sherry wins down the tap to Simpkin. His kick is chopped off by Roberts, not 15, so he's called to play on. Has enough time to backtrack and get it to Jake Lloyd. He's going to go all the way back to Rampy. So reliable, the Sydney Swans, with those 15 players tonight who featured in their grand final defeat last year to the Brisbane Lions. Kicks up towards Grundy, off the hands of Larkey. Caleb Daniel gathers, dodges and weaves away from Cleary. Centering ball is a good kick in the end. It finds Powell. Hand pass to Sheasel, kicks end over end, up towards Costanti on the wing. Hand pass to the runner McKercher. He needs support. It's another hand pass to Davies Uniacke, who tries to give it back to McKercher. Little toe pokers wide of Simpkin. It's messy from the Kangaroos. Simpkin gathers one way, then the other. Parker just came on from the bench. Good boundary side hand pass to him. He swings onto his right, kicks up towards Darling. It clears him, and the mark is taken to the back. Riley Bice, reliable set of hands, 15 metres out from his defensive goal.
Again, North Melbourne don't know when to handle or when to kick. They're over-butchering it with the hands, and they're putting people under pressure. And when they're out, they don't kick. And it's just creating so much confusion of when to lead as a forward, when not to. Do we hold back? It's just that uncertainty that makes it impossible to have that connection between mid and forward.
Bice to Rampy, and he just chips it forward towards Florent, who's also happy just to flick the ball further forward to Rampy, who's now exited defensive 50. He's marked on the outer side, and we'll just share it with Florent again. Just 15 metres, and Florent's inside defensive 50 for the Swans. He hooks the kick across to Bice, and Bice marks, and we'll just chip it out to McCartan. So Bice with his 25th disposal of the night, across to McCartan. And McCartan moves it to Bice again. So he gets another touch and flicks it, the kick towards Corey Warner, who marks on the AFL logo right at centre wing of Docklands tonight. Corey Warner puts the kick out wide. He was looking for Cleary, but it was just a little too wide for him, and in the end Hardiman works him off it, and it'll be a throw in between wing and half forward for the Swans.
This is the trouble with North Melbourne. They're playing like a zone. They call it bubbles. That's what bubbles defence, which is what Clarko calls it. But there's gaps, and if you don't hand over with strong connection, people were just able to get uncontested marks all the way out the ground. They gathered 50 metres from just uncontested marks with no one putting a hand on them.
Heaney tries to work the footy for himself from the throw-in, can't in the end, and it's won back by North in the end. Daniels, though, his kick was intercepted, and it's Corey Warner who will kick it long, right deep inside 50 into the pocket for the Swans. It's Core that picks it up, hand passes it to McDonald, and North trying to work it out of defence. The kick goes across to Comben, who kicks it across to Core, and he'll run right through the goal square to try and switch it across to the broadcast side of the ground, and he does hit up Simpkin.
Chad, just at halftime we got a text that asked what sort of defence was North Melbourne playing? Was it a zone, man on man?
Yeah, here we go.
Where would the bubble fit into that? Like, in all seriousness, would it be that?
It's a zone. So
it's a zone,
the bubble, it's basically you've got a 5 metre bubble around you, and that's the area that you control. And if someone comes across your area, you take them, but as soon as someone's out of your area, you hand it over. But if you don't have a strong handover, it means basically no one's on anyone, but you're sharing that responsibility.
So it's a fine line between you can defend multiple opposition players or no one.
But it's good. You've got to have energy in your feet. You look at Sydney, they're almost borderline, they're man on man, but they have like a soft zone, so they help out and they create confusion by moving their feet 1 metre one way and then 1 metre the other way. And that's how you get electricity in your feet when I call it that. And it creates confusion because where do I kick it?
Chad Wingard and Bob Murphy with you on ABC Sport. Grundy took it out of the ruck at half back. Hand pass to Rowbottom. Kicks up towards half forward. Laddam spoiled it down. McLean with a hand pass to Cleary. To Laddams in the left forward pocket. Can he redeem himself? Good centering ball as he works it right into the corridor, and Tom Hanley takes the mark.
He might be a right footer. That might be what happened.
I'll confirm with you later.
I'll mention that when you slide into his DMs and say, is it possible that you could be kicking favouring the wrong foot? It's just a question.
It's probably something you should figure out pretty soon, I'd imagine.
Yeah, but we've got a growth mindset.
Yeah, that is true.
Always looking to get that edge.
Tom Hanley, the first-year Swan, looking for a second tonight from directly in front, 45 metres out. He rams home another one as Sydney look to pile on the paint and add another goal to their tally. 2 goals to none so far in this final term. Sydney 17-9, 111 to North Melbourne 6-4-40. The Swans leading by 71 points. So since half-time, that's 9 goals to 1.
All jokes aside, it was a really lovely piece of play from Laddams. Yep. Really good presence of mind, particularly, you've talked about it all night, Chad, of the standards that Sydney are famous for. And deep in the last quarter, you're up by 12 goals already. And just he has that selfless attitude of, I could roll around on my left foot and maybe cover myself in another bit of glory. Chooses to turn, goes on what we think is his opposite foot and puts it into a dangerous position. But it's really selfless play.
71 points, the advantage of Sydney. The Swans won by 79 points the last time they met, in round 19 at the SCG. So in direct comparison of that, it's still pretty ugly for North as the ball makes its way out to centre wing. And it's a strong tackle laid on Hardiman. And then the umpire will come in and toss the ball up just in front of the North Melbourne bench. Darling doing the ruck work with Grundy, who punches it away. Ball falls to ground. Darling falls on top of it, pushes it out, but it's only to the advantage of Rowbottom of the Swans. Hand passes it away. Simpkin picks it up, weaves through a little bit of traffic. Hand pass to Parker, who hand passes it back to Hardiman. Long kick right half forward. He was looking for Zerha, and in the end, it's Tom McCartan.
He's been excellent tonight.
Yeah,
he's taken a lot of intercept marks, and it was just another one to add to McCartan. He goes back to the safe hands of Ollie Florent in defensive 50.
Florent looking back to McCartney, turns it over. Cam Zerha takes the mark. Larky streaming towards goal. Zerha still has to push back behind his mark. Gestures for him to lead in the pocket. He does just that. Good kick. Larky 1, 2, 3. Just got it at the last moment. Just inside the boundary line in the right forward pocket. Felt goalless on 4 occasions last year, including round 24 against Hawthorn. Chance for his first shot on goal coming at the 24-minute mark of the final term.
It's going to take his best. I mean, he's had it's probably one of his worst games so far this year, and it'd be nice just to finish off with something positive, especially in our last quarter. But it's going to take his absolute best from this angle.
7 disposals for Nick Larky tonight. He's kicked 12 goals of the season. This will need something special. Comes in, threads the needle superbly. Absolute class from Nick Larky. He's had a very quiet night. Able to get something to finish with there. Sydney's lead is cut back to 65 points as the Kangas have their first goal of the final term. 17-9, 111 to North Melbourne 7-4-46. 24 minutes gone. Final term on the SMS. Carolyn from Ballarat has been in touch, enjoying seeing my Swannies win. Loving the commentary tonight. Thanks for a great call, guys, and wonderful woman. Shout out to Loz there. Louise is not quite on our page. What I hate about football the most is when the game is so bad the commentators have to try and become comedians. Marcus in South Melbourne says, Richmond went down fighting today. North Melbourne have not. Is that a fair call, guys?
I would say that's fair.
That's a great call.
Absolutely. Yep. This last quarter's been okay. The third quarter was really, really disappointing.
65 points, Sydney Swans advantage. Out of the middle, it's Rowbottom that takes it and hurries a kick right inside defensive 50 for the Swans. It's Hardiman, though, that collects in defence for North, and he clears it out towards Tucker at the left half-back area of Docklands for North. Just kicks it towards Simpkin, who's been prolific, but in this last term turns it over towards Matt Roberts, who's then tackled late and that'll be a 50-metre penalty. Roberts took the mark and then was tackled afterwards, so he'll be marched to about the top of the 50-metre arc for the Swans.
Geez, and straightened him up a little bit. That's pretty nice of him.
You got to... Oh, he has too.
Yeah, he straightened him up pretty much dead in front.
Gone from about a 45-degree angle to, yeah, you're right, almost in front of goals.
Take that.
That forward...
Yeah, I've got a real forward
in your marrow.
Matt Roberts hasn't kicked a goal so far this year. A good-looking kick as it leaves its boot. And it is perfect. Absolutely roosted it. And he gets onto the scoreboard as well for the Swans today. 71 points the advantage heads out to. That's an equal game high lead. And it's the 18th goal for the Swans tonight. 18-9, 117. North Melbourne, 7-4-46. 26 minutes played in the final term on ABC Sport.
And that's a great reward for effort. That's on the back of defence. Obviously, Matt Roberts, he's playing in that, obviously helping out, kind of soft zone, helping off his man and impacting the ball. And that's what you can do. You can play some of your best offense off your defence. If you really, like I said, I've mentioned it before, the electricity in your feet, staying alive on the ball, off the ball, sorry. And that's what makes it really hard for a kicker, because I thought that goal was on as well. And I bet as a kicker, Simpkin probably thought that was on as well. And looked like he had 5 metre space, but it's very quickly, you can, over 20 metre span, you can really impact that ball if you're alert and reactive really quickly.
Darling does the ruck work, and the roving gets the clearance, kicks north inside 50, and Larkey holds onto a fingertipper. Just slightly right of centre. Tom McCartan's done a good job on him tonight, but Nick Larkey was desperate to try and hang on to that one. Probably Nick Blakey almost should have got a fist on that one. Larkey with the goal from deep in the right forward pocket. This is more conventional. Slightly right of centre. Larkey with a hop and a skip comes in for his second. Something for the North Melbourne fans who have hung around late here. Their second goal of the final term. The margin is back to 65 points Sydney's way. 18-9, 117. To North Melbourne, 8-4-52.
And it's pretty amazing his set shot. He's kicked at 80% goal rate this year at Marvel Stadium, booting 5 and 3 goals respectively. But, I mean, going back to that last set shot that he had, I thought for sure he was going to at least banana that or go on his left, but he was on the tightest angle imaginable, and he just backs his set shot routine in. And it was like the smallest of margins. And obviously from a right footer kicking on the right pocket, it normally goes from right to left, and he just absolutely caresses it straight through the goals. I mean, must feel with great confidence that if he marks the ball inside forward 50, that he's going to kick a goal. It's pretty amazing, his routine.
Couple of late ones from Larkey as Rowbottom again gathers the clearance, spins around, hand pass to Campbell, hand pass across to Sheldrick. They're moving it quickly. It goes over the top of the intended target, and Lowe can take the mark. He's taken in the tackle, skies the footy. Comben comes out and marks. He's trying to clear the kick away for North Melbourne, and in the end his kick is intercepted by Florent. He was going nowhere, that kick, and Florent sat under it, and he gets a chance to have a set shot from about 50 metres out. Very late in this final term. In fact, it'll be after the siren. Ollie Florent's already got a goal tonight. And it's just a matter of the margin. A big win for the Swans coming up. Florent lets it rip towards the goals. It'll be punched away. Will it just sneak through in the end? Yes.
Does that count? No, it's got to come off one person, right?
So punched away. And in the end, it is 65 points the margin for Sydney. They continue to hold the wood over North Melbourne. A 9th consecutive win against the Kangas, and an absolute drubbing by 65 points.
Whether the odds be great or small, Swans will go in and win overall. While our loyal Swans are marching onwards to victory.
It was all Sydney from the beginning of the game. 21 points ahead at quarter time, 22 at half time. But it was the third quarter where the Swans really put their foot down, scoring 7 goals 3 to North Melbourne, 1 goal 2 to have an advantage of 59 points at three-quarter time, which they then extended out to 65 points by the final siren. Joel Amati with 4 goals and Will Hayward with 4 as well, leading the way in the scoring, and Riley Bice with 26 disposals, the young Swan leading the way in terms of the possession count.
Shake down the thunder from the sky. Whether
win, and Luke Parker, unfortunately, can't get the victory against his old side. A little bit of pushing and shoving, and we saw a little bit of fire in it, particularly in that first half. But it is the Swans' 65-point winners. The 9th consecutive win they've had against North Melbourne. Plenty of goal kickers, 10 for the Swans, as Will Haywood had 4, Joel Amati had 4, Tom Hanley, a couple for him. Matt Roberts had a single one in that final quarter as well. Peter Laddams, Braden Campbell, Ollie Florent with singles. Angus Sheldrick as well as the sub got in on the action. Hayden McLean with 1 and Chad Warner with a couple before he was subbed out. And then for North Melbourne, Paul Curtis with 2, Nick Larkey with a couple, and Luke Parker with 2 as well against his old side. And then Cam Zerha and Colby McKercher each with singles for North. Sydney winning 18-9, 117 to North Melbourne, 8-4, 52.
After the Swans lost their first game, 2 games under Dean Cox, they get their season on track with a whopping 65-point win over North Melbourne. And with no Tom Papley, 10 individual goal kickers, as they show there's still a bit of development needed for the Kangaroos who gather in a tight huddle at the top of the 50. Just trying to have a look as to Jai Simpkin, who's issuing the orders with a tight group. No doubt a message to his playing group as they leave Docklands in front of 31,955 fans. Sydney winners by 65 points. Bob Murphy and Chad Winger with their thoughts on what was a pretty dominant display by the Sydney Swans.
Yeah, I think, well, you look at the stats and you're thinking that North Melbourne were right in this game, mate. They had 8 out of the top 10 ball getters, but they were just wasteful. I thought they just disposed of the ball very poorly. They handballed when they should have kicked, and Sydney were just so efficient. They just moved the ball however which way they wanted to. They chipped around at some stages, but then they ran through the middle. I thought their turnovers, scores against was really great. But I think it's a game of which system was played better. I think Sydney knew exactly how to play and how to win this game, and they set themselves up from stoppages, from when the ball got pinned in their forward 50. And I think North Melbourne are still trying to find their way how they want to move the ball. I thought they got pinned too wide too often, like that, and then they kick. I don't think I have a real direction of how North Melbourne want to move the ball and how they want to play the game at their if it was on their terms. And it's each week I find things that I'm impressed with and then things that I am not sure about. And this week I think the standards really dropped for them. I think they lowered their colours definitely in that third term, as you said, Murph. I think you can't have a quarter like that from pure effort and losing centre clearances that often and territory battle and expect to be in a game. You can't do that at the third quarter, especially at halftime. You just that first couple goals, it just really looked like they were at the end of the last quarter. It looked tight, and they just came out of a halftime break. And I think they've got a lot of they've got to look in the mirror and start to say, what do I want to get out of my career, and what do we stand for as a club, and how do we get there? What are the things that we're going to build ourselves off of? And we can't keep coming into matches and give the North Melbourne faithful something to hope for the first 10 minutes or a quarter or two. We've got to put it all together, and I really thought tonight was really a great opportunity on their home deck, great crowd, and I thought Sydney being undermanned, I really thought walking in, I picked Sydney, but I really thought they were a massive chance.
Yeah, I was expecting more from North Melbourne, if I'm being brutally honest. And I think there's reasons, and we can explain, I think, 3/4 of what happened tonight. The first half, Sydney had a healthy lead at quarter time and half time, but there was another universe where North Melbourne could have been a lot closer. They actually showed a fair bit of fight. They took the game up to the Swans at various times when they moved the ball with a bit more purpose, and they switched with a bit more intensity, and the quality of the entries was better. They actually did unsettle Sydney for a little bit of it, and in the last quarter they did fight it out. At 3/4 time, we put the heat on them, saying, hey, this could get really ugly. When you're down by 10 goals at 3/4 time, this could get really, really ugly. Now it's still a 12-goal thrashing, but it could have been a hell of a lot worse. The focus, I think, for North Melbourne, for where they're at the moment, Alistair Clarkson has been there for a little while now. This group has been building for a little while now. This is not just a brand new setup that they're rolling out with. That third quarter was unacceptable. It was really, really poor. It was all of the things we don't want. Now, you can throw numbers at it. They had even inside 50s. They had a lot of possessions all night. That third quarter was uncompetitive, and the body language was poor. There was almost a bit of, this is just a bit too hard. And, yep, they found something in the last quarter, so you got to give them that. But the third quarter, for where North Melbourne are at as a footy club at the moment, is really, really disappointing, I think, if you're a North Melbourne supporter.
Yeah, there'll be certainly some questions to Alistair Clarkson about their development and progression. He said, we're tired of honourable performances. Well, tonight was a step back as Sydney put on a dominant display, winners by 65 points. 18-9, 117, and North Melbourne 8-4, 52. As the Swans make their way off Docklands and into their change rooms, Lex Pescia is waiting as they make their way towards you, Lex.
It's very exciting down here, actually, guys. Dean Cox walked in first, biggest smile on his face, went straight to the family and friends. You like that? Tom Papley in front of me with a moonboot on, still smiling, of course. Very happy scenes down here. Wait for the song. Oh, we're trying to figure out who we throw Gatorade on. Here we go.
Sydney winners by 65 points to get their season back on track. They move to 2 wins and 2 wins and 2 losses, I should say, while the Kangaroos are 1 win and 3 losses. It sets up a big clash between the Sydney Swans and Collingwood for gather round from the Adelaide Oval on Friday night. While North Melbourne doesn't get any easier for them. They take on the Gold Coast Suns in the Barossa next week for gather round. Sydney winners by 65 points.
Do you know, we talked a lot about ball movement tonight and just the stark difference between the very experienced, beautifully skilled Sydney team and North Melbourne, who we've talked a lot about, developing, still finding their rhythm and connection and human chemistry and all of those different descriptions of where they're at. But just in terms of what the opportunities were for North Melbourne tonight. And as I was walking into the ground, I thought, oh, you know what? The combination of Larkey, Darling and Zurhaar is quite a devastating one, potentially. That's a really good mix of types of forward. And I thought, I wonder how that goes and if they could unsettle the Sydney defenders. Well, Joel Hamling, Dane Rampy and Tom McCartan took those 3 men to school tonight. They really suffocated them. Larkey had a couple of late. He never stopped trying. They never stopped trying, but there wasn't a lot of method to it. Jack Darling, as a 300 gamer more or less, being recruited in as that role player, he really needed to. It needed to be obvious that he was there to block and shepherd and make life easier for Nick Larkey and co, and that's just not what we saw. So it's a small part of a much bigger story, but I expected a bit more.
We'll come back to that. Sydney winners by 65 points. Let's head back into their rooms with Lex.
Hello, thanks, guys. I'm with the Ruckman, Brodie Grundy. Firstly, congratulations on the win. Must be nice off a bye.
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
How does it feel to finally get such a dominant win after having a week off?
Yeah, it is pleasing. A bye can be a long time in footy, and particularly the trip home after Perth. So we used it as an opportunity to just regroup, and we're sort of periodising our season. So the first few weeks of the year, there were some good things and some things that we are looking to improve on. And we're looking forward to the next block of games, which is the next sort of 4 games, in the next block of the season for us. And it was a good start to that.
I want to ask you about your opponent. Tristan Xerri has got such a rap to start the season. When you went into this game, how do you prepare for something like that? And you were able to, I guess, nullify him, even if he did win on the stats sheet tonight.
Yeah, look, he's a quality opposition and he's a physical player, so I was just looking to match that.
And finally, no Tom Papley out there, but every person seemed to step up. 10 individual goal scorers. It must be pleasing.
Yeah, that's a real strength of our side, is our goal-kicking ability, and we'd like to share the love, and I'm not sure who was on the end of the goals tonight, but we certainly try to share the load.
I'll hand you over to Bob Murphy and Chad Woodgard.
Brodie, how you going, brothers? Chad here.
Hey, Chad.
Bro, I've got to ask this because I don't think I've seen it too much in the AFL, but the way you lined up in the centre bounces, who initiated that? Was that a plan on your behalf, or was Zach Xerri? Because, I know I've seen you play basketball and you're bloody good at it, but what was the tactic behind that, and who initiated that?
Mate, I literally don't know what happened. My head must have been in the clouds, and one of the trainers said to me during the break, mate, what the hell were you doing then? And so it just sort of happened by fluke, and no one really pulled it up. Did you guys notice it straight away?
No, I noticed it straight away. I was like, I've never seen that before. I was like, what's happened? But then even centre bounces, like you guys were starting very close, and I haven't seen that too often. Obviously, you're both two of the best ruckmen in the game at the moment, but I've just never seen you guys not run and jump at it as much.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so what was that tactic with that setup?
Yeah, well, like, just
without giving away too much, sorry,
well,
mate.
No, because, at the end there, when I went to run and jump and Jack Darling, you can now push people out of the way, really, and that's what happens if you just have a clean run and jump, and the opposition uses their size and strength. So that's why more and more now you'll see people just meet at the line and make it a bit of a ball up. So gone are the days really where you can get a really clean run and jump at it, because you can essentially block now in the centre bounce.
Yeah, and probably just the last one for me, mate. How was it like playing against your old teammate Luke Parker? Obviously, absolute ripper of a player and a club man for Sydney. How was it going up against him, and how will the boys, I suppose, deal with that with the week coming in?
Yeah, to be honest, it wasn't a big focus for us. We've got a lot of respect for Luke and the contribution he's given to our club. He's been a stalwart, and he'll be celebrated, and he has been celebrated for his contribution. So, yeah, it was more of a focus on us tonight. And I spoke to Luke after the game. I asked him how did that feel. Was it weird? And I know how it can feel playing your old side. I think he just would have liked for it to been a little bit more competitive on the scoreboard. But I thought he played well.
Brodie, it's Bob Murphy. Congratulations on a dominant win. The third quarter in particular, the class of the two sides became really, really obvious. Was there anything that needed to be adjusted at halftime? I know you went in with a bit of a lead, but the third quarter was so dominant. Was it a case of anything different, or was it more of just you guys being able to stick to that plan and having that level of experience and depth?
Bob, to be honest, your guess is as good as mine. I don't really recall too much of the game at the moment. I'm pretty pooped, so
can happen.
I'm just being honest with you, brother.
No, it can happen, mate.
But heading into the game, like, we wanted to try and take away the uncontested marks and bring our pressure. So I'm not sure exactly what that looked like in terms of the third quarter, but that was something that we wanted to take away from them.
And as one of the elder statesmen of that footy club now, I mean, I know you came into tonight's game expected to win, but, wins on the road, particularly early in the year, how important is that?
It is. It's really important. And we know, or you know as well, how much that travelling can take it out of your body. And yeah, it's something that I wasn't used to when I was playing for Collingwood, and now you're sort of on the road every second week. So it is important to bank those wins, and it's good to be, what is it now, 2-4. It's a good position to be in early in the season.
Brodie Grundy, Sydney Ruckman, with us on ABC Sport. Can you tell us a little bit about Riley Bye? Such a great story. Comes from Werribee, he also played with Albury up in the Ovens and Murray Footy League, and now he's playing some really good footy for Sydney after coming in for a mature age recruit. So what's he like, around the club, and what's he soaking in from you and the rest of the team?
What you see is what you get. He's pretty much what he looks like. He's just a laid-back, cool operator that, he's got a deadly left foot and a nice set of jukes. So he's almost like a Nick Blakey 2.0, which is really special to be able to pick him up. Needle in a haystack type of setup. Really, it's a big win for our club.
Brodie, it's Matt Clinch here. All the serious questions have been done, so I'll just ask you about Peter Laddams' shot for goal just before half-time. Chad's going to slide into his DMs and tell him that's one of the worst kicks he's seen in AFL footy. Have you got a bit of work to do with your fellow ruckman?
Oh, mate, we do our best, our ruckman. But, hey, you know what he did do well? What about that candy he was selling on the boundary and a bounce? So, mate, Pete, there's lots of tricks to Pete, but that wasn't one of his best.
Well answered.
Brodie, congratulations on the win. Always great to catch up. Good luck against the Pies on Friday night in Gather Round.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Brodie Grundy joining us following Sydney's 65-point victory over North Melbourne. 18-9, 117 to North Melbourne, 8-4-52. And, the tactics around the ruck battle in the middle of the ground, it's fascinating how, we've taken away the run and jump and the clash of knee on knee, and it's probably a good thing for the game. But you're right, Chad, at times it does look like a basketball jump at times, a jump ball.
Yeah, I think you got a little bit confused with my question, Brodie Grundy, but it was a very strange. I've never seen that. I've been in plenty of centre bounces, but I've never seen them line up right next to each other for that that close, like toes touching, for that many times, especially from two ruckmen that are probably the best in the game at the moment.
I'm trying to think of the actual size of those two guys. They wouldn't often come up against ruckmen who were as big as them. I'd love to check that out, whether that's actually fact, but that is one of the things, when the ball is recalled and it is a throw-up, it is a massive advantage to the guys who are just simply bigger.
Yep.
So I wonder if it was just maybe that was a factor in it, that they just weren't used to having that level of dominance. So it was a mirror image.
Or it could have been like a longevity. So, hey, mate, let's have a handshake. Like, the old wingers, like, handshake at the start of the game. I'll go this way, you go that way.
From what I understand of ruckman, they don't.
Of course.
They don't have that agreement. They're masters of the dark arts.
I thought it was more, they used to have the line, so you have to stay on your side of the line. They've taken that away now, so you can always start alongside. So the fear is, if you run and jump and your opponent doesn't, they could just bump you off balance. And, there is a potential to cause injury there. Not that would probably happen, but it does just show how different it is that the styles and the ruckmen are trying to have their own different ways to sort of have an impact.
Well, just listen to the level of analysis we're giving.
Right.
Brody had
Absolutely.
no idea what we were talking about, and he was involved. He was doing it.
I think we can head back down to the Sydney Swans rooms. Winners by 65 points. Lex Pesher is down there.
Hello, guys. I am with Joel Amati. We've got to keep this one quick, so we'll get straight to it. Joel, an impressive effort from you tonight. 4 goals. How does that feel?
Yeah, it's always nice to hit the scoreboard, but I think we had such a young side in with some of our key leaders like Paps and Juzzy, and they're all all out. So to win like that with such a young group was really impressive.
That your forward line seems to be gelling even no matter who's around. Do you guys feel that as well? And do you have a lot of confidence knowing you guys can stand up when someone is out?
Yeah, of course. I think we have so many different avenues of goals. Braden Campbell, Will Hayward, stuff. They're such good ball users. You've got Riley Bice off half-back, who's such a good ball user. So we've got so many different avenues of goals. It's not just one person the focal point. It's a bit of everyone can death by 1,000 cuts sort of thing. So everyone keep goals any week. So it's really, really good.
All right, ABC experts Chad Wingard and Bob Murphy, over to you.
How you going, mate? Chad here. I thought you played an unbelievable game, mate. I feel like you're getting better every year and every week. With your set shot, I feel like you're very confident in your routine at the moment. Is something that you're, I suppose, mindful of, especially when you're, I suppose, getting both your set shots about 40 metres out. How confident do you feel in your set shot and your routine, I suppose, this year compared to previous years?
Yeah, I've really nailed down on a specific routine. I think I've got the leg power to get most distance from anywhere. So I actually slowed my routine down a little bit in terms of momentum through the ball, just to really focus on that ball drop, and that's paying dividends the last couple of years.
Hey, Joel, congratulations. Bob Murphy up here. The teammates you have, particularly through the midfield, are beautiful kicks of the football, but also the connection that the forwards have with your midfielders is something that really stands out. And just those kicks, even if they're slightly to advantage, is that something you put a lot of time into during the week?
Yeah, I think since our forward line's so dynamic, you look at all our players, a lot of speed and a lot of leaders, people who like to come at the ball. So, and you got to look at our half-backers, Nick Blakey, Riley Bice, a new addition, who are just so good at identifying the space even before the forward actually moves into it. And then since there's no focal point, we all move together, and I think it's taken a couple of years to get that synergy and sort of know where everyone is and how everyone plays. And then, the likes of Chatty and Haynes who go through there as well. I think it's just really working at the moment.
Joel Amati's with us on ABC Sports. So how do you feel like you're tracking, Joel, and how different is the voice of Dean Cox compared with John Longmire last season from your point of view?
It's always nice to have a breath of fresh air, but it's been such a consistent club over so many years, and Big Coxie's been around since my first year, so 7 or 8 years now, so it's not too much of a different voice, but then just slight different tactics he's employed this season, and I think getting that ball movement right, but mainly starting on the contest and the defensive side, and then that sets up and makes offence very easy for us.
Absolutely. You're a joy to watch tonight, that third quarter. Do you feel like that's as good as you played since last season?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's the most consistent game I think I've had this year, and it's always nice to start that. As a 25-game season, 24-game season, so it always takes a couple of weeks to work into it, but I think we're starting to gel now and getting the ball rolling, which is good. Yeah, 10 individual goal kickers, and you led up front with Will Hayward with 4. Joel, thanks so much for your time. See you in Adelaide for Collingwood next Friday night. Appreciate it, fellas. Thank you.
Joel Amati joining us. Thanks to Lex Pesher, bringing us a couple of quick responses from the Sydney rooms. Winners by 65 points. 18-9, 117 to the Kangas, 8-4, 52. No surprise, the messages are coming through on the SMS 0437 774 774. You're allowed to be brutally honest, folks. Great goal tonight. Love the comedy flavour, but the Roos have a lot to learn. Their strategy is poor as usual. Good luck to the doggies for Bob.
Oh, a little bit of a PS at the end there. That's nice, wasn't it?
How harsh will the Kangaroos fans be on what they witnessed tonight, especially that third quarter where, unfortunately, their progression maybe took a little step back there?
Yeah, I think
it should be harsh.
Yeah,
this is the type of performance that 2 years ago would have made a bit more sense. For where they are at the moment, you can't give them a pass for that. Far from it. The first half, I was disappointed with the first half.
Yep.
What was it? 21 points at half time. But really, they had enough opportunities to bridge that gap. They had moments and control of big chunks of that first half where they could have put Sydney under a lot more pressure on the scoreboard. And some of it was skill level, but some of it is around this either overthinking it or just not thinking through things clearly enough. I was really, really upset with the third quarter. I mean, that's as bad a footy as I've seen this year. I know it's only early in the season, but that was a little bit unnerving of a side that's got so much to play for and that has been in the doldrums for quite a while. To sort of give up the way they did in that third quarter was really, really poor. They fought it out in the last quarter, yeah, but, I mean, when you're 10 goals down at three-quarter time, that's small praise, really. I think for where they're at as a footy club, really, really poor night for North Melbourne.
I think they're looking around the other clubs that are young and up and coming, and they'll see the fight of Richmond, right? And I think they'll see them in round one, how they took it up to Carlton and even just staying in the contest against Brisbane today and fighting back. And you say, why can't we do that? Why can't we at least show the fight? Why can't we, the stuff that we can control, you can't concede 8 goals in a row. You can't have centre bounce clearances without changing some sort of structure up. You can't just have so many free kicks against. You can't be lackadaisical in defence. You've got to show some sort of fight. You've got to have like the pillars and values that you stand by, regardless of what's happening in the game. And for me, I've watched so many North Melbourne games. I've been at 3 this year. That it's just the inconsistency. And I just really hope that they nail it on hand. I think they actually got to be harsh. I think that their expectations have got to really drive it up. Like you said, 2 years ago, this is probably acceptable, or you could see some steps forward, but I don't think they're taking enough steps forwards to even... is Clarko in the hot seat? Is probably my question. I don't know if it's their structure or their system or the voice that they're getting sick of, because I don't know how many more excuses you can ask for as a North Melbourne fan.
I found it insightful listening to you talking about the bubble and explaining the defence setup that they've gone with. So that would explain that if they're not quite getting it, so if they're stuck in their heads thinking, footy teams are never at their best if they're thinking too much. You want to be feeling and reacting on instinct. So that's why it does look a bit confusing. Are they man on man? Is it a zone? That's a fine line. I actually think that can come around a bit quicker than maybe what we give the credit for. It's when you see the inconsistent ball movement, that gives me a little bit more sort of heartburn around. Some players seem to want to take it through the corridor and want to switch the ball. Some players on one side of the ground want to switch the ball and on the other side can't or won't. Talking, Griffin Logue, left footer, one side of the ground, he's happy to swing around on his left foot. The other side, it's just not happening.
Yep.
Then you've got other players, young Scott, they've got no appetite for risk when they've got the ball in their hand. So for good, better or worse, you want to see those tactical alignments. So the team defence, that will take a bit of time and it's a fine line. When the ball movement is haphazard and doesn't kind of make sense from one bit of play or one quarter to the next, that is something that needs to be looked at a little bit closer, I think.
It's a bit of a reality check for the Kangas, looking to try and take that next step against the side who are missing some key personnel tonight. And in the end, it was a commanding victory by the Sydney Swans, winners by 65 points. We can head back down to the rooms. Lex Pesher is with us. Hey, Lex, you didn't get missed on the SMS as well. Coming through, 0437 774 774. Big shout out to live Pisher. We love you. That's from the G's in Scarborough, Western Australia. Is that your sister?
That's my twin sister.
Well, we love you up here.
I'm glad that they get it wrong even when my name's said. That's the joy of being a twin. Funnily enough, that's what I'm here for. I want to share a story about the Whitlocks. So Jack obviously played in the Sandful today. He got drafted by Port Adelaide at the end of the year. And I did a story with them in the pre-season and went out to Shepparton and got to meet them both. So I messaged Jack and I said, how nervous are you watching your twin brother as someone who knows that? What's that like? And he said I had to quickly catch a flight so he could get here halfway through the second. I thought, we love nice stories on ABC. And that was a beautiful story, a twin coming over to Melbourne to watch his twin play. I mean, he got subbed out, but that's okay. It was a beautiful story nonetheless.
It certainly was. Thanks, Lex. Thanks for your work tonight. Yep, Matt Whitlock, 18 years of age, 197 centimetres, picked 27 in the 2024 draft, and his brother, as you mentioned, was taken by Port Adelaide. Jack looking to make his debut, and they grew up on Shepparton, played through the Murray Bush Rangers and Vic Country. So great talent on display from regional Victoria, and the chance hopefully to continue in the family history of making their name in the AFL. Sydney winners by 65 points tonight. We might quickly just dot through some of the other results from tonight, and I'm keen to ask your opinions on what a week it has been for Simon Goodwin with Melbourne, Michael Voss at Carlton, as to who you'd prefer not to be, the Oscar Allen conversation. Bob, I'm particularly interested in your insights about a captain of a club meeting with an opposition team, but let's just quickly get our thoughts on the results so far today. So it was the Gold Coast Suns who prevailed by a point over the Adelaide Crows, 13-13-91 to the Crows 14-6-90. Riley Thilthorpe led the way with 5 goals. He got the votes in the ABC Footballer of the Year. The big talking point in this match was Isaac Rankin with the kick inside 50. It appeared he'd taken the mark. It wasn't paid a mark. Sam Collins came charge again. Here were the thoughts of Matthew Nix, his coach, the Adelaide Crows, and Ray Chamberlain, who's a part of our team, with a challenge for the umpires.
Boundary throw in. O'Brien, beautiful flip over the back to Dawson. Clearance for Adelaide. Hand passes to Peatling on the wing. Deep kick. Rankin's in the pocket. Rankin marks it. Oh, the ump didn't pay it. The umpire did not pay it. Right by Powell. Hand pass to Hewlin. Hewlin taken high. Free kick at right half back for the Suns.
Oh, Q.
I don't want to be anywhere near Rundle Mall right now.
Oh, no. It would be an exciting yet dangerous place to be.
Do you think Rank's marked it?
Look, my version of it is I think if he didn't mark it, he's tackled in a marking contest. But that's, again, we made so many mistakes throughout the game, things happen.
The mark, I'm not, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. They're an intuitive sort of judgment call. It's subjective. But I do think he was tackled to the ground from Collins and a free kick warranted.
I'd say there's some really frustrated fans of ours out there, and I feel for them, and I'm a little bit with them, but you need every bit of luck in that moment. That last minute and a half, we clearly didn't get things going our way. So I sort of sit here as a coach and say, well, what do I preach to the players? I preach about you being in the moment, don't blame others, get on with life. You got to butter up and go again next week. So I'm doing my best to stay in that space.
So that's Matthew Nix, the Adelaide Crows coach. Chad Wingard, you watched this last 5 minutes intently. I'm interested in your thoughts, Bob, as well. What did you think for the Isaac Rankin non-call?
Yeah, if you go to that contest, it was either a mark or it was a free kick. I agree with Nixie.
Probably a mark, definitely a free kick.
I think it's exactly right. It's best way to explain it. But the ball was.
Thank you.
They were under pump the whole last 5 minutes, Gold Coast, and it was a very great game to watch. And I think if you said at the start of the year that game was going to draw the attention that it did, I would have laughed in your face. Like I suppose it's a beauty of this sport. Like you just don't know at the start of the year which teams are going to be exciting to watch, and Gold Coast and Crows are going to be right up there. And like I said, it would have been funny if it was a draw, but it's a very stiff situation. But two really good teams going at it, and it going down to the wire is exactly what we love at this game.
Which I think is feeding part of our disappointment of North Melbourne tonight.
Yep.
That we just haven't really seen them give much of a yelp for a long time now. So tonight was, to be thumped the way they were was a bit like, it's almost a bit out of step with what we expect of the even competition these days.
So Hawthorn unbeaten on 4 wins. The Brisbane Lions unbeaten on 4 wins. The Gold Coast Suns now unbeaten on 3 wins. Do Adelaide lose any admirers in the way in which they played and how tight it was in the closing stages?
No, definitely not. Gold Coast are really hard to beat up there. I think their win rate is very high up there, and I think Hawthorn actually have like a 75% win rate down in Tassie. So those grounds are similar to Geelong, like back in the heyday. Like to play in those different arenas and different scenarios is really hard. I mean, and I've played in Gold Coast and played in TIO Stadium in Darwin as well. It's very slippery and it's a different, I suppose, game. And I think Crows did as good as they could have. I thought they still could have won the game, but they put themselves in a position to have a red-hot crack. And I think as fans of Crows, you're thinking the pressure was on them to make finals this year, and all the questions were, Nixie's the longest-standing coach at Adelaide Crows without playing a final. Like, that's a big stat that's hanging over his head. So the pressure's on him, and for him to handle that press conference after the game, he would have been biting his tongue, because that would have been such a hard thing to say. And I mean,
pretty well crafted, I think.
I thought so too. And I think if it was Dimmer, the opposite, I would have loved being a viewer, I would have loved to have gone the other way, because Dimmer's reaction would have been priceless.
Chad Wingard, Bob Murphy, Matt Clinch, Lauren Borton with you. You mentioned Damien Hardwick. Here was his reaction to the Suns' thrilling win.
Oh, look, it's a great game of footy. Like, it's tough. I thought both sides are quite capable of winning the game, and we were just fortunate at the end to be on the right end of the scoreboard. But I said to the players, it was a high contest game, 150 contested possession each, high pressure, 1.93. That's a big boys game of footy. I was really pleased. In particular, normally our motto's been, if you lose clearance, you beat the Suns. We lost clearance by -11, been a strong suit this year, and they went to work and got the job done, but we found another way to win, which is really important. Bank on our turnover game, which is important, and some things that they did really well. Their forward line is so tough to combat against, so I probably got a few things wrong with that I'll go to work on, but overall it was a great win for our boys.
Damien Hardwick following the Gold Coast Suns 1-point win over Adelaide. Riley Thilthorpe got the 3 votes in the ABC Football of the Year. Dan Rioli 2 and Isaac Rankin got the 1. The Adelaide Crows get a chance to try and bounce back to kick off Gather Round on Thursday night. They take on the Cats, while for North Melbourne, they take on the Gold Coast Suns. So a big challenge in the Barossa during Gather Round. The other result today, the Brisbane Lions, we touched on, they're still unbeaten. 28-point winners over the Tigers, who did show some fight after at stages it looked like Brisbane were going to wrestle open this game. 6-3 in both the second and the third quarter, before Richmond managed to score 3 goals in each of the terms after quarter time. Will Ashcroft with a contender for Goal of the Year from the centre of the ground.
Zorko trying to scoop it up, does so to Will Ashcroft against the boundary line. Surely not. The Dacos setback. Will Ashcroft, a work of art. Bounces it through the Norm Smith medalist from the right forward pocket. He's already got 1 Phil Manasseh medal as the Goal of the Year winner. He's got an early entry in the young season. He's second for the day.
That's ridiculous, Paulie. And he meant it. So he can make the ball talk, this kid.
You watch the celebration. He expects to kick. Yeah. There was no carry on. It was like, no. Here's what I was doing. Watch this. That's just brilliant.
Luke Paul and Adam Ramanaskas, Corbin Middlemass behind the mic. So everyone in praise of Will Ashcroft, the Norm Smith medalist. I think they added his brother Levi. The Lions just look like they're starting to get their season up and humming.
Yeah, they're in fine touch for a side that is a reigning premier. It's often the story of the early part of the season is those that played in the grand final can be a bit slow out of the blocks, and that was probably true of the Sydney Swans, but not so for the Lions, who are they undefeated 4 on the trot. So I'm pretty happy with that.
They're flying at the moment.
In good shape.
So they're the results so far to have happened for Saturday and Saturday night footy. Coverage continuing tomorrow, of course, AFL Sunday with myself and Cameron Ling from midday. And then the action continues throughout the day on your radio as we jump around a little bit. The Giants taking on the West Coast Eagles from the Sydney Showgrounds. Port Adelaide taking on St Kilda, and Fremantle and the Western Bulldogs is a fascinating way to close out round 4 of the AFL. I'm interested in both your opinions on Melbourne and Carlton, as 2 sides who are yet to get a win so far. If you were to try and come up with a quick little short synopsis as to what's wrong at both clubs, with the sort of some of the analysis now as to whether the game has moved past those sort of styles of footy where it's clearance and contested footy heavily relying, and sort of their questions more on Simon Goodwin and Michael Voss. Is there one you feel is under the intensity more than the other?
Oh, Vossi by far. I mean, they're expected to win and expected to win now. And they've actually gone away from their contested and, I suppose, going long down the line kind of ball. They're actually, I've done some good research on them. They're going through the corridor way too much, and they're going to 50-50 contests way too much. So I think they've got a real direction. They're trying to go through the corridor. And last week, they had 6 goals from their turnovers, and they only scored 4 goals in the second half. So this is second half. They had 4 goals won against them from their turnovers, and they only scored 4 goals. So they're getting scored against more than them actually going through the corridor, which shows to me that they either don't have the skill or they don't have the direction. So Zachy Williams, for instance, had a kick for 40 metres, or 40 metres, and he's kicked to an out number, and they're going from their back 50 into their corridor. So I think they're pushing to go to the corridor, and they're trying to try something new to get a new score source, but it's just not paying off. And I think the best teams that go through the corridor are the ones that are getting it through uncontested, or they're getting it off of turnovers. So they're handballing through and getting speed on the ball. They're not trying to generate it or force it. And that's what's worrying me about Carlton and their second halves. Like, they've scored 8 goals or something in their second halves total, and they've had 24 goals scored against them. So, like, they've given up. They're being competitive for the first half, and in the second half, they've just go to water. And I think it's basically on their system. Like, I don't think they have the depth. Paddy Cripps didn't have a good game on the weekend, and as soon as he doesn't play well, they look like, who's going to step up? They've got no one that actually steps up for them. De Koning is a one-man band in there, and even he has taken out of the ruck and missed so many shots at goal. I just don't think like they're selfless. I don't think they have a great system, and I don't honestly think that they have the depth to compete with the best of the best this year.
It's pretty damning what Chad's just said there, and I don't think there's anything there that we necessarily would disagree with at hand. They're in a real spot of bother, Carlton, that a side that has promised so much but really hasn't done a whole lot, as we know. When you go from a fortnight of questions around skill level, and when all the eyes are there, 82,000 people against the old traditional rival, and then the question mark after the game was, did they want it enough? Did they put their bodies on the line? They're not the questions you want to be asked for that situation. You don't want that question to be asked ever. But in that situation, when you're zipping 3 and you're coming up against Collingwood in front of 82,000 people, that's not the combination you want. Is it skill level, or is it, are you tough enough? Do you want it enough? Well, that kind of tells you a fair bit. It's easy from our seats to minimise things to, bullet points. But that's what they're saying as well. So there's real concerns there. Melbourne is a curious case. It's such a different case because Melbourne have done it. They climbed the mountain with that group that they have. It does feel like that there's unresolved issues there. They don't have a CEO. Now, often you ask players, do you even notice, whether if there's stability at board level or if there's those leadership positions filled? A lot of players, probably the majority, would say, you don't even really notice. As an older player, and particularly being a captain as an older player, when you have stability in those positions, it does have a flow-on effect. So whether that's the whole reason, of course it's not. But when they've had as much tumult as they have off-field, Clayton Oliver's issues, Christian Petrarca's, that's been well documented. There's been a lot of other things as well. They're playing a brand of football that just makes you ask questions of, is it over for this group? Has Simon Goodwin gotten the most out of this group and they've just gone through too much, and is it now time for them to start thinking about things differently, trying different midfield combinations? I don't know, but they're at a really interesting crossroads at the moment, Melbourne.
So I've been fascinated to ask you about this because Melbourne have spent the summer trying to talk about reconnection and rediscovering the love, and yet the reaction when you lose... it's never going to be great, but the reactions from, I guess, Christian Petrarca, when a kick from Bailey Fritsch fails to hit a target, Max Gorn when he drops what would normally be a stock standard mark for him. I mean, it looks like a club who's trying to fabricate love that has the furthest relic of love at the moment amongst the change rooms, and that can be a brutal observation from the outside, but it also can be a clear reality as to potentially what might be happening internally.
Yeah, and they may still turn it around.
And there doesn't seem to be any fun at Melbourne. Like, everything looks like it's really hard work at the moment.
Which it can be in footy at times. Footy clubs generally more optimistic than the outside world, hence the cliche, there's always next week. It's born out of optimism of like, you know, we could turn it around next week. That's what that cliche is. It's an optimistic spirit. There's just, as each week goes past, there's serious doubts whether Melbourne are actually past it. You know, I think that they would have to be having those thoughts themselves. They've still got time to drag themselves out of it, but big questions.
Is there a reality when you're a senior player when all of a sudden the penny drops that this window might be closing? That the best footy was last year and a few years before that when we were a premiership side in 2021, and now, well, a rebuild is not necessarily what you're looking for at that stage of your career when you're post 30?
Well, again, we do, from these seats, we do minimise things. But the form of Bailey Fritsch to me is a bit like the canary down the mine of prodigious talent. You know, he's played good footy, he's played in winning finals, he played in a winning grand final and ripped the game apart. You know, he's seen the best of what this game has. His form this year has been dreadful. And it does make you ask the question of, is his belly full? Or has he got doubts around, you know, is this the right place? Have I got it in me to stay here and drag ourselves out of it? Or if the club goes through a change, you know, do I want to dig in and be a part of that?
Yeah, the Demons have had problems with their connection
it's
inside 50.
It's unfair to isolate one, but
they're a hard scene to be a forward in, I reckon, at the moment.
Yeah, and I think they've left it a year too late, if I'm being honest, for their rebuild. I think they had a great opportunity in the off-season to...
Are they rebuild? Like,
no, but I'm saying they should have. I think they should have. I think they should have. I mean,
see, I'm not sure. I don't think I would agree with that, but
yeah,
I'm
I'll point this out to you. Max Gawn's 33, Stephen May's 33, Petraka's 29, Clayton Oliver's 27. They've got no forward line. They don't have a tool that can dominate up there. They get entries every week. It's the same issue they've had for the last 3 years. Cozzy Pickett, potentially, what's he thinking? We don't know what's going to happen with him. I just don't know if they have the appeal to get players in. They're drafting well, yes, but they got torn to shreds by Gold Coast. And the best midfielders in the game at the moment are 22 to 24 years old. I think of Butters, I think of Will Day, I think of John Newcomb, I think of Sarong. Like, those guys are the best, and Rosie, like they're under 25. So, and they're quicker, and they're
You're very bullish on this now. Were you? Yep. Is this prior to the season that you were thinking the same thing?
Yeah. But I hear from, as soon as you hear stuff that's going on off field, that's happened in the off season. Like, I don't think you can. There's too many teams that can put that away and play for each other. That's just my opinion. Like, if you've got issues off field with certain players or certain things that are going on, I'm not sure you can turn that off and just expected to play team footy. I don't know if you've had that experience, but it can be a distraction.
It definitely can be a distraction, and we don't know because we're not inside. But if I was Melbourne, I think their direction over the summer of get everyone back, let's thaw it, you know, put it all on the table, gather and bring everyone back and have another crack at it. I can totally throw my weight behind that. The way they're performing at the moment, did they do enough? Did they really air out everything that needed to be aired out? Or is there still stuff being left on the table? Or is it just a form slump? We don't know. There might be just a form slump and who knows, things could turn around really quick.
And we've seen plenty of sides who have been able to add pieces and all of a sudden they regenerised. That isn't even a word.
It's close enough.
Regenerate is what I'm trying to say. And the team's
Swatch isn't even a tactic. Swatch is not even a recognised tactic.
Closer to 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. Finally, just your quick thoughts on the week that's been for Oscar Allen and how the West Coast Eagles have handled this. Speculation that Sam Mitchell went over and with his wife met with Oscar Allen, the captain of the club, and then he fronted the media on Thursday alongside Dom Pike, and it felt like a bit of a hostage video as he tried to say he was sorry and disappointed in the way he acted.
It's bizarre. I think the bizarreness is it's so early in the season. I think that's where it's a bit concerning. I mean, the only thing I can, from my own experience, is that when Geelong approached Travis Boak, and he wasn't captain at the time, but that was early in the season, and it was, well, in South Australia and WA, nothing gets by the faithful. So, I mean, Travis Boak obviously would have met with him and it was publicised, but then he made a decision that he wants to be here and he became the captain, and obviously the story for him has been amazing. He's been a big part of Port Adelaide.
A couple of big differences there, though, is that Travis Boak wasn't captain, and Travis Boak is from Geelong, and the family situation being as unique as it was, Oscar Allen, I mean, I don't want to flog a dead horse because it now is kind of an old story, but I think the situation's different if you're captain.
Oh, yeah, so I was just saying that's the closest I've been to that kind of situation. Yeah. I said he wasn't a captain, which is what I said. And I think, like I said, the bizarreness of it is that it was early in the season and Sammy's obviously flown there. And it's all I'm saying is that you can't, WA and SA, teams when there's only 2 teams in the state, you can't get away with anything. And, yeah, being a captain of the club, as you probably can speak more of, but it is bizarre, and it's just not. You got managers for a reason. Like these conversations can be happened without being face to face. I'm not sure why the face to face meeting was. Maybe it was a tactic by Sammy.
Well, that's an interesting question.
Because your manager does everything. Like why did he need to meet with Sammy? Is Sammy sniffing about because he sees something that's happening? I don't know. That's the question.
Was Sam Mitchell being crafty and was Oscar Allen naive?
That's what it looks.
That's where I'm sort of at the end of the week going. Okay.
Because Sammy's a smart man. Yeah.
Is it a reflection of modern day, climate with trading of players? And Tom Barrass would say, well, life's pretty good over at Hawthorn.
Your manager does enough. He does all the snooping for you.
Yeah, I think Oscar Allen learnt the lesson. The votes for the ABC Football of the Year in Sydney, 65-point win over North Melbourne. Who's got the votes tonight?
I am going to go with... I really love him. Yeah, jeez, you really put me under the... Who's you got number 3? You go 3 and I'll go 2. Or I'll go 3, you go 2. I'm going to go first. I'm going to go Hayward 4. Hayward, how many votes we get? We get 3 people?
3, 2 and 1.
All right, 3 goes to Will Hayward. Who do you got? 2.
Well, that's good because that matches up because I actually did the vote. So, but I did have Hayward with 3, and I'm going 2 for Tom McCartan.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. I'll let you go the 1.
Jeez, that's a good call. I'm going to go with Riley Bice.
Well, look at that.
There you go.
Look at this. That's what I had. 3, 2, 1. Now, just listening to it, folks, I'll be the first to admit that you will be shocked to know that we actually had the same votes. Now, we got there. We took a bit of a journey to get there, but 3 votes. Will Hayward, 2 votes. Tom McCartan, 1 to Riley Bice.
As the umpire do at the end of each game.
It's late.
3, 2 and 1 for the ABC Footballer of the Year.
That was magnificent.
It got there in the
Everything I wanted it to be.
The Sydney Swans, 2 wins and 2 losses. Will they make the top 8 this year? Do you have them as a top 8 side? Yeah.
Yes, I did at the start of the year. I had them finishing just out of top 4.
What about for you, Bob?
Not convinced just yet. No, I'd like to see a bit more.
They have some players to come back. That's the upside for Dean Cox, is that they'll be happy when Logan McDonald played in the VFL. He's playing tomorrow, actually. Harry Mackay played tonight for Carlton, kicked a couple of goals. But
that's a good story, isn't it?
Yeah. Tom Papley out for 6 to 8 weeks with a heel injury. They're still missing Errol Goulden with an ankle injury. Cal Mills, Taylor Adams, who's had a setback with his hamstring. Harry Cunningham with a foot. And Lewis Melican with an abductor as well. So both Callum Mills and Taylor Adams have both had setbacks. So they're still a little while away for returning for the Sydney Swans. But 65-point winners tonight over North Melbourne, 18-9, 117 to the Kangas, 8-4-52. They had more than enough firepower to overcome the Roos. With 10 individual goal kickers, Joel Amati booted 4, Will Hayward booted 4 as well. While for North Melbourne, 2 goals to Nick Larkey, Paul Curtis and to Luke Parker. Thank you, Bob, for coming along. Great to have your company on Saturday night.
Great to be part of the team. Thank you.
Chad, the rising star of the media industry. Thanks to Lauren Borden, to Lex Peshier, to Leo Keefe at the back of the box, and to Andrea back in the studio. Coverage continues tomorrow, AFL Sunday from midday with Cameron Ling. Looking forward to getting his thoughts. And don't forget, it comes to an end, daylight savings, so make sure you adjust your clocks and we have it all covered. Another hour lost for Bob Murphy. Thanks for your company on a Saturday night. The Sydney Swans winners by 65 points. Don't forget, the ABC News website has all the results and action from across the weekend. And wherever you get your podcast from, the ABC has you covered with all the latest in the world of sport. Good night from Docklands.
This could be your big break. The ABC's Fresh Blood series brings you fresh new comedy from the best new talent.
Are you just making these up?
No, with Irvie Went to an All-Girls School on Wednesday, April 9 on ABC TV and ABC iView. ABC Sport Digital Radio, your home of cricket.
Speaking of Premiership players, the 5-time All-Australian, 2-time Best and Fairest winner, Tom Stewart from the Cats has been good enough to join us today. Tom, appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Firstly, off the top, the feel-good story emerging again out of this Geelong group. Just do such a great job at being able to regenerate on the run. Have we got a new rising star favourite on the back of your number 14 last night?
Maybe. Yeah, he's been impressive, young soul. I've seen it behind closed doors and behind the scenes over the last couple of years, but it's good to see some of his efforts coming to fruition on game day. He's a great young man, and he's got a very, 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 very bright future ahead of him.
Your coach said credited the work that he does with you and the fact that he gets the chance to play with you and being able to pick up a few things along the way. How close is your relationship and I guess the work that you've done together?
Oh, yeah, it's not just myself. It's a real collective of boys behind the ball. I think that's the best thing about Sully. He's not afraid to speak up and sort of nitpick who he gets to work with behind the ball. It'd be very vain of me to say it's just myself. But, Zach Guthrie and Jack Henry, Mark Blitzards and the like have all, helped him along the journey. And, he's a great kid to work with. And I think we're just starting to see the real start of a really bright career, as I said.
We like the cut of his jib. There's no doubt about that. Connor O'Sullivan. We've got Tom Stewart with us on ABC Sport, Adam Ramanauskas and Mick Moldhouse.
Tom, talking about behind the ball last night, were you surprised what Melbourne allowed you to do behind the ball last night?
Slightly, yeah, we were. We sort of went in with a plan to change the angles as much as we could, and we thought particularly early they really allowed us to possess the ball, and we were able to exploit that going forward. They've got some amazing players behind the ball, and, with Big Max in the way as well, we were sort of trying to, as I said, change angles and sort of see what they gave us, and they gave us a lot, which you're sort of always going to take that, particularly behind the ball. So that's just what the game presented, and that's why we sort of implemented it going into it.
Tom, take us into your week. Obviously, you missed the game against Brisbane. We're so early in the year still. What's the risk and reward factor for you here where, okay, you're carrying a knee injury, was heavily strapped last night. You want to obviously play, but there's still a lot of season to be played, and you're such an important player. Take us into your week and how you make the decisions, and what's the risk factor for you?
Yeah, I think... I touched on it last night. There's players all throughout the competition that are playing with little niggles, and, I'm going through that right now. The knee's a little bit sore, but if I'm right to put myself out there and compete and help the team, I'm just going to do that. I have no qualms in my brain that I'm going to do everything I can to be out there each week and play alongside my teammates, it's what I'm paid to do. So that's what I'm here to do. And, I'll give myself every chance every week, regardless of, how sore I am. So that's what I'm excited about. I'm not a young man anymore, and, there's a challenge in front of me, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get up every week.
Tom, you are a young man. You're not a young player.
not a young. You're not young in football terms anymore.
Right. Thanks, Tom. Mate, just a couple of names. Bailey Smith. What has he brought to the club? We can see it from where we are, but what do you reckon he's brought to the club?
Oh yeah, I think he's brought a real energy, which is it's unique to Bailey. He comes with a media outpouring and a real substance to him. He's brought some, as I said, off-field, the amazing energy that he brings to the group, but just the way he plays with penetration. Him and Max, working in tandem is really exciting to see through that middle part of the ground. He wants to play forward footy. He wants to drive with his legs, and he's a really, I think he plays that way naturally, but I think he's starting to really fill out in his body. I think he's, 88, 89 kilos now, so he's a real man, and he's starting to play through contest with his legs and with his power, which is, it's really, really exciting to see.
Through your time, you would have seen players come off ACLs. It generally takes 12 months physically and 12 months mentally. He just seems to have forgotten the mental part of it. He just seems to be, wherever the ball is, he just wants to get. You wouldn't know he's come off an ACL. Would be fair comment?
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't experienced an ACL myself, but I think it does sort of take its toll, as you said, mainly physically because of, the parameters that he sort of put in place when you have an ACL, but mentally as well. And I think that's what we've been so joyed and so buoyed at the fact of the way he's come down and the way he's approached his rehab at our footy club has been nothing short of fantastic. I think James Kelly spoke on it over the pre-season, like he's taken a few of the young boys under his wing with the way he's, got in for early touch and doing the little extra things that, is expected of him. But he's so excited by the fact that he's back playing footy. And I think that's the best thing that I've seen is he's just the joy for the game and he wants to be great. He's unapologetic about that, and he wants to do everything he can to be a great player, which, if he's going to drag 5 or 6 young boys along with him, that's fantastic.
Talking about one player who may not be there next week, Jack Henry, is there any news on him, how bad that hamstring is?
No, I'm not sure. It's not great for Jack. Obviously, he's come off, a few foot injuries over the last couple of years, but I'm not exactly sure of the exact severity of it. But obviously, when a player gets subbed out with a hamstring, it's, he's probably going to miss some time. But he plays such a vital role for us behind the ball, and he'll be dearly missed. But we have to pick up the pieces and just hold the fort down until he gets back.
Yeah, well
Tom Stewart with us on ABC Sport. You had to deal with a bit last night, Tom. So obviously lost Jack Henry on the run, but you lost Mark Blitzalps before the bounce. When were you aware that he wouldn't be playing?
When I saw Reece walk in to warm up.
Gotcha.
So when the big fella started getting strapped and started getting prepped, I was like, I don't think Blitz is playing here, but. I was really, really proud of Reece, coming in against, one of the handful of premier ruckmen in the comp. He always seems to find a way to just, halve some battles and get after it, which, he hasn't obviously featured in the team up until this week, but the way he carries himself amongst the group and the way he takes, DK and Joe Pike and a couple of our younger ruckmen under his wing, it's a real testament to the man. He's never turned up his toes. He's never said it's too hard, and he's so generous with his time. And, he's a fantastic teammate and a great friend.
Tom, I'm interested then, because if Reece Stanley doesn't play, Sam de Koning plays in the ruck last night. But Reece Stanley comes in, Sam de Koning plays fullback, and he looks amazing again. He's obviously a premiership teammate of yours as a defender. Where's his best position in your eyes?
I think for myself, speaking personally of DK, he could play anywhere, to be honest with you, Rama. He has some unbelievable attributes. Obviously, his overhead prowess and his defensive positioning is probably his one wood right now, but I think the thing, I went into the midfield with him at the same stage last year, and his ground level work and his contest work is something for a bloke his size you don't actually really see. His ability to follow up on the ground and, drive his legs through a contest is something that you have to be excited about. And I think, the coaches are really investing into him playing around the ball, and he can almost play that sort of fourth mid role. And, his ruck craft is going to take time. He's not a natural ruckman, but the thing that I'm most impressed with is just his willingness to put himself in any position. He could be a gun full forward, in my opinion, to be honest with you. Like, he has the attributes to play over all 3 lines. So I don't think we want to pigeonhole him too early in his career. He is still a young man, and he could play a lot more footy. So I'm excited and buoyed by the fact that he's willing to put himself in different positions too and have a crack.
Geelong are forever a deep runs finals team, and that's the envy of every other team in the competition. You lose that prelim final last year to Brisbane in a stunning game. You have to slightly change your game each year as a football club to continue to compete. Do you feel like you've changed your game personally, but collectively as a team to make sure you can compete deep again?
Yeah, I think that's what our coaching staff and our club do so well is, they understand the list profile that we have and what our strengths are as a group. And, you tinker at the edges with, some small nuance of the game, but at your core, we pride ourselves on our contested footy and our ability to play up in the forward half with the forward half that we've got. That's what our identity is, and that's what we're going to continue to go after. But, as I said, our coaches do such a great job at coaching us to the nuance of the game and really understanding the players and their strengths and celebrating those and going after those. So there's nuance to that, and there's things that you do tinker with, but I think